In a spacious office building in a nameless city, the desperate cries of a young employee are heard, unjustly accused of stealing a large sum of money. Exhausted by constant overtime work, the employee indignantly denies all accusations against him, trying to get to the truth. An excited young man reminds his boss of his recent success at work and the promise he made to promote him. The smug boss, smirking, points to the irrefutable evidence of his subordinate's guilt, his own signature on the documents regarding the transfer of funds. The guy, frozen with horror, recalls how he recklessly signed some papers without even bothering to read their contents. An angry employee throws accusations in the boss's face, calling him a vile manipulator who embezzled other people's money. A high-ranking intriguer warns the young man against making rash statements, reminding him of his already tarnished reputation. The arrogant manager, wrinkling his nose at the smell of cheap food and public transport, orders the worker being held by security to stay away. The enraged manager, having lost control of himself, turns to the disobedient subordinate with a threatening look. A powerful blow sends a young employee flying, and a gloating boss mocks his victim's helplessness. The triumphant tyrant, towering over the defeated employee, boasts of the power of Reiki accessible only to the elite of society. The self-confident boss watches in amazement as his opponent, against all odds, tries to get up. The wounded young man, overcoming the pain, gathers his last strength and warns his offender of impending retribution. An unbroken worker proclaims his intention to become the most influential and richest man in the world. A determined guy filled with righteous anger vows to buy the company and, first of all, fire his offender. An elegant stranger in elegant shoes with floral embellishments appears from the elevator, offering to speed up the fulfillment of a dream. The mysterious girl's impressive squad of bodyguards synchronously leaves the spacious elevator cabin. Disciplined guards line the walls, paying homage to their mistress with a ceremonial bow. A dazzling beauty like the sun illuminates the room with her presence and offers an immediate solution to the problem. The charming Miss Chen Chen Mo appears in all her glory, wearing a luxurious blue dress, an elegant veil, and precious jewelry. The shocked young man stands frozen in a daze, unable to believe his eyes at the sight of his former lover, who has appeared so unexpectedly. The obsequious boss rushes to the young lady, trying to find out the reason for her sudden visit without warning. The imperious beauty, looking contemptuously at the manager, orders him in an icy tone to immediately leave the premises. The confused manager turns to the girl in confusion, trying to find out the reason for such a harsh treatment. An angry Miss Chen Mo explains that the boss dared to insult the honor of her family's future son-in-law. The stunned worker shakes his head in complete bewilderment, unable to comprehend what is happening around him. An elegant girl imperiously places her hand next to her former lover, declaring him her future husband. The charming miss approaches Lin Chu, admitting the mistake of their separation and offering to arrange the wedding according to his wishes. The astonished young man, not hiding his excitement, asks about her feelings, receiving a mysterious look in response.
Gently touching his cheek, the mysterious beauty shakes her head negatively to the question of love.
Leaning closer and looking straight into his eyes, the girl confesses to an inexplicable attraction to her former lover. In a richly decorated room, the Chen family's new son-in-law reflects on the rapid changes in his life. Lost in memories, the guy thinks about the 3-year separation and his bride's mysterious words about attraction. A dazzling bride, dressed in a luxurious snow-white dress, enters the wedding chambers. The embarrassed groom cannot take his eyes off his beloved, noting how she has become even more beautiful in 3 years of separation. The touched young man swears to love only her and promises to take care of his future wife. The mysterious bride, with a secret smile, asks the groom to close his eyes, promising a pleasant surprise. An excited guy, closing his eyes, dreams of his first kiss with his beautiful chosen one. The lovely bride, closing her eyes, slowly approaches her future husband. The sly beauty, interrupting the romantic moment, unexpectedly hands the stunned groom a banknote. The haughty beauty throws money towards the confused groom, ordering him to leave the premises immediately. The confused young man looks at the bills in bewilderment, trying to comprehend the strange behavior of his bride on the eve of the wedding. The angry girl sharply replies that everything that happened was just a performance, offering generous compensation for a month's stay. The perplexed guy, refusing the money, tries to find out the true reason for her sudden appearance in his life. The enraged girl, enveloping her hand in a mysterious power, throws her ex-fiancé aside, forbidding him to pretend innocence. The dazzling miss, her eyes sparkling with rage, confesses to her fierce hatred of unfaithful men. The defeated young man, lying among the wreckage of the chair, is genuinely perplexed by the accusations of treason. A depressed guy wandering home reflects on the oddities of the fake wedding and the mysterious reason for their breakup. Exhausted by events, The young man reluctantly opens the door of his modest apartment. The shocked owner of the apartment freezes at the sight of a stranger with snow-white hair sitting on his sofa. The stunned young man freezes in the doorway, unable to comprehend what is happening. A beautiful stranger with a perfect figure and snow-white curls confesses her love in English. The confused guy, trying to cope with his surprise, asks about the identity of the mysterious guest. The mysterious beauty, gracefully rising from the sofa, declares her role as a lover from a past life. The mysterious guest continues her story, mentioning the return of some debt. The exhausted young man, barely able to stand on his feet, cannot take his eyes off the beautiful stranger. The alarmed owner of the apartment cautiously inquires about the true intentions of the mysterious guest. The puzzled guy turns away and ponders the mental health of the strange visitor. A seductive stranger playfully hints at an upcoming wedding night instead of a failed wedding. The worried young man senses something is wrong, but cannot solve the mysterious situation. A frightened guy makes a desperate attempt to escape from his own apartment. The dexterous beauty instantly blocks the escape route, slamming the door in front of her confused owner. The mysterious stranger mentions the practice of paired cultivation from their shared past, which completely confuses the guy. The confused young man is perplexed by the guest's strange words, trying to comprehend what he heard. The mysterious beauty, wanting to calm her agitated interlocutor, suddenly pulls him in for a kiss. A mysterious blue flame begins to swirl around the kissing couple, lifting them above the ground. The shocked boy watches in confusion as the mystical glow envelops their figures. The confused young man, lost in what is happening, begins to doubt his own sanity and the reality of what is happening. A spiritual entity begins to emerge from the young man's body, observing what is happening from the side. The guy's soul is transported to another dimension filled with unknown energy. The astonished youth soars through the sky among creatures like himself, believing himself to be in paradise. Numerous beams penetrate the guy's body, causing the sensation of an impending energy explosion. The consciousness of a young person is filled with a stream of unique knowledge representing the memory of different people. The exhausted young man falls to the floor after the mysterious kiss ends. The stunned boy feels his mind being filled with the memories of countless people, granting him all-encompassing knowledge. A month later at the funeral, those gathered mournfully bid farewell to Mr. Lin. A saddened Mo Chen approaches her lover's coffin to apologize. A sudden flash of purple energy pierces the sky, striking straight into the coffin of the deceased. The young man's lifeless fingers begin to move, showing signs of returning to life. The resurrected boy rises from the coffin, surrounded by a mysterious glow. Those present at the funeral freeze in horror, expecting the appearance of a living dead person. Mo Chen's domineering father abruptly cuts off the maid's frightened cries, ordering her to be silent. A confident man greets his resurrected son-in-law, confessing his unwavering faith in his return. The resurrected boy ponders in confusion the need to preserve the secret of his 1,000-year journey through other people's memories. The elderly head of the family, concerned about the young man's condition, orders the maid to take the young master to his room. The delighted father of the family talks about the miraculous gift of resurrection, confessing his doubts about the survival of his son-in-law. A sad Mo Chen, watching her father, realizes the selfish motives behind the upcoming marriage. The recently resurrected youth sits at the table, still comprehending the miracle that happened to him. The boy's mind is filled with a kaleidoscope of memories of different people, from writers to thieves. A mysterious orange energy flows from the young man's eyes as he realizes how his perception of the world has changed. The enlightened young man realizes that he is now able to read minds and know the true essence of things. While studying the interior, the guy accurately determines the age and cost of expensive art pieces. The head maid gives orders to serve the young master. A graceful maid with purple hair enters the room, carrying a tray of food. The servant demonstratively avoids the master's gaze. The pink-haired girl dryly offers to restore strength. The hungry young man greedily pounces on the offered food. The haughty maid mentally criticizes the young master's inappropriate manners. The pink-haired maid is seething with indignation, considering the guy unworthy of her mistress. The insightful young man, having read the maid's thoughts, voices her innermost doubts. The shocked maid is horrified to realize her master's ability to read minds. The head of the family appears accompanied by a venerable elder, demanding due service. A submissive maid greets guests while a father introduces his mysterious son-in-law. The irritated maid asks him to moderate his ardor, unaware of the young master's month-long fast. The impudent young man playfully asks the maid to feed him personally. The maid winces painfully at the young master's unpleasant proposal. The submissive servant puts on a polite smile, reluctantly agreeing to her master's demand. The insightful old man, touching the boy's hand, recoils in horror from the sensation of his mysterious aura. The impudent youth addresses the old man defiantly, forcing him to apologize for his tactlessness. The worried old man cautiously questions the head of the family about the groom's strange behavior on his wedding day. The father indifferently mentions the month-long coma as the only deviation. A perceptive young man notices a secret conversation between the elder and the head of the family. The young man, endowed with new abilities, easily reads their conversation by the movement of their lips. The wise elder reveals the secret of the spiritual energy that overwhelms the boy's body, destroying his innate potential. The worried head of the family is interested in the possibility of rectifying the situation and influencing their secret plans. The saddened old man explains the boy's loss of cultivation ability as a result of his destroyed meridians. The enlightened young man realizes the true motives behind his marriage to Chen Mo and her interest in his body. The angry father of the family accuses the boy of ingratitude for the food he ate. The powerful head of the family begins to perform mysterious passes with his hands. The stunned boy finds himself pinned to the wall by an invisible force. The enraged father, grabbing the young man by the shirt, threatens to kill him for deception. A fearless guy with eyes glowing orange grabs the head of the family by the hand. The enlightened young man accuses his father of using his daughter to gain his powers. The shocked head of the family expresses contempt for the boy who has lost his potential. The mysterious young man hints at a connection between the loss of his abilities and the events of his first wedding night. The enraged father refutes the ridiculous excuses, reminding them of his daughter who rejected him. The domineering father calls for security with a clap of his hands, declaring that such scum is unnecessary in their family. The determined young man looks appraisingly at the approaching guards, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Having changed his mind about the conflict, the guy calmly announces his voluntary departure. The gloating maid mentally triumphs, rejoicing at the quick deliverance from her unwanted master. The persistent young man suddenly becomes interested in the whereabouts of his wife, Chen Mo. A cunning guy uses the mysterious power of hypnosis, ordering the maid to bring his wife. The enchanted maid, with a glassy gaze, obediently obeys the young master's order. A perceptive young man approaches the elder, wanting to clarify the true motives of the marriage union. The disdainful father openly calls his son-in-law a useless piece of trash who has lost all value. The indignant guy reproaches the head of the family for his willingness to sacrifice his daughter's happiness for the sake of power. The arrogant father discusses the importance of strength, citing his many years of research and experiments. The arrogant head of the family mocks the boy's helplessness in protecting his property. The imperious father recalls a journey with the elder, during which they discovered the young man's unique aura. The calculating head of the family explains the limitations of solo cultivation for the boy's special gift. The selfish father reveals the amazing effect of dual cultivation leading to the golden core stage. The disappointed head of the family laments his daughter's stupidity, which ruined his plans for instant empowerment. A puzzled young man ponders the mysterious concept of dual cultivation. The confused guy feels like he's missing something important in the current situation. A cruel father orders the guards to take out his useless son-in-law, promising to forget about his existence. The indignant young man appeals to his daughter's feelings, reminding her of his status as her legal husband. The enraged head of the family rudely interrupts the guy, declaring that it would be easy to find a new match for his daughter. The unfortunate young man, who is being roughly dragged towards the exit by muscular guards, desperately begs to be allowed to ask one last question, clinging to the last hope of clarifying the situation. The angry young man, mustering all his courage, throws an accusation straight into the face of the head of the family, suspecting him of deliberately slandering his own daughter. The outraged father, not hiding his contempt, tells of numerous testimonies of his son-in-law's infidelity, allegedly having fun with other women in an expensive hotel. The young man, deeply shocked, categorically denies all accusations, painfully trying to understand who could have organized such a treacherous setup. A desperate guy, looking for a way out of a hopeless situation, decides to call on the power of a legendary boxer named Wang Dedong. A young man driven mad by despair calls upon the memory of the greatest fighter of our time, whose name made any opponent in the ring tremble with fear. The exhausted boy bitterly realizes that even the powerful memories of great fighters are useless due to the extreme weakness of his exhausted body. The magnificent Chen Mo suddenly appears, accompanied by a hypnotized maid, commanding in a commanding voice to stop this humiliating act. The exhausted young man cannot contain his excitement at the sight of his beautiful wife. His eyes begin to shine with an unearthly light from the overwhelming emotions. Freed from the iron grip of the guards, the boy looks hopefully at his beloved, expressing confidence in her unwavering support. The beautiful Chen Mo gives her husband a cold, contemptuous look, harshly demanding that he leave her alone once and for all. The inconsolable young man cannot hold back his bitter tears upon hearing such cruel words from the woman he continues to sincerely love. The triumphant head of the family, with undisguised pleasure, orders the guards to immediately throw the worthless son-in-law out of the estate. The disciplined guards, bowing to their master, simultaneously express their readiness to immediately carry out his merciless order. Unexpectedly, the beautiful Chen Mo stands up for her humiliated husband, reminding everyone present of his legal status as her husband. The angry father of the family irritably dismisses his daughter's words, assuring her that it will be easy to find a more worthy match for the heiress. The wayward beauty reminds her father of the long search for a suitable partner for the complex ritual of paired cultivation. The powerful Chen Mo, shrouded in a pulsating blue aura, cynically compares her husband to a pet that requires training. The haughty heiress of the family continues the humiliating comparisons, discussing the similarity of male nature with canine devotion. The imperious beauty condescendingly touches her husband's face, philosophically discussing the superiority of animal honesty over human honesty. The shocked father of the family is speechless from his daughter's unexpected words. His pupils dilate with amazement and fear. Subdued by the will of the heiress, the head of the family reluctantly allows his wayward daughter to act at her own discretion. The majestic Chen Mo leads her bewildered husband into her luxurious chambers, sparkling with impeccable cleanliness and exquisite beauty. The powerful heiress condescendingly allows the guy to stay, recognizing his cunning plan with the hypnosis of the maid as worthy of respect. The haughty beauty suddenly changes her benevolent expression to an angry grimace, accusing her confused husband of incredible cunning and treachery. The frightened young man, bowing deeply, tries to justify himself to his angry wife, assuring her of his desire to clear up the misunderstanding. The powerful Chen Mo rose from her seat and was enveloped in a shimmering aura, causing her husband to question the reasons for the activation of spiritual power. Pressed against the cold wall, the guy anxiously awaits the next steps of his mysterious and unpredictable wife. The angry beauty, her eyes flashing, accuses her husband of pretense, confident in his true cunning nature. The agitated young man asks to keep his distance, but his domineering wife demonstratively presses her hand to the wall next to his head. The demanding Chen Mo, looming over her frightened husband, insistently demands to know about the events of their wedding night. The mysterious beauty gently touches her husband's face, trying to find out the true reason for the changes that have occurred in him. The family's powerful heiress threateningly offers an alternative to silence, forcing the boy to bow his head in submission. The frightened young man, sensing a hidden threat in his wife's words, hastily agrees to tell the whole truth about what happened. The confused boy realizes the futility of memories in the current situation, realizing that only real strength matters. An agitated young man tells of a mysterious blonde stranger who claims to be his lover from a past life and fills his body with strange energy. An enraged Chen Mo sarcastically comments on the appearance of her white-haired rival, not hiding her contempt. The desperate guy, pressing his hand to his heart, swears his ignorance regarding the identity and intentions of the mysterious stranger. The indignant young man is perplexed by the constant accusations of infidelity, not understanding the reasons for such mistrust. The agitated beauty, lowering her voice to a whisper, mentions the events of 3 years ago. An angry Chen Mo recounts the scene she witnessed at the hotel, where her husband was entertaining himself in the company of 4 women of easy virtue. The caustic beauty inquires about her husband's achievements over the years, sarcastically mentioning his study of foreign languages. The offended young man categorically denies the accusations of infidelity, insisting that he never set foot in the hotel in question. The adamant Chen Mo accuses her husband of lying, insisting on the veracity of what he saw with his own eyes. A diligent maid appears in the room carrying a tray of colorful linen for the new owners. The imperious beauty announces to her stunned husband his new responsibilities in managing the household. The haughty beauty confronts the guy with a tough choice: either accept humiliating duties or leave the estate immediately. The wily maid mentally gloats, anticipating the opportunity to complicate the life of her hated new master. The cornered young man is forced to agree to the conditions, hiding his true feelings. A smart guy finds solace in the thought of the rich experience of other people's memories, which can help in household chores. An exhausted young man finds himself in a laundry room and struggles to cope with the endless stream of dirty laundry. A huge truck backing up brings a new mountain of various clothes that need washing. Merciless workers unload countless items without bothering to pack them neatly. A sarcastic maid maliciously informs a guy who is piled high with clothes about an extra batch of linen. An inexperienced young man tries to master the culinary arts, clumsily wielding a heavy axe in the kitchen. A picky maid finds flaws even in perfectly sliced meat, criticizing the size of the pieces. The submissive guy, noticing the displeasure in the maid's eyes, humbly accepts another remark. The hard-working young man continues to work, mentally promising to show his true abilities to the haughty servant. An exhausted guy, barely moving with another stack of laundry, is perplexed by the endless amount of dirty clothes. A curious young man overhears a conversation about the colossal losses of a family casino in Las Vegas. An angry father reproaches his daughter for the poor choice of manager, which led to serious losses. A devoted maid comes to her mistress's defense, suspecting a deliberate attempt to tarnish her reputation. The submissive daughter, bowing her head before her father, takes responsibility for the mistake upon herself. The determined Chen Mo vows to find and punish those who dared to harm their family business. A skeptical father, puffing on a cigar, doubts his daughter's ability to solve the financial problem. An attentive guy, hiding behind the door, greedily catches every word of the family conversation. The focused young man activates the memories of a document forgery expert. An inspired guy throws down a pile of laundry, realizing the opportunity to make money on counterfeit bills. A shrewd young man, realizing his physical limitations, decides to use the Chen family's influence to achieve ambitious goals. A focused young man, launching an anonymous browser, contemplates the limitless possibilities that will open up after mastering the knowledge of all the absorbed souls. A determined young man dives into the dark depths of the dark web in search of the necessary tools. An inspired young man discovers a lucrative offer for printing presses, for producing banknotes. An enthusiastic guy raises his hands in triumph, rejoicing at his successful online find. The determined young man mentally plans the next stage of the operation to obtain the ordered equipment. A prudent guy, looking in the mirror, decides to create an alternative identity to maintain anonymity. A resourceful young man activates the memories of a legendary makeup artist in preparation for a radical transformation of his appearance. The mysterious warehouse is illuminated with an orange glow when the boy activates his supernatural abilities. The transformed young man, thanks to the skill of the makeup artist from the memories, now looks like a true aristocrat. The elegant Lin Chu, arriving to pick up the equipment, politely asks the bald merchant about the location of the printing presses. A satisfied guy, inspecting the equipment, notes its excellent technical condition. The distrustful merchant reminds the guy of the 5 million agreement, demanding immediate payment. The mysterious Lin Chu shows a single $100 bill, admitting to the absence of more money. An enraged bald man grabs the guy, outraged by his audacity to show up without the promised money. The confident young man calmly explains the special value of the presented banknote, emphasizing his own authorship. An astonished merchant marvels at the incredible quality of the counterfeit banknote created by the mystery buyer. The insightful guy critically evaluates the low quality of the merchant's fakes, pointing out their obvious flaws. The resigned bald man acknowledges the young man's rightness and asks for his suggestion for improving the situation. Lin Chu philosophically discusses the equivalence of counterfeit and genuine banknotes, even if the quality of the workmanship is perfect. The confident young man asks for just 2 hours to demonstrate his abilities, intriguing the skeptical merchant. Master Wei, having activated his mysterious orange energy, begins working at the printing press, preparing to demonstrate his skills. The incredible concentration of the material causes the air in the room to vibrate slightly as the young master's hands create one banknote after another. Master Wei's every move is measured down to the millimeter, carefully selecting paper and paints, knowing that the slightest mistake could reveal a fake. Time stretches into infinity, and the bald merchant, tired by the monotonous sound of his working machine, falls asleep reading a book. When Master Wei finishes his work, he proudly invites the dozing merchant to inspect the result of his labor. The merchant's eyes widen at the sight of 5,000 perfect bills laid out in neat stacks on his desk. Not believing his eyes, he asks Master Wei in amazement about the impossible speed of completing such a complex job. The trader's professional skepticism takes over, and he assumes that such speed must have affected the quality. However, every bill he picks up makes his heart beat faster from the awareness of their perfection. Utterly shocked, the merchant falls to the floor, unable to believe that such perfect fakes exist. With reverent awe in his voice, he addresses the mysterious master, wanting to know the name of the man with such incredible abilities. The young man, standing up straight, introduces himself as Master Wei, and the name is forever imprinted in the memory of the astonished merchant. At the same time, in another part of the city, the powerful Wu Di, sitting in a chair with a cigar, learns from his assistant about the appearance of a new player on their territory.
Ooh,
Wu Di, looking at the samples brought to him, cannot distinguish them from real banknotes, which causes him a mixture of admiration and alarm. His loyal assistant Wu Ming, nervously shifting from foot to foot, reminds the boss of the mysterious Yin Chao, whose name is associated with similar events in the past. Through the clouds of smoke, the mighty Wu Di shakes his head thoughtfully, remembering how they destroyed Yin Chao's business, forcing him to sell the factory. A restless Wu Ming shifts from foot to foot as he reports on a secret deal between the cunning Yin Chao and the enigmatic Master Wei. In the semi-darkness of the luxurious office, a barely audible whisper flies about how it was the talented Wei who created the perfect fakes. Irritated by the delay, the crime boss orders the immediate hiring of a skilled craftsman, not skimping on the reward. The assistant, pale with emotion, admits to a failed attempt at negotiations, which draws a close look from his boss. A wry smile plays on Wu Ming's lips as he recalls the mysterious craftsman's arrogant refusal. Words about the difficulties of eternal life fly from Master Wei's lips easily and naturally, leaving a ghost of a hope for cooperation. In an abandoned room, a bound Wei sits before the menacing Wu Di, whose figure casts an ominous shadow. The sharp mind of a talented master instantly reconstructs the route of the abduction, counting 6 turns from the starting point. On the outskirts of the city, surrounded by guards, a ruthless boss demands that the captive reveal his real name. Wei's quick, discerning gaze scans the room, unmistakably identifying it as an old repair shop. Impatience creeps into Wu Di's voice as the mysterious master continues his silent analysis. The glitter of the printing presses catches the eye of the cunning Wei, and a slight smile appears on his face when asked about his name. The skilled master's nimble fingers are released from the ropes as he introduces himself as Wei Chenmo. The crime boss's greedy gaze glides over the perfect fakes as he ponders the motives of the talented counterfeiter. Freed from his bonds, Master Wei rises gracefully from his chair, preparing to repeat his terms. In the cool air of the workshop, the firm voice of the defiant Wei about equal cooperation resounds. Anger contorts the cruel Wu Di's features as he grabs the impudent master by the collar of his shirt. The crime boss's menacing roar echoes throughout the room, promising the mysterious craftsman a quick and unknown death. A slight smile plays across Master Wei's lips as he hints to his cruel boss about the immeasurable possibilities of their potential partnership. A contemptuous grin distorts Wu Di's face, not believing the bold captive's loud promises. A mysterious orange energy begins to pulsate around the cunning Wei, who activates the memory of the great orator. The rebellious master's ambitious words about a world without counterfeit banknotes leave those present holding their breath. Wei's daring dream of total domination by his fakes resonates in the tense silence of the abandoned workshop. The astute master points out the obvious advantages of combining his technologies with the resources of a criminal syndicate. Freed from the grip of the enraged Wu Di, the resourceful Wei begins to reveal the scale of the future production. There is a staggering figure in the air, 100 million counterfeit yuan every day. A greedy gleam appears in the crime boss's eyes at the thought of such enormous production volumes. Confident in his abilities, Master Wei puts forward bold conditions, a controlling stake, and a substantial deposit. An indignant Wu Ming cannot contain his indignation at the mysterious craftsman's impudence. The cunning Wu Di offers a compromise in an attempt to gain access to the secrets of the production process. An enigmatic smile plays on the lips of the insightful master as he considers the proposal. A fake handshake seals the deal between the wily Wei and the cocky crime syndicate boss. A malicious threat escapes Wu Di's lips, confident in his superiority over the young master. A cunning plan for revenge is brewing in the mind of the cunning Wei as he leaves the lair of the criminal syndicate. In the luxurious chambers, the astonished Mo Chen cannot believe that the stolen millions have been collected so quickly. The powerful heiress of the Chen family demands that assistance be found to urgently solve a financial problem. The unexpected appearance of uninvited guests interrupts the conversation in the young lady's room. The guy's former boss, radiating obsequiousness, offers his help to the beautiful Mo Chen. A contemptuous refusal flies from the lips of the haughty beauty, reminding him of the recent dismissal of the uninvited guest. The former boss, feigning goodwill, rushes to justify himself to Mo Chen, calling the incident a misunderstanding. Flattering words flow like a river when the uninvited guest admits that working at the Shen Group was just an excuse to be near the beautiful lady. Boasting about his own family's wealth, the persistent admirer offers to immediately make up for the casino's losses. The self-confident guest, approaching Mo Chen, whispers hints at the desirability of her divorce from her unworthy husband. The former boss's insolence reaches its peak when he places his hand on the lady's shoulder and reminds her of the mysterious incident at the hotel. The guy hiding in the room is mentally indignant, listening to the slander directed at him and trying to understand the source of the information about the hotel. The beautiful Mo Chen, losing her patience, twists the finger of her presumptuous suitor with an elegant movement. The resourceful guy, taking advantage of the moment, rewards the uninvited guest with a well-aimed blow from the mop. Contemptuous words accompany the expulsion of the former boss, whose arrogance instantly evaporates. Shock distorts the features of the self-confident guest who did not expect such a rebuff. A mocking Lin Chu shouts after his former boss about money falling from the sky. The humiliated boss snaps back with a final threat, predicting swift retribution for his former subordinate. An elegant suitcase turns into a projectile, quickly meeting the face of an unlucky suitor. The sudden appearance of a messenger with a suitcase of money from the mysterious Mr. Wei interrupts the awkward scene. The bald printing press merchant solemnly announces the delivery of 10 million for the beautiful lady. The astonished Mo Chen does not hide her surprise as she tries to understand the personality of the generous Mr. Wei. The heavyset messenger conveys the words of the mysterious gentleman about his intention to win the trust of the beautiful lady. The mysterious invitation to meet at the hotel sounds intriguing coming from the lips of a loyal messenger. The rejected admirer painfully ponders the choice of meeting place, suspecting it was not a coincidence. A sudden revelation comes to the former boss when he realizes the possible connection between the mistress's husband and the mysterious benefactor. In a luxury hotel where every step echoes in the marble corridors, the elegant Mo Chen appears with the precision of a Swiss watch. Behind the building's luxurious facade, a former boss lurks, his driver nervously fiddling with the steering wheel, awaiting instructions. The thirst for revenge and jealousy boils in the chest of the rejected admirer as he waits for the moment to see his mysterious rival. Mo Chen's graceful heels tap out a slow rhythm on the plush carpet as she approaches her fateful number. The crystal door handle cools the palm of the beautiful lady, while thoughts about the upcoming meeting swarm in her head. Horror grips Mo Chen's heart as her gaze falls on the depraved scene involving her husband and unknown girls. Rage flares in the eyes of the insulted beauty, her hair trembling with overwhelming emotions. Reality gradually fades into reality as Mo Chen realizes the illusory nature of the nightmare he saw. The mysterious Master Wei, sitting in a chair, tries to calm the worried lady. Anger clouds the mind of the beautiful Mo Chen when she sees the vicious scene again and rushes to rip off the masks of strangers. The stranger's terrified cry cuts through the tense atmosphere of the room as he tries to prove his innocence. An explanation of a clever transformation technique from South Korea unfolds on the TV screen. The truth about the vile deception from 3 years ago comes from Master Wei's lips, revealing a cunning plan to destroy the relationship. A bitter sense of injustice fills Mo Chen's heart when she realizes her husband's innocence. The beauty's penetrating gaze turns to the screen, trying to unravel the true motives of the mysterious benefactor. The cunning Master Wei, realizing the need to maintain incognito, decides to act improvisedly. The noble lie about saving a life and a debt of gratitude sounds especially convincing coming from the lips of the mysterious master. A shocked Mo Chen is eager to discover the identity of the treacherous deceiver who destroyed her happiness 3 years ago. The sudden appearance of the former boss upsets the fragile balance of the moment of truth. The revelation of the true culprit of the drama comes as a bolt from the blue when Master Wei points to the intruder. In the chaos of the crowded room, the confused intruder tries to make sense of what is happening and the strange accusations. The former leader's angry cries fill the air as he claims the beautiful Mo Chen, refusing to bribe her. Master Wei's mocking voice reminds the overconfident suitor of the sacred bonds of marriage. The damning words reveal the former boss's true role in destroying a happy relationship. The unexpected appearance of a girl from the bed, recognizing a former client, brings confusion to the carefully constructed lie. A blush of shame floods the face of the exposed intriguer who tries in vain to deny his acquaintance. The persistent young woman clinging to the former manager reminds him of his visit 3 years ago. A satisfied smile plays on the lips of Lin Chu, whose plan to hack the hotel archives worked flawlessly. The furious gaze of the beautiful lady follows the panicked flight of the exposed deceiver. The noble Mo Chen approaches a mysterious benefactor wishing to return a substantial sum of money. Master Wei's wise words about caring for one's husband sound the final chord of this drama. The TV screen goes dark, leaving behind a deep impression of the encounter with the mysterious master. In the cozy twilight of his home, Lin Chu prepares for his next transformation into the mysterious Mr. Wei. An unexpected encounter with his wife interrupts the guy's journey to a modest bedroom in a warehouse. A changed Mo Chen looks at her husband with tenderness, realizing the futility of their previous enmity. An embarrassed blush adorns the cheeks of the beautiful lady when she invites her husband to share her chambers. In the sunlit garden, Lin Chu, while going about his daily chores, notices a pink-haired maid secretly talking on the phone. Curiosity gets the better of the protagonist, and he activates the memory of a lip-reading expert to find out the content of the conversation. Through the maid's quiet sobs, words about microloans and warnings break through, making the hero wary. There is desperation in the girl's voice when she promises to find a large sum of money for her brother who has fallen into debt. An unexpected discovery forces Lin Chu to take a new look at the haughty maid hiding a family drama. In a secret workshop, the mysterious Mr. Wei analyzes the concentration of substances, comparing various formulas of counterfeits. The bald assistant respectfully enters the mysterious master's office, awaiting new instructions. An unexpected request to transfer a large sum of money takes the assistant by surprise. The surprised bald interlocutor notes the nobility of the mysterious master's actions. The cunning Wei cuts off unnecessary conversations, moving on to discussing the next operation. In a luxurious office, the powerful Wu Di watches with admiration the success of his mysterious partner. The incredible volume of counterfeit banknotes produced leaves the crime boss speechless. The crime syndicate leader's flattering words mask his true intentions. A calm Master Wei sipping a drink reminds him of his share in the profitable enterprise. A sinister smile plays on Wu Di's lips at the mention of mutual benefit. The insightful Wei exposes the primitive poisoning attempt, mocking the banality of the method. A feigned look of surprise appears on the face of the crime boss, trying to deny the obvious. Master Wei's harsh words tear the mask of integrity from the true face of the crime syndicate. The dramatic gesture with the broken glass underlines the seriousness of the mysterious master's intentions. The tense guards show their readiness for action as they watch the events unfold. To everyone's amazement, the cool-headed Master Wei calmly returns to his chair, as if awaiting the inevitable. The self-confident Wu Di, without hiding the threat in his voice, hints at the possibility of eliminating the inconvenient partner. A mysterious smile plays on Master Wei's lips, as he asks those present about their plans for the unfinished dinner. With feigned calm, the mysterious master takes a chicken leg, musing on the senseless waste of food. Rage clouds the crime boss's judgment as he overturns the table, amazed at his victim's composure. A provocative question escapes Master Wei's lips, mocking his opponent's overconfidence. A triumphant Wu Di gleefully reports the hopelessness of the situation, confident in his superiority. Unperturbed, Wei continues to sit calmly, hinting that the entire situation had been calculated in advance. Philosophical discourses on the superiority of knowledge over brute force come from the lips of a mysterious master. A strange blue smoke begins to fill the room, causing confusion among the crime boss. Panic grips the guards as they realize the presence of carbon dioxide in the air. A triumphant Master Wei, protected by a mask, proclaims knowledge as the most powerful weapon. A flashback reveals the preparation of a devious plan, as Wei hands over the gas activation device to a bald assistant. The master's cunning plan involved introducing gas through the building's ventilation system. A pre-planned plan allows Wei to control the situation at any moment. The masked voice of the mysterious master announces victory in today's battle. A defeated Wu Di, out of breath, mentions a powerful boss who controls criminal Tokyo. Contemptuously stepping on the face of his defeated enemy, Master Wei cuts off the senseless threats. A defeated Wu Di, looking at mountains of counterfeit banknotes, tries to understand the true motives of the mysterious master and his plans for millions. Master Wei's calm voice, removing his protective mask, reveals his disdain for the easy money of the criminal underworld. In the semi-darkness of the room, the bright flash of a lighter in the hands of a mysterious master foreshadows an unexpected turn of events.
Flames begin to devour the counterfeit bills as a calm Wei discusses the uselessness of dirty money.
The desperate cry of the crime syndicate leader echoes throughout the room at the sight of the burning millions.
The ominous figure of Master Wei, surrounded by the flames of burning banknotes, delivers a stern warning to his defeated enemy. An elegant limousine pulls up outside the Chen family's mansion, causing the bald driver to look surprised. A curious pink-haired maid, eavesdropping on the conversation, suddenly interrupts the two men's conversation. The persistent maid grabs Lin Chu's arm, demanding an explanation for his late return. The confused guy doesn't have time to come up with an excuse when the girl suddenly changes the subject. The maid's confused look reveals her interest in the mysterious Master Wei, supposedly a close friend of Lin Chu. An insistent request for a meeting with a mysterious master sounds in the night silence of the mansion. The unexpected appearance of a bald driver with a forgotten mask destroys the carefully constructed conspiracy. A deafening silence hangs in the air after the careless revelation of Lin Chu's dual identity. The maid's cry of surprise cuts through the silence of the night as she realizes the truth about the mysterious master's identity. Confusion is reflected on the girl's face as she tries to understand the reasons behind Lin Chu's hidden game. A resourceful guy, turning to a clumsy assistant, tries to gloss over the awkward situation by denying the obvious. The perceptive maid recalls her mistress's words about the mysterious master's distinctive mask, pointing to the clue in the hands of the bald assistant. The outraged girl threatens to expose Lin Chu's alleged attempts to win the mistress under the guise of a mysterious benefactor. There's desperation in the boy's voice as he tries to stop the inevitable exposure. Lin Chu's unexpected confession of his true identity hangs in the night air. Amazement grips those present, including the faithful bald assistant, who did not expect such a turn of events. The maid's incredulous laughter expresses her skepticism towards the statement of a simple servant. The cunning Lin Chu mentions helping with her brother's debts, instantly changing the tone of the conversation. A note of caution appears in the maid's voice, surprised by the guy's knowledge of her family problems. A puzzled Lin Chu tries to soften the maid's hostility by reminding her of the cleared-up situation with his wife. The guy's decisive gesture draws the stubborn maid along with him to unexpected proof. The trunk of the limo contains the bound crime bosses involved in the Chen family casino scam. A stunned maid listens to the story of the return of the stolen millions to the beautiful mistress. Mistrust still sounds in the voice of the stubborn maid, who intends to report everything to her mistress. The cunning Lin Chu, deciding to take radical action, approaches the rebellious girl. Threatening words about protecting one's secret identity sound over the silent maid. A quiet order to loyal Yin Chao to prepare his phone for compromising photos. The obedient assistant quickly takes out his mobile phone, preparing to carry out the order. Fear grips the maid as Lin Chu's figure looms over her in the dim light. An unexpected kiss takes the confused girl by surprise without having time to pull away. The insidious blackmail with the threat to show the photographs to the mistress makes the maid turn pale. The impudent Lin Chu counters the maid's indignation by hinting at her own attempts at seduction. Lonely Chen Mo stares thoughtfully at the empty half of her marital bed, thinking about her husband's nocturnal escapades. The morning sun finds Lin Chu fast asleep, unaware of the upcoming conversation. The irritated lady stares at her peacefully sleeping husband, wondering about the reasons for his absence. With an impatient movement of his foot, Chen Mo wakes up his husband, demanding an explanation for his absence overnight. Exhausted by yesterday's adventures, Lin Chu tries to get away with a vague explanation about a difficult day. In the tense atmosphere of the bedroom, the imperious voice of the mistress is heard calling for her personal maid. The pink-haired maid enters the room respectfully, hiding her shock from yesterday behind her perfect manners. Suspicious Chen Mo questions the maid about her husband's nocturnal activities, hinting at new responsibilities for him. The sudden softening in the lady's voice surprises Lin Chu when she relieves him of his previous duties. A caring Chen Mo hands her credit card to her husband, explaining that his father's birthday is approaching. Lin Chu's proud refusal of his wife's financial help sounds unexpectedly firm in the morning silence. The agitated maid, avoiding direct eye contact, quickly asks permission to leave. Lin Chu's hasty escape under the pretext of domestic chores raises new suspicions. Chen Mo's sad gaze follows her husband's retreating figure, not understanding the reasons for his detachment. A determined Lin Chu catches up with the maid in her room, ready for a serious conversation. The guy's gratitude for saving the situation brings bitter tears to the upset maid. The maid's heart breaks when she hears the mistress's first deception in the years of growing up together. A worried Lin Chu tries to calm the sobbing girl as he prepares for an important conversation. Holding the maid tightly by the shoulders, Lin Chu explains the necessity of deception in order to keep an important secret. There is sincerity in the guy's voice when he talks about his desire to improve his reputation in the family, rejecting selfish motives. A dreamy hope fills Lin Chu's words about the moment when he can reveal the whole truth to his beloved Chen Mo. The confidential conversation ends with a request for support and keeping the secret of his second personality. A bright blush fills the maid's cheeks, and her eyes begin to shine from the realization of the guy's noble intentions. The maid's words, realizing the true motives behind Lin Chu's actions, sounded like sincere remorse. The businesslike tone returns to the conversation when the guy changes the topic to the upcoming birthday of the head of the family. A knowledgeable maid talks about her master's hobbies, calligraphy, painting, and recent interest in investing. The maid places special emphasis on the head of the family's infatuation with the popular actress Cheng Jing. The familiar features in the photo on the maid's phone make Lin Chu's heart beat faster. Memories of the director's past life wash over the guy in a wave when he recognizes the actress as his former lover. Tender moments from the past come to mind, compliments on her beauty and admiration for every angle. Touching memories of humble meals and sincere love permeate Lin Chu's mind. Vows of fidelity and tender confessions echo in the boy's memory. Lin Chu is amazed as he realizes the incredible success of his past life lover. The sudden decision to visit the actress makes the guy grab the maid's hand. The determined Master Wei takes the surprised maid along on a new adventure. A luxurious mansion appears before the couple as the mysterious master prepares for the meeting. The maid's confusion about the famous actress's visit to the house is expressed in a cautious question. Mysterious words about cultivation fly from Master Wei's lips, hinting at his companion's hidden abilities. Deep knowledge of the stages of cultivation is revealed in the guy's words, demonstrating his awareness in this area. Interest flickers in Master Wei's eyes as he inquires about the cultivation levels of the maid and his wife, Chen Mo. The faithful servant speaks with gratitude about the generosity of the mistress, who shares cultivation pills and knowledge. The confident movements of Lin Chu's fingers over the intercom buttons reveal his strange familiarity. Surprise slipped into the maid's voice, noticing the guy's inexplicable knowledge of the secret code. A mysterious smile plays on Master Wei's lips as he hints at his past in this house. The love story of Zhang Zhe and a beautiful actress filled with sincere feelings comes to mind. A fateful decision to accept investment from an influential person changed the life of a talented director. The bitter truth about forcing his lover to have sex with an investor broke Zhang Zhe's heart. The tragic moment of falling from a roof after trying to protect their loved one changed their destinies forever. The irony of fate turned his suicide into a springboard to fame for his former lover. The luxurious mansion greets uninvited guests with the majestic splendor of its interior. Surprise is reflected on the face of the famous actress who discovered strange visitors. The beautiful Cheng Jing, barely covered by a towel after a shower, demands an explanation for the sudden intrusion. Master Wei's determined voice asks for a moment of attention from the stunned mistress. A dramatic declaration of one's true identity hangs in the air of the luxurious chambers. Indignation distorts the beautiful features of the actress, who rejects the impossible recognition. The maid's lightning-fast reaction saves Master Wei from a powerful spiritual attack from a high-level cultivator. The maid's blue spiritual energy creates a protective barrier in front of Master Wei, protecting him from the actress's wrath. The cunning Master Wei reveals intimate details of Cheng Jing's life, known only to a close person. Mistrust still resonates in the voice of the beautiful actress as she continues to attack the intruder with spiritual power. Intimate details about Cheng Jing's sensitive areas make her question her suspiciousness. A shudder runs through the actress's body as she begins to believe in the impossible return of her lover. Master Wei talks about the rebirth of the soul in a new body and the long-awaited meeting. Tears of happiness flow down Cheng Jing's cheeks as she embraces the man who holds the soul of her dead lover. The bitterness of loss is evident in the actress's questions about the reasons for his alleged suicide. The shocking truth about the murder leaves the beautiful Cheng Jing frozen in shock. The thirst for revenge resonates in the words of Master Wei, who has returned to restore justice. On the way home, a curious maid extracts the truth about the memories living in the head of an unusual gentleman. Amazement is reflected on the maid's face when she learns about 10,000 foreign memories in Master Wei's mind. Ambitious plans to ruin the city's richest families are revealed to an attentive maid. The strategic plan begins with the Jing family, one of the city's 4 great dynasties. The cunning scheme requires maintaining a dual identity, a worthless son-in-law and the influential Master Wei. The devoted maid is interested in her role in her master's grand plan. Noble intentions to improve the lady's situation are heard in Master Wei's explanations. The cunning maid puts forward her own condition for cooperation. The maid's strict demand for constant supervision of the master's nocturnal adventures is interrupted by his hasty consent. At the Jing family headquarters, red-haired Suwan receives congratulations on the unification of the Yakuza, while the conversation turns to the mysterious Master Wei. The former boss bursts into the solemn atmosphere of an important meeting, begging the father for money for a gift for his future father-in-law. The irritated head of the Jing family scolds his son for his inappropriate behavior and obsession with a married woman. The young man in love tries to justify his feelings, but the cynical father sees only a superficial infatuation with beauty. With exaggerated joy, the son thanks for the money, causing his father another bout of disappointment. The respectful apology of the head of the Jing family to the red-haired guest is accompanied by a denial of involvement in the destruction of counterfeiters. The tense conversation is interrupted by polite words of gratitude for their time. The newly paid son suddenly becomes excited when he mentions the famous Master Wei. With a swift movement, the red-haired warrior draws her katana. Purple energy envelops the body of the mysterious Suwan, demanding an immediate meeting with the master. Admiration tinges the young Jing's voice as he notes the girl's high level of cultivation. Having hidden the weapon, Suwan listens with interest to the information about the master's close friend. The name of Lin Chu, the son-in-law of the Chen family, resounds in the luxurious hall like a key to the mysterious master Wei. In the privacy of his room, Lin Chu meditates, trying to understand the nature of the orange energy raging within him. A devoted maid reminds the head of the family of the upcoming birthday. There is a bitterness in the words of the guy, who is aware of the family's biased attitude towards any gifts he gives.
The persistent maid reminds him of his mistress's care during his coma.
Touching memories emerge in the maid's mind, the gentle hands of the mistress caring for her sick husband. A sincere desire to help the lady met with an unexpected refusal on that memorable day. A sense of responsibility was evident in Chen Mo's words. Despite her harsh assessment of her husband, Lin Chu's soothing words about the ready gift eased the maid's worries. A lavish celebration brings together the cream of society at the residence of the city's richest man. The precious gifts are astounding. Jade items, majestic scepters, and huge diamonds. A mysterious guest attracts everyone's attention by promising to show them a rare treasure, the legendary elixir of immortality. In solemn silence, the guest unfurls a statue of Tai Sui, who is said to have controlled earthly events in ancient China. A radiance of delight lights up the face of the head of the family at the sight of the ancient artifact. Lin Chu's unexpected laughter cuts through the atmosphere of awe as he calls the gift trash. The offended donor flies up to his impudent son-in-law, demanding an explanation for his inappropriate merriment. Lin Chu's caustic words expose the fake, calling the figurine a simple silicone product. The enraged guest turns to Chen Mo with a demand to calm down his unbearable husband. Lin Chu makes a bold challenge, claiming to be able to create a similar statuette himself. The guy takes the cake knife with a confident hand, ready to demonstrate his skills. Condescending praise for the skills of the forger craftsman resounds in the words of the insightful Lin Chu. With deft movements, the boy removes the top layer of the figurine, revealing its true nature. Triumph is evident in Lin Chu's voice as he reveals to everyone the deception of the fake relic. The humiliation of the recipient is reflected on the guest's face, accompanied by the laughter of those gathered. The father's commanding voice interrupts the fun, turning the conversation to the Jing family's pressing problem. The head of the family talks about his attempts to break into the film industry, where Cheng Jing shines. An ambitious order to attract a famous actress is heard in the festive hall. A tempting offer to lead a new line of business excites the minds of those present. A silent awareness of the importance of the proposed position permeates the guests. Skeptical whispers about the difficulty of breaking the actress's contract spread throughout the hall. A self-confident Lin Chu takes his wife's hand, declaring that the task will be easy to complete. The guests' incredulous glances accompany the despised son-in-law's bold statement about his connections to a celebrity. An alarmed Chen Mo demands an explanation from her husband, who reassures her with confident words. The enraged donor of the counterfeit offers a daring bet with a humiliating condition for the loser. A sly grin plays on Lin Chu's lips as he elaborates on the consequences of his possible victory. With confident movements, the guy takes his wife's phone, preparing to do the impossible. The opponent's triumphant look accompanies the indication of an obvious trap. A victorious smile lights up the face of the offender, showing a live broadcast with the famous actress. On the tablet screen, Cheng Jing suddenly freezes in the middle of a sales pitch. The actress's surprised voice on the phone makes those present hold their breath. A calm Lin Chu hands the phone to his wife, steering the conversation in the right direction. A confused Chen Mo introduces herself to the actress, voicing an unexpected business proposal. The astonishment reflected on Cheng Jing's face is broadcast to the entire world. A brief hesitation gives way to a firm agreement from the famous actress. A triumphant Lin Chu reminds his opponent of his promise, observing his confusion. A recent conversation with an actress comes to mind, revealing a carefully prepared plan. Lin Chu's triumphant laughter is accompanied by a reminder to fulfill the humiliating promise. A shudder of indignation shakes the body of the loser, who cannot believe his defeat at the hands of his despised son-in-law. The powerful magic of the head of the family forces the obstinate guest to kneel. The father's ceremonial announcement of his eldest daughter's appointment as head of the new department is heard in the festive hall. Chen Mo's amazement gives way to the satisfied smile of her insightful husband, who has achieved another victory. A mysterious stranger, hiding in the garden, carefully watches Lin Chu, analyzing his every move. Bewilderment is reflected on the face of the observer, trying to solve the riddle of the unusual gardener. The girl is overcome with anxiety at the thought of thousands of souls living in the mind of a strange guy. A cold-blooded calculation flashes through the thoughts of the stranger as she plans to launch a preemptive strike. The unexpected appearance behind her makes the girl flinch from the warning words. Horror grips the observer's body when the ghostly beauty touches her shoulder. The stranger's trembling voice betrays her fear of the mysterious spirit. The blonde beauty who gave Lin Chu her power appears in all her glory. Purple magic fills the air around the powerful spiritual entity. The powerful words of Lin Chu's thousand-year love and exclusive right to life echo throughout the garden. The determined girl draws her katana, demanding an explanation for the many souls she has been given. A mysterious blonde reveals the secret of awakening ancient memories through auras.
The warrior is overcome with amazement at the mention of the most ancient summoning techniques.
The girl's wide-open eyes reveal her shock at the unexpected discovery. The playful gesture of the blonde beauty squeezing the stranger's cheeks takes her by surprise. A lightning-fast leap backwards betrays the combat training of the frightened observer. Absorbed in his work, Lin Chu ponders the mysteries of the thousands of memories filling his mind. Chen Mo's gentle voice interrupts her husband's thoughts, calling his name. Sincere admiration is heard in the words of the girl, recalling yesterday's triumph at the festival. Lin Chu's modest reply attributes all the credit to the mysterious Master Wei. Chen Mo's gentle fingers clasp her husband's hand in the garden filled with the scent of flowers as she gathers the courage to ask the question that has long haunted her. The young lady's piercing gaze pierces Lin Chu's face, trying to unravel the mysterious connection between her husband and the enigmatic Master Wei, whose name so often appears in their lives. Confused, Lin Chu carefully looks away, making up a story about an older friend whose only wish is to help improve their family relationship, which is plagued by misunderstandings. Bewilderment distorts Chen Mo's beautiful features as she tries to comprehend her husband's strange words about the master's desire to change her mind, which sounded so mysterious and vague. A clever evasion of a direct answer forces the boy to turn away to the flowering bushes, shifting the burden of explanation onto the shoulders of the enigmatic master, whose image becomes increasingly mysterious. The sudden offer of being appointed deputy head of the new film industry division makes Lin Chu's heart beat faster, although he remains outwardly unperturbed. The beautiful Chen Mo's sincere faith in her husband's extraordinary abilities is met with his stubborn resistance, raising even more questions about his strange behavior. A touching concern for the reputation of his beloved wife in the family masks the true ambitions of Lin Chu, whose plans extend far beyond the modest position of deputy. Chen Mo's unexpected embrace caught the thoughtful young man off guard, whose thoughts at that moment were far from romantic, immersed in plans for future accomplishments. Sincere remorse rings in the voice of the beautiful lady, recalling 3 long years of unfair accusations and cold treatment of her devoted husband. Behind the mask of a caring husband lie ambitious plans to seize power over the entire family, the scale of which even the most perceptive members of the clan could not have imagined. A furious battle at the far end of the garden between a pink-haired warrior and a powerful spirit reaches its climax, demonstrating an incredible level of fighting skill. A heavy breath escapes the exhausted girl's chest as she finally acknowledges the absolute superiority of the blonde beauty, whose strength exceeds all her expectations. A powerful blonde-haired spirit offers to remove the spell from his fallen rival, demanding in exchange that she stop the assassination attempts on Lin Chu, whose fate is now inextricably linked to an ancient power. The proud warrior, hiding her true intentions, mentally rejects the idea of murder, but agrees to the conditions, not wanting to admit final defeat in this mystical duel. Surprised, Lin Chu and Mo Cheng watch in bewilderment as the pink-haired stranger's strange behavior appears to be chaotic and possessed. The mysterious duel of spiritual forces remains visible only to the pink-haired warrior, while others notice only her strange movements in the void. The stranger's sudden leap ends in a tight embrace from a stunned Lin Chu as she joyfully announces a meeting with her older brother. Before the confused boy can react, the mysterious girl introduces herself as his younger sister from faraway Japan, causing even more confusion. The stranger's whispers reveal her knowledge of Master Wei's secret identity, turning a friendly embrace into sophisticated blackmail. A heavy sigh escapes Lin Chu's lips, realizing the hopelessness of the situation and the need to play along with his unexpected sister. There's a false joy in the boy's voice as he greets his self-proclaimed sister, trying not to show his confusion. The cunning manipulator takes her brother away from prying eyes, citing a long separation and the need for a personal conversation. The mysterious stranger, sitting elegantly on the velvet sofa, looks at Lin Chu with a triumphant smile of a winner, enjoying his confusion and bewilderment. An epiphany dawns on Lin Chu when he recognizes the beautiful Ryoko as the shadowy leader of the powerful brothers, whose influence extends far beyond the visible world. The girl's unexpected confession about meeting a blonde spirit and changing plans sounds in a luxurious room filled with the heavy aroma of expensive incense. Lin Chu is overcome with a sense of unease at the mention of the mysterious blonde beauty, whose appearance always foreshadows fateful changes in his life. Ryoko's mocking voice is accompanied by a burst of blue energy as she teases the boy about his romantic feelings for the mysterious stranger. A powerful spiritual force slams Lin Chu's body into the wall, demonstrating the true nature of her newfound sisterly love. The challenge to the wielder of 10,000 souls echoes throughout the room, heralding the inevitable clash of two unusual forces. Contemptuous words about the uselessness of other people's memories without spiritual energy fly from the beautiful lips of a warrior confident in her superiority. The defeated Lin Chu, slowly raising his head with a bloody lip, demonstrates an unbending will and readiness to continue the confrontation. A lightning-fast activation of the talented chemist's memory allows the boy to create a mysterious ball, the purpose of which remains a mystery to his opponent. The purple mist generated by the broken ball envelops the room in a thick curtain, obscuring the movements of the cunning Lin Chu. The silent movements of the boy who appeared behind Ryoko betray years of training stored in the memory of 1 in 10,000 souls. Irritation distorts the beautiful features of the warrior, unaccustomed to such a bold resistance to her superiority in martial arts. The steely grip of her slender fingers on Lin Chu's throat demonstrates the true strength of the beautiful yet deadly Ryoko. The powerful words about a new family relationship sound like a death sentence as the girl continues to squeeze her victim's throat. Feverish thoughts about how to survive rush through the boy's head, clinging to the promise not to kill him. Disappointment lingers in Ryoko's voice as she releases her prey with the theatrical sigh of a bored predator. A sudden epiphany strikes Lin Chu when the memory of the legendary Poison King opens up new possibilities for confrontation. There is a feigned concern in the voice of the guy who offers to peel a fruit for his new sister with true brotherly love. A poisoned tangerine, peeled by the skilled hands of a poison expert, is transformed into a deadly weapon disguised as a sign of reconciliation. A benevolent smile plays on Ryoko's lips as she takes the tangerine, recognizing at least a small fraction of the merits in her new brother, unaware of the hidden threat. A malicious anticipation is reflected in Lin Chu's eyes as he watches his opponent's every move, mentally urging her to try the poisoned fruit. The warrior's mocking voice dashes the boy's hopes as she easily uncovers his insidious poison plot, demonstrating her insight. Rapid thoughts race through Lin Chu's mind as he activates the memory of a cyber athlete whose lightning-fast reflexes could prove a decisive advantage in this fight. Arrogant contempt permeates every word as Ryoko continues to toy with the Mandarin, enjoying her opponent's obvious disappointment. Lin Chu's sudden move catches the girl off guard as he forcefully forces the fruit into her mouth, turning the game into a brutal confrontation. Rage contorts Ryoko's beautiful face as Lin Chu reveals the true nature of the Poison King's special pill with a devilish grin. There's a note of triumph in the boy's voice as he explains the effect of the poison, which is capable of blocking the use of the spiritual power of his formidable opponent. Lin Chu's mocking challenge rings through the air as Ryoko's body begins to feel the paralyzing effects of the insidious poison. The last of her strength is spent on a desperate push as the proud warrior tries to keep her distance from the persistently approaching enemy. A crimson glow envelops Ryoko's hands, demonstrating her incredible ability to resist the effects of poison through the manifestation of new energy. A deadly dagger of pure energy appears in the girl's hands as she threatens to drag Lin Chu to Tokyo to extract the antidote. There's a calm confidence in the guy's words, realizing that the paralyzing effect of the poison will make her threats empty words. Stubborn determination cuts through the anger in Ryoko's voice as she orders the boy to leave despite her obvious defeat. An unexpected deal proposal from Lin Chu hangs in the air, opening a new chapter in their confrontation. Lin Chu's commanding gesture as he placed his hand on Ryoko's shoulder made the girl flinch nervously as she suspiciously inquired about the terms of the unexpected deal. The poisoned warrior freezes when she hears the offer to become a personal bodyguard in exchange for an antidote, not believing in such a simple solution to the problem. Ryoko pulls away from the touch, dismissively dismissing the possibility of being subdued by some poison, though a shadow of doubt flickers in her eyes. Alluring promises of power and wealth fly from Lin Chu's lips as he paints a picture of future might for his potential bodyguard. Disbelief wars with interest on Ryoko's face as she tries to deny the possibility of such a grandiose rise to power. An impressive display of endless information surrounds Lin Chu, proving the power of 10,000 absorbed souls. Horror and admiration mingle in the girl's gaze as she realizes the incredible amount of knowledge stored in the mind of her unusual opponent. A calm confidence resonates in the words of the boy, who admits his inability to cultivate, but is proud of the power of countless memories. Ambitious plans to seize power over the four great families are revealed to the astonished Ryoko, whose resistance begins to melt away. Seriousness replaces the usual smirk on the girl's face when she agrees to the deal, putting forward the condition of immediately receiving the antidote. The clever trick involving the partial antidote demonstrates Lin Chu's foresight in ensuring the loyalty of his new bodyguard. Ryoko's distrustful gaze studies the suspicious pill, but the hopelessness of the situation leaves the exhausted warrior no choice. A decisive movement sends the pill into the girl's mouth, finally sealing the unusual pact between the former adversaries. A devious joke about an aphrodisiac puts Ryoko on edge, preparing for another betrayal from a cunning manipulator. A frivolous confession in a prank causes a wave of irritation in the girl, who begins to realize the character of her new master. A green-haired schemer in a luxurious office quietly conferred with a subordinate, checking the readiness of a cunning plan. A smug clerk reports on the meticulous preparations to undermine Chenmo's power in the film industry, anticipating her imminent humiliation. An ominous green glow envelops the figure of the conspirator, celebrating the approach of his absolute triumph. A brutal blow to Cheng Jing's beautiful face becomes the first warning sign of an impending storm in the film industry. An enraged man towers over the fallen actress, his face contorted with rage as he reminds her of the millions invested in her career, turning a simple girl into a star of the first magnitude. The beautiful Cheng Jing, bending over in a humiliating position, justifies herself with a trembling voice by the order of the mysterious Master Wei, whose name makes her tremble with fear of revenge. Sinking heavily into a leather chair, the gray-haired producer curses, realizing the inevitability of the impending conflict with the elusive enemy. As he dials a number with fingers trembling with rage, the powerful boss spews out terrible threats against his subordinates, promising cruel reprisals for failure to comply with orders. A deafening cry of a 1 billion yuan bounty on the head of a mysterious master echoes throughout the luxurious office, bouncing off the marble walls. A wicked smile plays on the bloodied lips of the defeated actress when she hears the price on the head of her lover from a past life.
The majestic Cheng Jing strides down the corridor, drawing admiring glances, her beauty eclipsing even the luxurious decoration of the building.
Curious employees whisper, wondering about the reasons for the celebrity's visit, unaware of the true purpose of her appearance within these walls. The actress's graceful movements are mesmerizing as she slowly opens the door to the room where her mysterious savior awaits. The mysterious Master Wei, lounging on the sofa, looks questioningly at the beautiful guest, trying to unravel the reason for this meeting. The unexpected embrace of the beautiful Cheng Jing takes the guy by surprise when she calls him by the name of her lover from the past. Lin Chu's confused protests about his incomplete identity with Zhang Zhe are dashed by the passionate onslaught of the enamored actress. Mysterious words about equal retribution fly from Cheng Jing's seductive lips as she approaches the confused guy. Anxiety grows in Lin Chu's voice as the beautiful actress leads him to a luxurious bed with clear intentions. Cheng Jing's gentle fingers unbutton the boy's shirt as she explains her desire to protect him from assassins. A nervous laugh escaped Lin Chu's chest as he realized the extent of the madness of the man who had placed such a huge bounty on his head. Words of inevitable hatred float through the luxurious room as the actress skillfully weaves threads of future betrayal into her speech, hiding a cruel calculation behind a mask of devotion. A gentle touch on her swollen cheek radiates warmth, causing Cheng Jing to shudder at the unexpected caress as her mind calculates the next move in the deadly game. Anxiety for someone else's life rings a false note in the beauty's honeyed voice, as if setting invisible traps in the path of her future victim. Words about a possible murder spread like sweet poison, penetrating the guy's consciousness, along with the aroma of expensive perfume and the barely perceptible scent of betrayal. Time seems to freeze in the crystal silence of the room when the brutal truth about the choice between murder and death shatters the illusion of safety. Promises of help echo between the luxurious walls as the actress smoothly approaches her target, hypnotizing her intended victim with every movement. Soft steps on the Persian carpet bring her closer to the guy, and her velvety voice promises to make the enemy vulnerable, turning every word into a deadly weapon. The seductive determination in the dark eyes resonates within Lin Chu's soul, until shadows of past betrayals begin to loom through the fog of enchantment. Understanding strikes like lightning, tearing apart the delicate web of lies and revealing the true nature of what is happening, a repetition of the old pattern of betrayal. The mask of innocence slips from the actress's beautiful face as the words of accusation shatter her carefully constructed image, revealing the true nature of her insidious plan. Words about the soul of a dead lover echo throughout the room like a death sentence as Lin Chu reveals her ability to see through the veil of past years and other people's memories. The bitter truth about class prejudice and secret meetings with Jing Ming cuts the air with sharp shards of betrayal, revealing the true nature of the beautiful actress. The web of intrigue becomes increasingly apparent as Lin Chu uncovers a cruel decision to get rid of an inconvenient lover whose poverty has become an obstacle to his ambitions. The actress's ruthlessness is on full display when the boy describes how she not only hid the truth, but also turned tragedy into a stepping stone to fame. A predatory grin appears behind the mask of charm when her plan to use the male confrontation for her own gain becomes clear.
In the blink of an eye, the pathetic mask flies off the actress's face, giving way to a blue glow of spiritual power and the contemptuous smirk of an experienced manipulator.
Cold calculation resonates in the beauty's words as she reveals her knowledge of the boy's weakness and her willingness to sell his life for $1,000,000,000. Lin Chu's quiet confidence contrasts with the actress's fury as he calmly accepts the challenge with an ace up his sleeve. The air rings with tension as the beautiful assassin charges, screaming curses and thirsting for her victim's blood. The sudden crash of a wardrobe being thrown open breaks the tense atmosphere, introducing a new player in this deadly spectacle. Pink strands of spiritual energy entangle the stunned actress as she becomes aware of the presence of an invisible observer. Ryoko's graceful figure emerges from the shadows, her deadly blade glimmering in the dim light of the room, ready to protect her new master. Awe creeps into the actress's voice as she recognizes a rare stage of spiritual development in the technique of the mysterious protector. Irony and warmth mingle in Lin Chu's words as he teases his unexpected savior with feigned brotherly love. Sincerity breaks through Ryoko's usual cold mask when she confesses her desire to protect the only path to her salvation. The truth hidden behind 1,000 masks finally emerges in Lin Chu's words as he bends over the fallen actress, revealing his awareness of her two-faced nature. The triumph of a winner rings in the voice of a young man who offers the actress to become the messenger of the revelation of the identity of the mysterious Master Wei. Curiosity breaks through the pain and humiliation in the eyes of the defeated beauty, eager to know the true identity of the mysterious master. An intimate gesture turns into a show of power as Lin Chu's fingers touch the actress's chin, preparing to reveal a shocking truth. The tension builds with every second of dramatic pause as the boy prepares to utter a name that could turn the entire criminal underworld upside down. Like the final touch to the perfect picture of revenge, the name of Shen Che, the green-haired deceiver with the fake statue, sounds out. Chen Mo's majestic figure in a snow-white cloak attracts the admiring glances of her subordinates, who whisper about the eldest daughter of a powerful family. Waves of surprise roll through the corridors as employees discuss the young lady's sudden rise to the position of film industry boss. An air of power follows Chen Mo like an invisible train as she enters the office to the respectful greeting of a subordinate. A false smile stretches the lips of the servant, whose words about the long-awaited meeting ooze hidden poison. The imperious gesture of removing her glasses accompanies Chen Mo's demanding question about the reports, demonstrating her readiness to lead. A sham of zeal shines through in the words of Shen Che's former subordinate, who extols the family's authority to the skies. A hidden threat slips through in the message from the young master, hinting at the imminent return of lost power. A cold calm envelopes Chen Mo as she dismisses the obsequious envoy, preparing to examine the suspicious documents. Alarming signs emerge from the lines of the report, like the first drops of an approaching storm in the world of the film industry. The bitter realization that the reports were false settled in Chen Mo's mind like ashes, revealing the true attitude of her subordinates towards her authority. The unpleasant truth about Shen Che's continued influence is interrupted by the sudden ringing of a telephone, cutting through the oppressive silence of the office. Graceful fingers bring the phone to his ear, while Chen Mo's voice carries the familiar authority that hides the inner tension. The familiar voice of her husband, disguised as the mysterious Master Wei, fills the space with new meaning and hidden possibilities. The accuracy of the mysterious interlocutor's observations about the fake reports makes Chen Mo's heart beat faster. Amazement breaks into the girl's voice when she realizes the extent of her mysterious benefactor's knowledge of her affairs. The grim truth about the destruction of original documents sounds like a death sentence for the old system of governance. Lin Chu's inner jubilation fills him as he recalls the information he had stolen in advance during the festive bustle. Confident fingers fly across the keyboard as he offers Chen Mo the key to absolute power over the department. Curiosity and suspicion are mixed in the girl's voice as she tries to unravel the motives of the mysterious assistant. A mysterious laugh accompanies Master Wei's parting words, leaving behind a trail of mystery. A desperate cry into the silent receiver reverberates off the walls of the empty office, reinforcing the feeling of an unfinished conversation. Poisonous words about the presumptuous upstart fly from the lips of a traitor, unaware of the imminent reckoning. The unexpected appearance of the lady freezes the blood in the veins of the arrogant Director Roach. Condescending arrogance shines through in the answer of a busy man who does not realize that his time is already up. The numbers fall like sharp daggers as Chen Mo methodically uncovers the 5 million yuan financial scam, turning each date into a new wound on the director's reputation. Horror spreads across the exposed swindler's face, causing his words to stumble and falter as the lady's merciless voice continues to reveal the tourist expenses behind which the stolen millions are hidden. The last attempt to maintain dignity collapses under the weight of evidence from the August transfers, turning the once proud director into a pitiful shadow begging for mercy. Knees meet the cold floor in a dance of humiliation as the former ruler turns into a sinner begging for forgiveness before the young mistress. The sounds of self-flagellation echo off the walls of the office as the repentant traitor brands himself with slaps, turning his face into a scarlet canvas of shame. An icy sentence escapes Chen Mo's lips, transforming the punishment into a new form of service, secretly observing the family's true enemy. The girl's commanding tone transforms every word into steel shackles, binding the former director to a new role as a silent spy. The family's eldest son's self-confidence oozes through the phone line like honeyed poison as he weaves his web around the unsuspecting actress. The brief agreement to meet in Longhao sounds the first stroke of the funeral bell, marking the last hours of Shen Che's freedom. Silken threads of intrigue are woven into a graceful pattern as the actress reports her appointment to her true master, Master Jing. Impatience scratches the throat of the gentleman, eager to know the location of the upcoming hunt for the green-haired predator. The mask of love turns the actress's face into a beautiful trap when she names the location of the upcoming performance. The crystal glass shimmers in the actress's graceful fingers like a poisoned blade awaiting the moment for a fatal blow. The green-haired heir's condescending smile blossoms into a poisonous flower, unaware of the deadly nectar of the impending betrayal. Words about family ties jingle like counterfeit coins, while the smug Shen Che revels in the illusion of power, oblivious to the noose tightening around him. Poisonous words about the brother-sister relationship fall from the actress's lips like the first drops of a deadly rain as she plays with the green-haired heir's vanity. Lust clouds Shen Che's mind, turning his thoughts into a primitive song of desire, where beauty becomes the only measure of value. A wicked smile plays on the actress's lips as she holds out the cloak like a web woven from the vanity and passion of her victim. Self-confidence intoxicates the inexperienced predator, who does not understand that his role-playing game will soon turn into the tragedy of his own downfall. The sweet poison of the promise of erotic pleasures slowly poisons Shen Che's mind as the actress weaves the final threads of the trap. Brute force grips the delicate wrist, revealing the true nature of the beast hidden beneath the mask of a noble heir. Animal desire breaks through the thin layer of upbringing when Shen Che demands immediate satisfaction of his base passions. A graceful refusal turns into the final nail in the coffin of the arrogant fool who did not notice the approach of the hunters. A quiet hotel corridor turns into an ambush, where every shadow hides pursuers thirsty for revenge. Tension thickens in the air as father and son Jing, like predators about to pounce, wait for confirmation of their prey's presence. Cold satisfaction rings in the actress's voice as she hands over the right of reprisal to the real executioners. The tragic irony of the moment reaches its climax when Shen Che dons his enemy's cloak, unaware that he is trying on his own shroud. The last seconds of ignorance are shattered when, instead of the expected lover, fate brings executioners. The ominous transformation of the glasses into a mask becomes the first sign of a nightmare breaking through the pink haze of delusions. Horror paralyzes Shen Che's body and voice as the reality of what is happening bursts into his consciousness like an ice storm. A merciless blow to the back marks the beginning of retribution, turning the overconfident heir into a helpless victim. The Jing family head's rage, which had been building up for years, finally finds vent in a brutal greeting to his defeated enemy. The strong hands of the assistants turn into iron shackles, nailing the victim to the bed of her own arrogance. A desperate cry for status and power is broken against the deaf walls of a room that has become a torture chamber for the fallen heir. The ominous tenderness of the touch on the head becomes a prelude to the cruel punishment promised by the head of the Jing family to his sworn enemy. The bitter realization of betrayal corrodes Shen Che's mind like acid when he recognizes his tormentor as the legendary Jing Ming, whose name vibrates in the air like a death knell. Horror permeates the prisoner's consciousness as his own voice, distorted by the mask, becomes someone else's, as if fate itself were depriving him of the last shreds of identity. Behind the thin barrier of walls, like a puppeteer behind a curtain, Lin Chu pulls invisible strings, his voice through the mask becoming a poisonous dagger, provoking the executioners to new atrocities. Despair turns to reckless courage when a twisted voice challenges an entire clan, promising to paint their lives in the colors of nightmare. Rage clouds the mind of the head of the family. His words about the upcoming orgy of violence turn the luxurious room into a torture chamber. Blue flames of spiritual energy wrap around the guards' fists like snakes, ready to sink their poisonous fangs into a defenseless victim. Shenche's body turns into a living lightning rod for the others' hatred as dozens of hands, shrouded in blue light, rain down a barrage of blows on him. The calm of the next room contrasts with the storm of violence beyond the wall, the maid pouring tea as if in a theater before the start of a performance. A cold satisfaction permeates Lin Chu's words as he watches the bloody spectacle of the hyenas devouring their former leader. Jing Ming's merciless gaze watches the beating, absorbing every cry of pain like the sweet nectar of revenge. Pleas for mercy rent the air, turning the once proud heir into a broken creature begging for mercy. The head of the family's imperious gesture stops the punishing hands, like a conductor interrupting a bloody symphony of violence. The mocking politeness drips with venom as Jing Ming offers conversation to the victim prostrate on the floor. A silent scream freezes behind the mask, turning Shen Che into a helpless puppet in someone else's game. Lin Chu's words from the next room were like a match thrown into a gunpowder keg, provoking a new wave of rage. The face of the head of the family is distorted with rage, turning into the mask of a demon, ready to fulfill the most terrible desires of his victim. A desperate plea for life pulses through Shen Che's mind as his body prepares for another wave of agony. A sudden explosion of the door and a flash of scarlet light tears through the fabric of reality, turning the torture room into a new battlefield. The heat of rage evaporates from the face of the head of the family, replaced by cold fear when an uninvited savior bursts into the bloody spectacle of his revenge. A scarlet glow envelops the figure of a bald, scarred warrior, whose appearance freezes the blood in the veins of an experienced schemer. The threat of war between clans rings in the air like a sharply honed blade when the red-haired protector speaks the name of the Chen family, turning executioners into potential victims. Pathetic excuses spill from the lips of the head of the family, trying to hide behind the image of the mysterious Master Wei. A desperate attempt to save face turns the cloak into the drowning schemer's last straw as his world crumbles around him. The scarred warrior's fiery gaze pierces the prostrate figure on the floor, reading the truth through the mask of deception. Red energy explodes like dawn, breaking the mask and revealing the true face of the victim of this bloody farce. The defender's nobility contrasts with the executioner's cruelty as he raises the beaten heir like a fallen angel from the abyss. The horror of realizing his mistake spreads across the face of the head of the family like an ink stain, tarnishing his reputation with indelible shame. The bitterness of deception poisons the air when it becomes clear that the beautiful actress has turned their thirst for revenge into a tool of someone else's manipulation. The savior's penetrating gaze catches a tiny detail that could turn this entire bloody spectacle upside down. The telltale microphone glistens beneath the fabric like a snake's sting, revealing the presence of the true puppeteer. Words of retribution and the search for the true Master Wei transform the room into the starting point of a new hunt, where the hunted become the hunters. Flames of spiritual power burst through the red-haired warrior's skin, shrouding his body in a crimson glow like the armor of an ancient god of war. Terror grips the soul of the head of the Jin family when he realizes the true nature of his opponent, the legendary Sima Cha, one of the four great guardians of the Chen clan, whose spiritual power transcends the barriers of ordinary cultivation. Awe filled the air as the description of the red-haired warrior's incredible talent revealed his ability to spread spiritual power like a death fog for 3 kilometers around. A cold sense of danger pierces Lin Chu's consciousness, the presence of such a powerful enemy turning their hideout into a death trap, counting down the final seconds until exposure. Panic breaks into the boy's voice as he realizes the monstrous difference in strength between them and the approaching hunter. A steely determination to protect the master's secret is intertwined with desperate fear for the fate of the mistress in the thoughts of the faithful maid. Desperation pushes Lin Chu to the dangerous memories of the great illusionist, like the last straw for a drowning man. The maid's unexpected touch electrifies the air as she takes control of the situation into her fragile hands. The softness of the bed contrasts with the harshness of the moment when the maid pushes the confused gentleman onto the bed. Every movement the maid makes as she takes off her clothes becomes an act of desperate self-sacrifice, causing shock and confusion in Lin Chu. Devotion to the mistress transforms the gentle face of the servant into a mask of determination, ready to make any sacrifice for the sake of a higher goal. Embarrassment stains Lin Chu's cheeks red as his mind tries to comprehend the unexpected turn of events. The hunter's red aura spreads through the hotel's corridors like a bloody mist searching for its prey. Cynical thoughts of past sins flash through Sima Cha's mind as his spiritual vision penetrates through closed doors. The maid's desperate hope to turn their hideout into a den of vice becomes the last chance for salvation. Admiration for the maid's dedication is mixed with guilt in Lin Chu's heart. Realizing the cost of her devotion, recognition strikes the spirit hunter's mind like lightning as he identifies the couple as Chen Mo's husband and her personal maid. A desperate courage blossoms in the maid's breast like a poisonous flower as she promises to give herself entirely to this dangerous spectacle of salvation. Time freezes like a crystal drop when her fingers bury themselves in her master's hair and their lips meet in a kiss, turning lies into burning truth. A mocking curiosity colors the voice of the observing spirit, whose disappointment at the lack of true prey is mixed with anticipation of future intrigues. A new weapon of blackmail falls into his arsenal like a poisoned blade, ready at any moment to pierce the reputation of an unsuspecting son-in-law. The tense atmosphere thickens like thunderclouds as Shen Che and the red-haired warrior call Lin Chu in for questioning. The poison of suspicion seeps through the green-haired heir's words as he demands a report on yesterday. A calm lie about housework flies from Lin Chu's lips, reinforced by an unspoken alliance with a faithful maid. Rage contorts Shen Che's features as he hurls accusations, backed up by Sima Cha's casual testimony. Lin Chu's bold confession about Master Wei's identity falls into the silence of the room like a bomb exploding. Shock paralyzes Shen Che's mind, turning his face into a frozen mask of disbelief. Hysterical laughter breaks through the dam of tension as the absurdity of the situation finally hits him. The treacherous crunch of his spine reminds him of physical wounds, while mental anguish continues to tear him apart from within. A poisonous hint about a relationship with a maid becomes a new weapon in this psychological war. Memories unfold in the air like poisonous flowers as the red-haired warrior stages a compromising kissing scene that threatens to destroy the family's fragile balance. Despair tears at Lin Chu's heart as the thought of being exposed to his mistress turns his inner world into shards of a broken mirror. The rough grip on the shirt becomes a symbol of a new slavery, as the green-haired manipulator turns the fear of exposure into chains of control. The threat of public disgrace rings in the air like a poisoned dagger raised above the most intimate. Uninvited tears glimmer treacherously in the eyes of the cornered boy, whose silent consent becomes the first step into the abyss of betrayal. A contemptuous expulsion sounds the final chord of humiliation, while Shen Che revels in his imaginary victory over his defeated rival. Business talk about billion-dollar compensation turns human pain into cold numbers while schemers weave their deadly web. The Jing family's insidious plan for revenge unfolds like a poisonous flower, fueled by the bitterness of past grievances and a thirst for retribution. The triumph of a predator shines through in the words of Shen Che, imagining his prey, Chen Mo, surrounded by enemies like a wolf chasing a fawn. Anxiety distorts the maid's gentle features as she tries to understand the depth of the enemy's penetration into their secrets. Relief creeps into her voice as she learns of her adversary's blindness to see the truth even when it is presented to her on a silver platter. The slightest touch of hands becomes an electric discharge, awakening forbidden feelings from which the maid recoils as if from a flame. An attempt to bury a moment of intimacy under the cold words of oblivion is shattered by the trembling tenderness of memories. Lin Chu's internal struggle between admiration for the maid's charming embarrassment and loyalty to her mistress is resolved by a noble promise that can protect the dignity of both women. Lin Chu shook his head furiously, driving away the unwanted thoughts like annoying flies. Right now, his mind must be clear and focused on the upcoming trials. The bitter wisdom of recent events crystallizes in his mind. Without spiritual strength, it is better to remain in the shadows, like a mouse escaping the claws of predatory cultivator cats. Sympathy and a hint of disappointment mingle in the maid's voice as she speaks of wasted potential, as if mourning unlived opportunities. A spark of inspiration lights up in the boy's eyes as he shares his plan to bring Master Wei to life in literature, transforming reality into art. An ambitious idea unfolds like a multicolored peacock's tail, a journey through dynasties where modern knowledge becomes the key to changing destinies. The maid's gentle criticism touches on the hackneyed plot, like gentle fingers pointing to a crack in a precious vase. Lin Chu's confidence in historical accuracy sounds like a battle cry proclaiming his unique advantage. Enthusiasm bubbles in his words about advanced knowledge, like a river ready to burst its banks and flood the world with new ideas. The young man's ambitions reach the heights of the academic Olympus, where the gray mass gives way to the intellectual elite. The grandiose plan of uniting all sciences unfolds in his speech like a cosmic map, where each star is a separate field of knowledge. The maid's insight reveals the scientific essence of the project, hidden under the cover of the novella, like a pearl in a shell. The passion for wealth and power breaks through the scientific facade, revealing Lin Chu's true ambitions, which include dreams of a business empire. The maid's gentle mockery of his obvious desires meets the creative throes of choosing a title, A magnificent vision of the future blossoms in his imagination as the proud name of the path to conquering the whole world escapes his lips. Confidence and imminent publication rings in his voice like a taut string, ready to sound a new melody of success. A deep understanding of one's own potential unfolds like a lotus flower, petal by petal, revealing the potential for the fusion of different souls. The awareness of the growing power of memory fills him like an ascending stream of energy, promising limitless possibilities. Strategic thinking manifests itself in the idea of combining knowledge like an alchemist mixing different elements to create the philosopher's stone. Tactical genius is demonstrated in the creation of a deadly crossbow, where poison and steel merge into the perfect weapon. A sober assessment of his own capabilities is evident in his words about the limits of the new weapon's use, demonstrating wisdom born of bitter experience. The steel tip of the crossbow is hidden under the elegant fabric of the suit, when a sudden knock on the door breaks the silence of the room like thunder from a clear sky. The voice of Sima, one of the legendary four guardians, penetrates the door like a poisonous mist, a reminder of his formidable status. Tension electrifies the air as Lin Chu opens the door, meeting the flaming hair of a powerful warrior. The sweet poison of flattery oozes through Sima's words of hidden potential, like a spider weaving its deadly web around its prey. Lin Chu's outward incomprehension masks his inner terror as the chilling thought of being exposed pierces his mind like a dagger. A shocking confession about spiritual peeping at an intimate scene freezes the blood in the guy's veins, while his fingers tighten their grip on the hidden crossbow. False friendship sparkles in the smile of the red-haired warrior like a poisoned blade in a velvet sheath. Confusion and suspicion weave a tight knot in Lin Chu's mind as he tries to unravel the true motives of his unexpected friend. The weight of the hand on the shoulder becomes a symbol of power and control when Sima reveals the existence of the mysterious cult of the gifted. A serpentine smile plays on the warrior's lips, as if anticipating the inevitable consent of his victim. Feigned self-deprecation sounds a false note in the symphony of lies as Lin Chu tries to reject the dangerous offer. The imperious hand descends again on the guy's shoulder, turning the friendly gesture into a stamp of ownership. Blackmail is disguised as a compliment when Sima hints at a compromising scene with a maid. The fear within him binds Lin Chu's movements like icy chains, forcing him to play by the rules of a powerful manipulator. The final words of initiation fall like a coffin lid, sealing the boy's fate in the deadly embrace of the cult of the gifted. The mention of the lump sum membership fee falls like a poisonous seed into the soil of suspicion, while Sima casually juggles millions like a fake magician with his illusions. Lin Chu's inner voice screams at the obviousness of the trap, while his fingers mechanically massage the back of his head, as if trying to erase the very memory of this brazen extortion. Master Wei's mask hides a triumphant smile as the once proud actress breaks down in sobs before him, transformed from predator to prey. Despair colors her words with shades of defeat as she describes the Jing family's iron grip on her life, squeezing it like a boa constrictor. A predatory glint flashes across Master Wei's eyes as he savors the moment of superiority over the fallen star, turning the comfort into exquisite torture. A bitter realization of her own naivety pierces the actress's consciousness when she understands the depth of the manipulation that has turned her into a pawn in someone else's game. The poisonous words about selling her body fall like acid drops on the remains of her dignity, revealing the true nature of the benefactor. The cynical comparison of the two families sounds like a death sentence, turning the actress's life into an endless series of humiliations under the new master. The financial shackles tighten even more when the demand for half of the earnings hangs in the air like a noose. The cold steel of Ryoko's blade cuts off the nascent protest, turning the question into a silent scream. The cruel metaphor of a living ATM becomes the final nail in the coffin of her freedom and dignity. Ryoko's businesslike tone contrasts with the tragedy of the moment when she draws a line under the fallen actress's fate. Impatience breaks into the bodyguard's voice, thirsting for freedom from the poisonous shackles. A casual gesture of passing a pill turns into a moment of testing trust between two predators. Suspicion sparkles in Ryoko's eyes as she searches for the catch in the unexpected ease of obtaining the antidote. A cold generosity oozes through Lin Chu's words, leaving the choice to her new ally like a cat playing with a captured mouse. The careless ease with which Ryoko swallows the pill becomes the first act in the spectacle of her downfall, where trust is turned into a weapon against her. The words of confession flew from Lin Chu's lips like sharp daggers tearing apart the thin fabric of trust that had been established between them. Rage flares in the girl's eyes like a pink flame, demanding a repetition of the words that destroyed the illusion of her control over the situation. The merciless truth about the 3-second enzyme falls upon her like an avalanche, burying the remains of the great warrior's pride. Pink energy explodes around Ryoko like a supernova, materializing her anger into a visible force capable of destroying the offender. The lightning-fast activation of poison knowledge transforms Lin Chu from a victim into a puppeteer, pulling the invisible strings of someone else's power. A simple whistle becomes a symphony of power when two fingers are pressed to the lips in a gesture capable of taming the raging elements. Ryoko's powerful aura melts like morning mist under the rays of the rising sun, leaving her defenseless against her new master. The triumph of knowledge rings in the words of Lin Chu, revealing the true nature of the poison that turned the formidable warrior into a helpless girl. The time frame of 5 minutes of powerlessness outlines the boundaries of Ryoko's new world, where her power depends on someone else's whistle. Desperate accusations of lies crash against the guy's impenetrable confidence like waves against granite cliffs. A condescending pat on the head turns the proud warrior into a little girl at the mercy of the great liar. The brutal truth of her temporary helplessness falls from Lin Chu's lips like a sentence, finally destroying the illusion of her invulnerability. A furious reminder of past greatness rings out with the final roar of a wounded lioness whose reign over Tokyo was reduced to a pile of ashes by a simple whistle. Lin Chu's commanding gaze pierces Ryoko's soul as he challenges her boasts, turning her former strength into empty words. The unexpected kiss becomes a weapon of humiliation as his lips powerfully capture hers, painting the warrior's cheeks with a treacherous blush of shame. The triumph of victory rings in every word of the guy, demonstrating absolute power over the once impregnable warrior, whose strength melted away like morning fog. The gesture of disgust with which Ryoko erases the traces of the kiss becomes a symbol of her powerlessness, emphasizing the depth of the formidable warrior's fall. The promise of revenge flies from her lips like the last poisonous sting of an exhausted snake, no longer capable of inspiring fear. Curiosity sparkles in Chen Mo's eyes as she tries to unravel the mystery of the mysterious Master Wei's influence over the wayward actress. The question of the Master's true identity hangs in the air like a sharp blade ready to cut the veil of secrecy. A vow of silence binds the actress's lips, turning her into a living safe for the secrets of a powerful manipulator. Chen Mo's insight finds new avenues to solve the mystery when she guesses the Master's closeness to his entourage. A sudden revelation pierces the lady's consciousness, like lightning breaking through the night darkness of ignorance. Individual pieces of the puzzle begin to fit together in her mind like links in a golden chain leading to the truth. The peaceful idyll of reading is shattered when Lin Chu notices the dangerous presence of his bodyguard. Ryoko's predatory grace electrifies the air in the bedroom as she approaches the bed like a panther to its prey. The tension thickens in the room like thunderclouds as the boy demands an explanation for this brazen intrusion. Blackmail takes the form of concern for family secrets, turning Ryoko's every word into a poison dagger. The authoritative demand for an antidote is accompanied by a physical invasion of personal space, creating a compromising picture. Lin Chu's helpless resistance is interrupted by the appearance of his wife, whose invisible presence is like the shadow of fate. The half-open door becomes a window into a spectacle of betrayal, where every overheard word hurts Chen Mo's heart. The realization of the ambiguity of the situation hits Lin Chu like an icy shower, paralyzing his ability to think rationally. The desperate cry about the impossibility of the relationship sounds like a false note in the symphony of lies, only deepening the suspicions of the observing wife. With a desperate gesture, Lin Chu pushes Ryoko away, his voice trembling with sincerity as he speaks of his only love for his wife, as if trying to protect not only his fidelity, but also the secret hidden beneath the mask of family well-being. Chen Mo's heart skips a beat as she watches her husband transform into a loving husband. The sincerity in his movements seems genuine, but the shadow of the recent conversation colors every gesture with a hint of doubt. Fear is evident in Lin Chu's eyes as he rushes towards his wife. His words about not being interested in Ryoko ring true, but there is a deeper secret hidden behind them, ready to burst out at any moment. Ryoko's scornful "stop spouting nonsense" cuts through the air like a whip, revealing the true nature of their complicated relationship. Chen Mo's quiet words of trust in her husband are fraught with bitter irony, her confidence in his indifference to Ryoko based on knowledge that is about to change their lives. A sudden grip on the husband's hand becomes an anchor at the moment when truth and lies are woven into a tight knot that requires immediate resolution. Time stands still in the room as the question of Master Wei's identity finally escapes Chen Mo's lips, simple words that could shatter their carefully constructed world of pretense and innuendo. Miss Chen's fragile fingers grip her husband's hand as her lips utter accusations of his secret assistance with the license and opposition to Shen Che. The pink-haired warrior Ryoko watches the scene with cold admiration, noting Miss Chen's insight in uncovering the truth. Miss Chen's furious gaze pierces the bodyguard like a sharp blade, her command to remain silent ringing in the air like a bell. Divine power flows through the fragile lady's body, throwing the impudent bodyguard away like an autumn leaf in the wind. Confusion flashes across the defeated Ryoko's eyes as she realizes her strange inaction against the man she is supposed to protect. Poisonous words of denial of protection escape the bodyguard's lips, turning her devotion into the bitter ashes of disappointment. Despair sparkles in Lin Chu's eyes as he tries to deny his connection to the mysterious Master Wei, his words melting into the air like morning mist. Righteous anger colors Miss Chen's face as she exposes her husband's lies, recalling every moment of his secret support. Tenderness creeps into her voice as she speaks of the fidelity of her husband, who has stood behind her like an invisible shadow since the first day they met. Memories of political intrigue from 5 years ago surface in Miss Chen's mind, as her father's will clashed with her independence. The bitterness of school days colors the lady's memory, when classmates turned into merciless executioners of her peace. The golden threads of the Chen family's intrigues weave through the school corridors, turning children's souls into puppets in a cruel game played against the young heiress. Greed distorts the faces of classmates as money clouds their conscience, turning innocent souls into instruments of someone else's will. The classmates' cruel words cut through the air like poisoned daggers, demanding the expulsion of the young lady from the school walls. The weight of past suffering darkens Miss Chen's face as she is drawn into a vortex of painful memories from that time. The image of young Lin Chu appears in her memory like a ray of light in the darkness, his decisive words of defense becoming the first act of their shared story. The classmate's defiant reply rings in the air as she mentions the Chen family's power, challenging the then unknown protector. Miss Chen's voice rings out like a sharp blade cutting through the veil of lies, her words about being ready to kill echoing off the walls of the young man's mind. A furious accusation against Mr. Chen bursts from Lin Chu's lips, his voice pulsing with the energy of righteous anger in the silent school corridor. Like a blooming lotus flower, the young lady's face lights up with an inner light as she asks her fateful question. Confusion clouds the young man's mind as he tries to decipher the hidden meaning in the beautiful stranger's words. A mischievous sparkle dances in Miss Chen's eyes as her question about her boyfriend's personal life vanishes into thin air. Waves of surprise roll across the faces of classmates, frozen like statues in the Temple of Ancient Gods. Silence falls over the space like a silken blanket as Miss Chen's voice breaks mid-sentence, foreshadowing something important. Like cherry blossom petals, words of confession fly from her lips, turning a simple defense into the beginning of great love. Amazement blossoms on the face of the young hero, realizing how one noble act can change the course of fate. Tenderness flows in the air of the library, where a young lady, clinging to the shoulder of a defender, tells of the collapse of her family's marriage plans. Memories of their student days envelop them like a warm blanket, where simple street food turns into feasts for the gods. A divine light illuminates Ms. Chen's face as she speaks of the one who turned the gray of everyday life into a symphony of joy. Solemn words about sacrifice for love fall from her lips like a vow of eternal fidelity, sanctified by heaven. The scarlet glow of the birthday cake illuminates the happy face of the birthday boy, turning a simple birthday into a sacred ritual. A mystical note permeates the air as she recalls the moment she received the special gift that became a symbol of their unbreakable bond. In the dim light of the room, Lin Chu stands blindfolded, his mind pulsing with anticipation of mystery as the invisible threads of fate weave their pattern around him. Time freezes in the sacred moment when permission to remove the blindfold reaches his ears, and his fingers tremble in anticipation, slowly freeing his gaze from the darkness. A cry of delight erupts from the youth's chest like a phoenix rising from the ashes, when his gaze is struck by the divine beauty of his beloved, shining like moonlight. Miss Chen's voice rings with the crystal clarity of insight as she reveals her thoughts on the identity of the mysterious Master Wei, her words piercing the air like sharp blades of truth. Confusion envelopes Lin Chu like the morning mist as he tries to deny his connection to the mysterious master, his words about his own insignificance dissolving into thin air like smoke. Madame Chen's divine power explodes like a supernova, sending her husband flying into the wall as her question of his whereabouts hangs in the air like a sharp blade of suspicion. Pain pierces the body of the young man, imprinted into the wall like a butterfly in amber, his groan echoing off the ancient walls that hold the secrets of the past. Ms. Chen's accusations fall like poisonous drops as she reveals knowledge of his absence from home, every word laced with the bitterness of doubt. Lin Chu's excuses about going shopping with the maid sound like a song on the strings of lies, each note trembling in the tense air. A secret message about urgent plastic surgery flickers on the phone screen, like an ominous omen of things to come. There is determination in the mistress's voice when she speaks of the maid's call. Her confidence in the servant's truthfulness is like a steel blade. Space and time bend like silk in the wind as the silhouette of the enigmatic Master Wei materializes outside the window, his appearance breaking the laws of reality. Astonishment freezes on Miss Chen's face like morning dew on lotus petals as her gaze meets the ghostly image of the mysterious master. Reality splits like an ancient mirror, reflecting two men at once, the husband in the room and the mysterious figure outside the window, creating a paradox of existence. The realization of her mistake lights up the lady's face, like the first rays of dawn when she acknowledges her husband's innocence in this mystical play of shadows. Master Wei's figure vanishes into thin air like the morning mist as Madame Chen desperately screams for him to stop, her voice piercing the silence like a silver arrow. The energy of movement pulses around the lady as she rushes after the ghostly silhouette, her steps marking the path like shooting stars in the night sky. On the porch, where reality meets illusion, her cry for a wait cuts through the space like lightning dividing the sky into light and darkness. In the dim light of the room, Lin Chu clutches the microphone like an ancient artifact of power, preparing to weave his voice into the fabric of illusion that shrouds this evening in a mysterious haze. The energy of his words flows through the ether as the enigmatic master's suit becomes a conduit for his will, each word saturated with echoes of long-ago events like a mountain echo. The mystical vibration of his question dissolves into the air, like cherry blossom petals in the wind, creating a fine line between reality and illusion. Miss Chen's words ring like crystal bells in the temple of the ancient gods as she demands to know the secret of the master's identity and his appearance within their sacred walls. The master's answer falls into space like a drop of dew on a lotus leaf, its carelessness concealing the depth of true power capable of overcoming any obstacle. Anxiety pulses in the heart of the disguised maid like a captured bird, her every breath filled with the awareness of the fragility of the masquerade, ready to crumble at the slightest wrong move. Words about the master's limitless possibilities spread like fog over a morning lake, creating the image of a being for whom no doors are closed in this ghostly city. Miss Chen's curiosity sparkles in the air like stars in the night sky as she tries to uncover the true motives of her mysterious benefactor. The figure of the supposed master, standing with his back to the lady, radiates a mysterious aura, while the words about the non-randomness of his help dissolve into the evening air. Lin Chu's anxiety swirls like thunderclouds as he watches the scene through the window, aware that the secret of his identity is teetering on the brink of exposure. Determination pulses through the young man's veins like liquid fire as he rushes from the room, willing to risk everything to keep his secret. His cry cuts through the evening air like a sacred sword, demanding an end to this dance of shadows and illusions. The demand to show one's true face explodes in space like a bolt from the blue, creating a moment of absolute tension. Lin Chu's movement is like the dance of ancient warriors as he pushes his wife, directing her fall into the arms of the imaginary master. Horror freezes in the maid's eyes like frozen dew as her thoughts of her mistress's safety swirl in a whirlpool of fear. The moment of contact stretches into eternity as the maid's hands catch her falling mistress, their gazes meeting in a cosmic dance of fate. Lin Chu's consciousness flares like a star in a moment of illumination as he takes up the microphone again, ready to weave a new thread into the tapestry of this mystical performance. The mister's words dissolve into the evening air like sacred incense, while the pause stretches into infinity, filling the space with a mystical anticipation of revelation. A declaration of love falls from the lips of the supposed master like cherry blossom petals in the wind, each sound imbued with the ancient magic of feelings capable of changing fate. Anxiety pulses through the maid's soul like a trapped bird, her thoughts swirling in a whirlpool of doubts as the masquerade teeters on the brink of exposure. Embarrassment envelopes Miss Chen like a sacred fog, her mind trying to comprehend the depth of the confession she heard, which contains something more. Triumph blossoms in Lin Chu's soul like a fiery lotus, the realization of the success of his plan shining brighter than 1,000 suns at the moment of great victory. The figure of the young man dissolves into the twilight like a ghost, taking with him secrets whose time to be revealed has not yet come in this mystical performance. The energy of the moment freezes in crystal purity, as the silhouette of the master supports Miss Chen, their figures intertwined in a dance of fate on the edge of reality. The lady's pupils narrow like lunar eclipses, reflecting the storm of emotions in her soul, where every word she hears leaves a fiery trace. Lin Chu's voice explodes into space like a bolt from the blue, his jealousy coloring the air with the dark hues of ancient magic. The moment of separation between the two figures is like the breaking of the silken thread of fate, when the mistress leaves the embrace of the mystical stranger.
Tenderness flows in the lady's words, like a mountain stream trying to calm the raging ocean of jealousy in the soul of her husband.
Memories of acting bloom in the young man's mind like night flowers, while his words about his own insignificance weave a fine web of deception. Tears roll down his cheeks like pearls of sorrow. Every word about the mistress' superiority is saturated with the bitterness of an imaginary defeat in the battle for love. Consolation flows from the lady's lips like a healing balm, while her husband continues his dance of feigned despair on the verge of truth and lies. A touch on the shoulder of a loved one becomes an anchor in a raging sea of emotions, where every tear is a drop in the ocean of their shared destiny. The oath of allegiance falls from the lips of the lady like a sacred mantra, dispelling the shadows of doubt and fear in the soul of her beloved husband. The mistress's gentle words of apology dissolve into the air like the morning mist, while the shadow of an enigmatic smile flitted across Lin Chu's face, reflecting the triumph of an ancient master. The energy of trust pulsates between them like a sacred flow of qi as their gazes meet in the moment of their vow of unity, transforming the two people into a single force of destiny. Their silhouettes glide through the department's corridors like the dancing shadows of ancient warriors, their presence filling the space with an aura of incomprehensible power and grace. The whispers of the workers vibrate in the air like the strings of a heavenly zither, their admiring gazes following the couple radiating an aura of divine union. Quiet conversations weave into an invisible web of assumptions where every word is shrouded in a mystical fog of guesses about the hidden talents of the lady's inconspicuous companion. The sacred ritual of document transfer unfolds in the office, like an ancient scroll of secrets, where each page contains echoes of the intervention of the enigmatic Master Wei. Trust flows in the lady's gesture like a mountain stream when she hands over the papers to her husband, seeking in his wisdom the key to unraveling financial secrets. Lin Chu's fingers touch the documents with the reverence of an ancient sage, ready to reveal the secrets hidden in the labyrinth of numbers and reports. The divine consciousness of the auditor awakens within him like a phoenix from the ashes, his gaze piercing the paper curtain, penetrating into the essence of financial flows. The lady's intuition vibrates in the air like a taut string. Her words about hidden discrepancies resonate with ancient wisdom. Anxiety about Cheng Jing's fate colors her voice with dark tones of prescience as she contemplates the inevitability of the coming financial collapse. Lin Chu's consciousness pierces the documents like a sacred sword of truth, revealing the intricate web of internal asset movements. The pride of an ancient master pulses through his veins, knowing that only the eye of a true expert can discern these subtle threads of deception. The energy of exposure is concentrated around the figure of the director, turning each of his transactions into a link in the chain of evidence. The lady's impatience sparks in the air like electric discharges as she awaits the results of her husband's examination. A mask of innocence descends on Lin Chu's face as he hides his discoveries behind a veil of feigned incomprehension. The parting words dissolve into the air like morning fog as the boy's figure disappears behind the door, taking with him secrets whose time to be revealed has not yet come. The bodyguard's silhouette hovers over the abyss like a dark angel of vengeance, holding the trembling director between heaven and earth with her iron grip. Horror contorts the director's face like an ancient demon mask as his cries of self-importance dissolve in the cold air of the mountain peaks. Space warps like the torn silk of reality as the enigmatic figure of Master Wei materializes from the shadows, his presence filling the air with ancient power. The master's words fall like sharp daggers in the silence of the night, each sound imbued with a deadly threat capable of tearing apart the veil of lies. Fear turns the boastful director into a trembling shadow of his former glory, his pleas for mercy cutting through the air like a death cry. The ancient master's energy pulsates like a cosmic flame as his words become a death sentence for the liar hanging over the abyss. The bodyguard's movement is like the dance of the goddess of death when her fingers unclench, sending the director into the arms of the abyss. The scream of a falling man cuts through the mountain air like lightning, his figure turning into a black dot against the stone walls. The master's commanding voice rings through space like the bell of fate, stopping a fatal fall with one word of power. A pink glow envelops the warrior's hands like a sacred flame, materializing her spiritual energy into visible form. Streams of spiritual power weave in her hands like cosmic threads of fate, creating a life-saving rope of pure energy. A shining line of spiritual power pierces the space like lightning, wrapping itself around the falling figure of the director. The director's body shoots upward like a projectile, its impact with the roof marking the moment of humiliating rescue. Rage and fear intertwine in the rescued man's voice like poisonous snakes as he accuses his savior of madness.
The master's question cuts through the air like a sacred sword of truth, demanding to reveal the secret of the conspiracy against the Chen Company.
The hesitation lingers in the air like a dewdrop about to fall as the director prepares to pronounce the name of the true villain. Cheng Jing's name escapes his lips like the last breath of a dying man, revealing the true architect of the plot. Master Wei's thoughts swirl like birds of prey, trying to fathom the depths of his old adversary's treachery. The director's bowed figure trembled like an autumn leaf as his words about spy devices and Cheng Jing's betrayal faded into the evening air. The director's quiet words about the disunity of the conspirators dissolve into the air like the smoke of ancient incense, taking with them the secrets of a dark plan. Master Wei's thoughts swirl like a starry whirlwind. The realization that Cheng Jing's dismissal is timely shines in his mind like a beacon of salvation. The boy's spiritual energy pulsates like a cosmic flame as he contemplates the need for his intervention in these family intrigues. Within the sacred walls of the residence, Lin Chu's thoughts flow like a mountain stream, pondering the path to conquering the world, which is like a blossoming lotus flower. The maid's curiosity sparkles in the air like stardust as she asks about Cheng Jing's sinister role in spreading spies. The comparison of enemies to cockroaches falls from the boy's lips like an ancient curse, each word imbued with the power of true knowledge. Concern for the mistress flows in the maid's words like a pure mountain stream. Her devotion shines brighter than 1,000 suns. Determination rings in Lin Chu's voice like a sacred bell as he speaks of Cheng Jing's key role in this cosmic game. The bodyguard's suspicion swirls like morning fog as she watches the mysterious dance of interaction between the maid and her master. The guy's strategy unfolds like an ancient scroll, where every word about the enemy's strength becomes part of a grand plan of confrontation. The carefree nature of the bodyguard munching on a watermelon contrasts with the seriousness of the moment, like the moon and sun during an eclipse. Insight flashes through Lin Chu's mind like the birth of a new star as he grasps the essence of his opponent's weaknesses. The question of the mistress as Cheng Jing's weak point hangs in the air like a poisoned blade, ready to deliver the decisive blow. The silence of the night envelopes the sleeping Chen Mo like a silk blanket, her breath like a gentle wind in a lotus garden. The creaking of the door cuts through the night's peace like the blade of an ancient sword, awakening the mistress from the embrace of sleep. The husband's shadow glides into the room like a ghost from ancient legends, his movements shrouded in mystery. Chen Mo's consciousness balances between sleep and reality like a lotus on the surface of a sacred lake, while questions about her husband's presence swirl in her thoughts. Lin Chu's silhouette glides through the night shadows like an ancient spirit, his movements toward his lover's bed filled with the grace of a tiger stalking in the moonlight. The lady's consciousness balances on the edge of sleep and reality, while thoughts of confrontation with her husband swirl in her mind like autumn leaves in a whirlwind of fate. A blush bloomed on Chen Mo's cheeks like dawn clouds as she skillfully feigned sleep, each heartbeat measuring the moments of this nighttime spectacle. The boy's movements take on the precision of a martial artist as his fingers touch the sacred artifact, his wife's phone, resting like precious jade on the silk of the pillow. Triumph pulses through his aura like starlight as the coveted item falls into his hands, opening the gates to the intended intrigue. Spiritual energy flows through his fingers as he weaves a web of deception, sending a message to Cheng Jing, every word laced with the subtle poison of manipulation. His attempts to leave the room unnoticed resemble the dance of a drunken master, where every awkward movement contradicts the warrior's usual grace. The loud sound of a closing door cuts through the silence of the night, like thunder from a clear sky, causing the lady to jump up like a startled doe. Bewilderment enveloped Chen Mo's mind like morning fog as she pondered the strange behavior of her husband who did not share the shroud of night with her. The maid helps the master into his clothes, her movements filled with the grace of an ancient ritual, while words of wisdom fly from her lips like cherry blossom petals. A premonition of difficulties vibrates in her voice, like the taut string of an ancient instrument, foreshadowing a storm of events to come. The bodyguard's confidence rings in the air like the blade of a great master, her promise of protection enveloping the maid in an aura of calm. Her words about being able to stand up to the soul masters sound like an ancient prophecy, every syllable imbued with the strength of a true warrior. Lin Chu's determination flashes like a sacred sword as he declares his intention to face the enemy head-on, protected by the Chen family's might. A sly smile plays on his lips like moonlight on the blade of a dagger when he mentions a tape recorder ready to capture every word of the upcoming fight. The boy's words about the inevitable war between the families ring in the air like the prophecy of an ancient oracle, each syllable imbued with anticipation of the coming storm.
Cheng Jing, shrouded in an aura of self-satisfaction, walks on the sacred ground of the meeting, his heart pulsing with the anticipation of a failed date. His voice cuts through the silence like a poisoned blade, but the sweet words dissolve into the emptiness of the room, where a completely different fate awaits him. Lin Chu's figure materializes at the table like an ancient ghost of vengeance, the sound of a broken glass becoming the first note in the symphony of the coming confrontation. Confusion distorts Cheng Jing's aura like ripples on the surface of a sacred lake, his words about Lin Chu's wife falling into the void of revelation. Anger colors his being with dark shades of primordial darkness as words of obsession with Lady Chen spill from his lips like poisonous flowers. Cosmic energy concentrates around the microphone in Lin Chu's hand, transforming the simple object into a weapon for exposing ancient intrigues. The recording of the director's confession pierces the veil of lies like a sacred sword of truth. Every word becomes a nail in the coffin of Cheng Jing's reputation. Rage contorts his face like a demon's mask as he tries to renounce the traitorous director, but the darkness of his soul seeps through the cracks of pretense. Lin Chu's questions pierce his opponent's mind like poisoned arrows, each word bringing him closer to the moment of final revelation. The weight of a decades-long conspiracy hangs in the air like thunderclouds, foreshadowing the storm of the final confrontation. Spiritual power explodes around Cheng Jing like a black supernova, his confession to a 5-year conspiracy painting reality with the dark colors of primordial chaos. Darkness floods his eyes like the tide of an ancient ocean of rage, turning the once noble warrior into a demon of vengeance. His words about the uniqueness of the design ring in space like a funeral bell, marking the end of the era of pretense. The mask of nobility falls from his face like autumn leaves, revealing the true nature of the demon in disguise. Cosmic energy pulses through his words about reaching the stage of soul birth, each syllable imbued with the pride of an ancient cultivator. The purple glow of his power floods space like waves of primordial chaos, turning reality into an ocean of pure energy. Powerlessness binds Lin Chu like icy chains, until his hope turns to the only ray of light, his faithful bodyguard. Ryoko materializes from the void like a goddess of war, her katana gleaming in the enemy's purple light like a star of vengeance. Astonishment pierces Cheng Jing's mind like lightning in the night sky as he senses in the fragile warrior a strength equal to that of a soul-birth master. His hand, like the claw of an ancient demon, closes around the girl's neck, the space around them warping with the concentration of dark energy. Cosmic power pulses through his grip as he lifts the warrior off the ground, his aura radiating superiority like a poisonous mist. Words of wealth fall from his lips like golden rain. Each investment figure rings in the air with the promise of power that can even buy immortality. The warrior's rage flares like a pink supernova, her insults cutting through the air as the dark force tightens its grip on her throat. Cheng Jing's black energy pierces reality, creating rifts in the very fabric of existence as the young warrior balances on the brink of life and death. Lin Chu bursts into this deadly symphony like a meteor, his body becoming a living shield between darkness and light. The bodyguard's consciousness becomes clouded like the sunset sky, while thoughts of death at the hands of a despised enemy swirl in the maelstrom of her fading mind. Lin Chu's desperate cry for his wife cuts through the space like a silver blade, trying to break through the veil of madness. The truth falls from Cheng Jing's lips like poisonous flowers, revealing the depth of his pretense in the garden of deception. The violet flame of his power explodes like a dark supernova, while words about the insignificance of love before the power of destruction poison the air. The maid bursts into her mistress's chambers like a spring hurricane, her cry of danger shattering the night's peace into 1,000 pieces. Fear for her husband colors the lady's aura with alarming shades, while words of mortal threat echo off the walls. The lady's movements are filled with the sacred grace of a warrior, as she dons her battle attire, preparing for the decisive battle. The order to summon the 4 guardians rings in the air like a bell of fate, every word imbued with the power of ancient authority. Cheng Jing's madness transforms reality into a nightmare, his purple aura devouring space like a hungry demon as Lin Chu's body floats in his death grip. The fallen bodyguard lies like a broken sword on the altar of battle, her consciousness dissolving into an ocean of darkness. Helplessness binds Lin Chu's mind with icy chains as reality warps under the onslaught of the enemy's demonic power. The 5-year plan for revenge unfolds in Cheng Jing's words like a poisonous flower, each petal saturated with the bitterness of rejected love. His original intention unfolds like an ancient scroll of curses, each line laced with the lies of a savior and the poison of feigned concern. Cheng Jing's words about the rightful son-in-law's place ring in the air like fragments of broken hopes, each syllable saturated with the bitterness of unfulfilled ambitions. His fist slices through the air, leaving trails of purple flame as words of empire-building spill from his lips like the curses of ancient demons. Rage warps his aura like a cosmic storm as he unleashes the full force of his hatred on Lin Chu, every blow laced with envy for the chosen one of fate. Lin Chu's body slams into the wall, like a shooting star, while the enemy's words of destroying relationships pierce his mind like poisonous daggers. Time stretches like a cosmic string, measuring out years of absence and return in a single moment of eternity. Dark energy enveloped Cheng Jing's hand like a cloak of primordial darkness, preparing to erase his opponent's existence from the fabric of reality. Helplessness binds Lin Chu like cosmic chains as his consciousness teeters on the brink of life and death. Insight flashes through his mind like the birth of a new galaxy, opening a gateway to ancient secrets of the Force. A blue glow explodes around his finger like a cosmic firework, each spark pulsing with the primal energy of creation. His spirit breaks away from his physical shell, like a phoenix spreading its wings in interstellar space. Lin Chu's consciousness floats in a familiar cosmic sanctuary, where the boundaries of reality dissolve into the ocean of eternity. The blonde goddess materializes before him like the embodiment of fate itself, her aura pulsating with a power capable of reshaping the very fabric of the universe. Her words of apology fall into space like stardust, each sound saturated with divine compassion. The truth about the destroyed inner body unfolds like a cosmic flower, where each petal is a seal that limits its true potential. The touch of her hands on his face is like touching eternity itself, while words about forgotten memories awaken in his soul the sleeping constellations of ancient memory. Lin Chu's question dissolves into the cosmic void like stardust as his spirit floats between the worlds of life and death. The divine creation reveals its true essence like a blossoming cosmic lotus. The name Eve rings in space like a crystal bell. Her words of love pierce space like rays of eternal light, each sound imbued with the certainty of the immortality of their connection across centuries and dimensions. The warning of death falls into space like a black pearl of fate, where memory becomes the key to survival in the dance of eternity. The punishment for betrayal hangs between them like a sharp blade of karma, ready to cut the bonds of past and present. Her reproach of weakness dissolves in the cosmic ether, but the promise of help shines like a guiding star in the ocean of chaos. The wisdom of knowing souls flows like sacred nectar. Each word is a key to the gates of ancient memories and power. Memories of their paired cultivation shimmer in space like distant constellations, holding the secrets of their joint ascent to the heights of power. Cheng Jing's dark aura condenses within his fist like a clod of primordial darkness, ready to destroy the enemy's very essence. The cosmic force throws him away like a meteor thrown off course by divine intervention. His body crashes into the wall like a falling star, leaving a pattern of cracks in the stone like a web of fate. Amazement distorts his aura like ripples on the surface of a dark lake as he senses an inexplicable power within his fallen enemy. Chen's scream cuts through the space like a bolt of anger, her aura pulsing with the righteous fury of a protector. Fear envelopes Cheng Jing's mind like a black fog as he realizes the inevitability of his defeat in the face of a higher power. The ancient magic of the paper talisman flares like a supernova, dissolving its being into the streams of space and time, leaving only the echo of destruction as evidence of its presence. The fragile figure of the lady freezes over the lifeless body of her husband like a broken lotus flower, her aura pulsating with despair and pain. Her embrace envelops him like a sacred cocoon of healing, each word of her prayer vibrating in space like the strings of a cosmic harp. Lin Chu's eyelids flutter like the wings of a butterfly of fate as his consciousness breaks through the veil of darkness to the shining eyes of his beloved. Reality appears before him like a picture of the universe unfolding, where his wife's tears sparkle like stars in the sky of their love. Gratitude to the heavens bursts from her lips like a sacred mantra, each sound imbued with the joy of her beloved's return from the abyss of oblivion. Blue flames of spiritual power dance across his palms like cosmic fireflies, signifying the awakening of ancient power. Amazement blossoms in his mind like a sacred lotus as he feels the pulsation of revived spiritual power in his veins. Time in the hospital room flows like a slow river of eternity, while his consciousness balances between sleep and reality in the streams of healing. A turn of his head reveals to him a picture of endless devotion, where the silhouette of his sleeping wife is like a statue of an eternal guardian of his peace. The knowledge of her tireless care pierces his heart like a ray of dawn, illuminating the depth of their connection, forged in the crucible of trials. The memory flashes in his mind like a shooting star, when his gaze touches his own hand, which bears the imprint of a divine gift. The awakened power pulses in his palms like a living constellation, each spark a promise of a new era of power. The truth about his meeting with Eve crystallizes in his mind like a precious stone of wisdom, confirming the reality of his rebirth. The wife's awakening is like the sunrise over the horizon of their shared destiny, her tired eyes reflecting sleepless nights of anxiety. Joy explodes in her aura like a firework of pure happiness. Her cry pierces the space of the chamber like a hymn to the triumph of life. Amazement enveloped Lin Chu's mind like the morning mist as he contemplated the previously unknown depth of his lover's feelings. Words of apology fall from his lips like cherry blossom petals, each sound laced with the knowledge of the cost of their confrontation with the demonic Cheng Jing. The maid's gentle words dissolve into space like morning fog, revealing a veil of secrets to the mistress. Gratitude materializes in a sacred kiss where the fusion of two souls generates waves of cosmic energy that permeate the very fabric of reality. Her words of gratitude flow like a pearl waterfall, each drop of appreciation saturated with the power of true love, capable of overcoming any obstacles. Tenderness envelops the space like a sacred mist when her care is expressed in simple words about his well-being. Anger flares in her aura like a sacred flame of retribution, promising just retribution to anyone who dared to disturb the harmony of their union. The oath of vengeance rings in the air like a bell of fate, each sound imbued with the determination to punish the impudent enemy. Wisdom flows through Lin Chu's words like a mountain stream, warning of the enemy's hidden power lurking behind the mask of simplicity. Ryoko's appearance in the room is like the materialization of an ancient spirit, her presence filling the space with mystical energy. The sense of increased power pulses through his veins, like a cosmic flame awakened by the sacred kiss of a lover. The bodyguard's movements are filled with the grace of an ancient warrior as she seals the chamber's space from outside intrusions. The silence thickens between them like a sacred mist, as her actions create a ritual of preparation for the sacrament of healing. The simplicity of her explanation is like a blade cutting through the veil of doubt, revealing the true purpose of her visit. The thread of a whistle hangs in the air like the sword of Damocles, creating a fragile balance between trust and suspicion. Her words about healing with life energy dissolve in space like the incense of ancient temples. Lin Chu's doubts swirl in the air like autumn leaves as he weighs his healer's true intentions. Their mutual need for each other manifests itself in their dialogue like the dance of yin and yang, where every word is a step towards harmony. His request for warmth sounds like an ancient incantation opening the gates to a spiritual healing ritual. Ryoko's pink aura flows like sacred nectar as she begins the healing ritual, every movement imbued with mystical grace. The process of absorbing spiritual power unfolds like a cosmic symphony, where each note is a flow of life-giving energy. Amazement colors her voice, like the rays of dawn, as she watches his body's unusual reaction to the spiritual energy. The recognition of rapid energy absorption sounds like the final chord in a symphony of healing, marking the beginning of a new era of his power. The words about the blonde goddess Eve dissolve in space like sacred incense, revealing the secret of restoring his spiritual strength through divine touch. The question of poison formation rings in the air like a silver bell as their auras intertwine in a dance of mutual knowledge. The contact of their hands creates a flash of cosmic energy, like the birth of a nova, where the stolen power returns to its true owner. The ancient wisdom of paired cultivation pulsates through space like a cosmic heartbeat, promising to strengthen the foundations through the fusion of powerful energies. Dreams of reaching the heights of cultivation blossom in the warrior's mind, like sacred lotuses, nourished by the energy of their joint practice. Her words about a deeper method of transmitting power fall into space like cherry blossom petals, each sound imbued with the ancient wisdom of cultivation. Lin Chu's resistance flares up like a protective barrier, his moral principles shining brighter than the stars in the night sky. Mistrust sparks in his question like electric shocks, creating tension between duty and necessity. The bonds of marriage enmesh his consciousness like sacred chains, each link of which is forged out of pure devotion. Her words about purity of intention flow like a mountain stream, blurring the boundaries between formality and the essence of cultivation. The philosophy of the warrior's path unfolds in her words like an ancient scroll, where social norms dissolve in the face of a higher goal. Lin Chu's doubts crystallize in the question of effectiveness, like ice freezing the flow of energy between them. The truth about the speed of power transfer rings through space, like the battle cry of ancient warriors, leaving no room for hesitation. The threat of Cheng Jing's return looms over them like a storm cloud, forcing them to prepare for the inevitable showdown. Her irritation with his indecision flares like pink lightning, turning her words into sharp blades of impatience. The warrior's movements are like the dance of a war goddess, as she frees him from the shackles of his clothing with one swift stream of power. Pink energy lifts him like a cosmic vortex, their bodies moving through space in the rhythm of an ancient ritual of power transfer. Her embrace envelops him like a cocoon of transformation, where every touch is the seal of a sacred contract. Resignation to fate is reflected on his face like the mask of an ancient mystery, while the uncertainty of the future swirls around them like a whirlwind of secrets. The final words of the request for energy transfer ring in space like the bell of fate, marking the beginning of their joint ascent to the heights of power. Lin Chu's discomfort pulses through the air like a flickering candle flame as his aura trembles in anticipation of the mysterious ritual. The space between them blossoms like a star nebula, where streams of energy weave into a cosmic dance of transformation, creating a bridge between two souls. The warrior's body falls onto the bed like a falling star, while waves of transmitted feelings pierce her being, revealing new facets of power. Overflowing gratitude flows from her heart like sacred nectar, every drop of feeling saturated with the essence of their spiritual fusion. Confusion enveloped Lin Chu's consciousness like morning fog, while the warrior's words about rest dissolved into space like the whisper of the wind. Fatigue colors his aura with shades of exhaustion as complaints about the demanding core fall from his lips like autumn leaves. The red-haired warrior's voice cuts through the silence like lightning, his admiration ringing in the air like the battle cry of ancient heroes. Excitement burns in his words like a sacred flame as he asks this enigmatic mentor to reveal the secrets of mastery. His teasing words about the maid and the nurse dance in the air like autumn leaves, coloring the atmosphere with shades of earthly desires. The reminder of the cult of the gifted and the million penetrates the space like golden rain, returning them to the pressing matters of cultivation. The cult building rises before them like a heavenly palace, where every stone is imbued with the power of ancient masters and shines with divine light. The mystery of names shrouds the society of the gifted like a sacred veil, where each cultivator hides their true identity behind the veil of a mystical pseudonym. Seema's explanation flows like a mountain stream, revealing a system of code names where each character becomes a key to the gates of secret knowledge. Bewilderment sparkled in Lin Chu's aura like stardust as he contemplated his new name, which bore the stamp of mocking recognition. The words about the presidential choice of name fall into space like autumn leaves, each sound imbued with the irony of divine judgment. The appearance of a figure in white boots transforms the space like the appearance of an ancient deity whose words about the greatest freak ring in the air, like the bells of fate. The green-eyed blonde floats in space like a celestial fairy, her words about choosing a name ringing in the air like crystal bells of fate. Seema represents the cult president, whose aura of strange love envelops the space like a sacred mist brought from ancient European lands. Words about the destiny of a true freak dissolve in the air like incense, promising a future where every seduction becomes a step towards a higher goal. Lin Chu's question about strange love pierces the space like a poisoned arrow, touching the deepest strings of the European beauty's soul. Confusion colors her aura with shades of pink dawn, while indignation sparkles in her emerald eyes like stars. Her confession of devotion to the goddess blossoms in space like a sacred lotus, every word imbued with the purity of divine love. The story of the legendary goddess unfolds in Seema's words, like an ancient scroll, where each line contains echoes of eternal worship and family traditions. The invitation to follow the blonde sounds like a call from destiny, promising to reveal the secrets of spiritual empowerment through a sacred ritual of worship. Lin Chu's surprise blossomed within his aura, like a night flower opening its petals to the moonlight. A statue of divine beauty rises before him like the embodiment of eternity itself, every feature of her face pulsating with a familiar power. His gaze glides over the sacred statue like a ray of light trying to break through the veil of forgotten memories. The protest against the nickname and the statue bursts from his lips like autumn leaves swirling in a whirlwind of misunderstanding. The director's words about worship ring in the space like silver bells, demanding reverence for the sacred image. The revelation of his past life lover explodes in Lin Chu's mind like a supernova as he recognizes the statue as his divine Eve. The blonde's anger flares up like a sacred flame, her cry of blasphemy cutting through space like a heavenly sword. The truth flows from Lin Chu's lips like the petals of a cosmic lotus, each word imbued with the power of direct communication with the deity. The divine wrath of strange love explodes like a cosmic flame, its power pulsating through space, rejecting the very possibility of a mortal's connection with the deity. Lin Chu's words of certainty ring in the air like silver blades, as Seema tries to extinguish the flames of conflict with his calming aura. Her threat materializes in space like a deadly fog. Every word about protecting the shrine is imbued with a readiness to immediately punish the blasphemer. The touch of a tie becomes the seal of power, Its words about a divine mission pulsate in the air like sacred writings. The bitterness of memories of an imposed marriage colors her aura with dark shades of the past, where every moment is like poison in the cup of fate. The moment of their first meeting unfolds in her memory like a scroll of curses, where every word of the groom becomes a blow to the temple of her dignity. His demand, like a dirty wave, tries to overwhelm the purity of her soul. Every word is saturated with the poison of base desires. Tears streamed down her cheeks like pearls of broken hopes, reflecting the full horror of her situation in the ocean of despair. The humiliation of submission spreads through space like a black fog, where every movement becomes a step towards the abyss of dishonor. The old man's lust distorts reality like a demonic mirage. His words of obedience fall into space like poisonous snakes. His approach desecrates the sacred space, like the shadow of an ancient demon. Every word of satisfaction rings like a curse in the temple of her soul. The sound of breaking glass cuts through space like a sword of retribution, heralding the arrival of divine salvation. Eve materializes in the room like a beam of sacred light, her appearance transforming reality like a cosmic cataclysm. The wrath of the unworthy groom breaks against the shield of divine majesty like waves against rocks, while his words drown in the ocean of sacred power. The goddess's words fall into space like heavenly decrees, each sound imbued with a power capable of breaking the chains of earthly contracts and freeing the soul from the darkness of coercion. The rage of an unworthy man explodes in space like demonic flame. His scream cuts through the air like poisoned blades. Eve's smile blossoms like a moonflower in the night of eternity. Her sideways glance pierces reality like a sacred ray. Divine power flows through space like a cosmic wind, casting aside the unworthy like an autumn leaf in the hurricane of eternity. The European woman's memories crystallize in space like sacred gems when she asks questions addressed to the divine essence. The goddess's words about the mission fall into space like a shower of stars, each drop of power carrying the seeds of the future cult of the gifted. The touch of a divine hand transforms the girl's essence like cosmic alchemy, granting her the sacred title of president. The division between friends and enemies is drawn in reality, like the border between light and darkness, where love for the goddess becomes the only measure of truth. The president's story unfolds in space like a sacred scroll, where every word is imbued with the pain of the past and the power of devotion. The threat of cult enmity rings in the air like a funeral bell, foreshadowing a great confrontation between the forces of light and darkness. Lin Chu's words about evidence cut through space like the blade of truth, challenging the very foundations of faith. The president's promise echoes through space like the oath of ancient gods, linking their destinies with invisible threads. The memory of the memory visualization technique flickers in the air like a ghostly mirror, ready to reflect the truth of the past. The terms of the agreement are woven between them like a web of fate, where each thread is a step towards revealing a divine secret. Lin Chu's consent rings in space like a bell of fate, opening the gate to the sacred memories of the wedding night. Memories materialize in space like living pictures of eternity, representing the moment of the meeting of a mortal with a deity. The realization of truth blossoms in the director's mind like a sacred lotus, each petal of which is a particle of the undeniable truth about the existence of the goddess. The president's thoughts swirl like a starry whirlwind as the words, "My love," echo in her mind, forcing her to take the goddess's chosen one to the sacred chambers. Lin Chu's confidence shines like a heavenly sword as he reiterates the agreement, his every word pulsating with the power of undeniable truth. A request for an apology for a freak flows like a mountain stream, clearing the space of misunderstandings and false judgments. The cry of denial explodes in space like a supernova, its disbelief coloring the air with shades of sacred denial. Suspicions of the reincarnation technique swirl in her aura like autumn leaves trying to hide the truth of the divine presence. The mention of paired cultivation falls into space like lightning, causing the president to retreat in the face of sacred intimacy. The recognition of truth blossoms in her consciousness like a lotus of enlightenment, each petal a particle of the immutable truth about the goddess. Words about a past life ring in the air like bells of fate, asserting the right not to kneel before one's own beloved. The question of initiation hovers in space like a sacred bird, ready to carry them into a new chapter of mystical service. The director's words about the importance of his role flow like sacred nectar, every drop saturated with the awareness of his special position. The intrigue of a new revelation pulsates through space like a cosmic heartbeat, foreshadowing a new turn of fate. The oath to ensure fidelity explodes into reality like a pink supernova, turning a simple promise into a cosmic law. Lin Chu's confusion enveloped his aura like morning fog, as his mind struggled to comprehend the depth of his new obligations. The touch of his cheeks becomes the seal of a sacred covenant, where every word of protection of his purity rings like a blade of retribution. Permission to embrace falls into space like cherry blossom petals, creating a moment of sacred intimacy between the goddess's servants. The desire to withdraw his candidacy flares up in his mind like a signal fire as the reality of his new obligations becomes ever more apparent. Seema's admiration pulsates in space like a sacred flame, his thoughts of his unprecedented interest in the man swirling in a whirlpool of surprise. The voice of the European headmistress flows through the space like sacred nectar. Her words about the initiation ceremony are woven into a wreath of fate around the chosen one of the goddess. Shen Che's rage explodes in space like demonic flames, his accusations against Chen Mo cutting through the air like poisoned blades of doubt. His green hair pulsates like poisonous snakes as words of marriage fall from his lips like the curses of ancient demons. The sister's wisdom flows like a mountain stream, washing away the brother's blindness with the crystal purity of logic and family care. Her words about the Jing family's feud ring in the air like silver bells of truth, exposing the dark designs of ancient enemies. The recorder in her hands shines like an artifact of fate. Every recorded word is a nail in the coffin of Cheng Jing's betrayal. Anxiety about the family's future envelops the space like thunderclouds, foreshadowing a storm of impending changes and dangers. Shen Che's astonishment blossomed like a poisonous flower as the truth about the recording and Lin Chu's sacrifice pierced his consciousness like a bolt of insight. Nervousness colors his aura with dark shades of fear as the desperate accusations against Lin Chu dissolve into the air like morning mist. The voice of the head of the family cuts through the space like an ancient sword of wisdom, stopping the flow of his son's foolish words. A father's praise for his daughter flows like a golden rain of blessing, each drop saturated with the promise of a fair investigation. Chen Mo's spiritual power exploded in space like a pink supernova, her words of protection for her husband ringing out like the oath of an ancient warrior. Lin Chu's silhouette appears at the door of the hospital room like a ghost from ancient legends, his aura pulsating with restored strength.
The bodyguard, in the guise of a nurse, glows like a pink pearl, her words of spiritual growth dancing in the air like spring petals.
Playfulness sparkles in her aura like a shower of stars as she offers to continue the sacrament of joint cultivation. Lin Chu's protest about preserving his life force crashes against the wall of her confidence in the strength of his core like waves against coastal rocks. The bodyguard approaches Lin Chu like a predatory panther, her words about night practices dancing in the air like dark cherry blossom petals, while his protest is shattered against the walls of misunderstanding. The maid materializes in the doorway like a morning ghost, her smile shining like the first rays of dawn, unaware of the storm raging in the room. Her presence cuts through the intimacy of the moment like a sacred blade, revealing the awkwardness of the situation in the crystal clarity of awareness. Confusion colors her aura with shades of pink dawn, while the question of what is happening hangs in the air like morning dew. The bodyguard's words about intimacy explode in space like fireworks of frankness, every sound imbued with a teasing hint of shared closeness. The memory of the saving kiss blossoms in the maid's mind like a fiery lotus, coloring her cheeks with the blush of sacred embarrassment. Her palm met Lin Chu's cheek like a bolt from the blue, the words of reproach ringing in the air like silver bells. The bodyguard's protection envelops the space like a pink mist, her words about joint practice pulsating with the ancient wisdom of cultivation. Devotion flows through her words like a mountain stream, the promise of protection intertwined with the mystery of growing spiritual strength into a cosmic symphony. A touch on the guy's chin becomes a seal of curiosity. Each word of the question about the hotel's secret falls into space like drops of mercury. The wife's appearance transforms reality like a lightning strike, her aura of anger coloring the air with the hues of storm clouds. Lin Chu's averted gaze was like a shooting star, eluding the inevitable explanation as the silence thickened in the room like the darkness before a storm. There was a heavy weight of unspoken words in the air when Chen Mo asked about the hotel, a simple question that hid a wealth of secrets and omissions. Lin Chu, feeling the ground slipping from under his feet, tried to hide behind the shield of other people's secrets, mentioning the maid's personal affairs as the last bastion of his lies. Anger broke through Chen Mo's usual calm. Her cry about the trusting relationship with the maid shattered the house of cards of her husband's excuses. The faithful maid, realizing the depth of the game she had found herself caught up in, uttered words of apology, adding a new layer to the veil of secrecy. Chen Mo's commanding voice, demanding privacy with her husband, turned the room into a future battlefield where truth and lies were to meet in a decisive clash. Ryoko, playing her part in this complex performance, elegantly hinted at the need to leave the stage of the coming confrontation. The subtle play of gestures between Ryoko and Lin Chu did not escape Chen Mo's watchful gaze, adding new cracks to the facade of their pretense. The bodyguard's silent words, read on her lips, carried the promise of a continuation of their dangerous dance of power and submission. The sudden change of topic to her father's gratitude sounded like a false note in the symphony of growing tension between the spouses. The solemn promise of protection from Chen Mo sounded both like an oath of allegiance and a hidden threat, revealing the true depth of her understanding of the situation. The outstretched hand became a symbol of choice. Joining the war against the Jing family meant finally crossing the line of no return. Lin Chu's refusal came like a bolt from the blue, shattering his carefully laid plans and revealing new facets of his character. The words of refusal pierced Chen Mo's heart like poisoned arrows. Her eyes widened in pain and disbelief, while a quiet "why" escaped from her trembling lips. The mask of fear for his own life that Lin Chu wore sounded almost convincing. The story of a noble revelation turned into a song of survival among predators. The truth about the gap between the common man and the spiritual giants rang in his words like a funeral bell of unfulfilled hopes. The gesture with the credit card was a mixture of power and despair. Chen Mo, who was used to solving problems with money, was trying to buy something that had no price. 50 million from the film industry's income and the pin code of their shared day turned into a symbol of her vulnerability. She gave away not just money, but part of her strength and independence. Bitterness rang out in Lin Chu's question about childish bribery, revealing the deep wound of his humiliated pride. An internal struggle between principles and temptation tormented his mind. Such a sum could change his life, but the price of acceptance was too high. The sadness in Chen Mo's voice revealed her helplessness. For the first time in her life, money couldn't buy what she wanted. A cry from the heart burst from Lin Chu's chest, the question of his true role in her life hanging in the air like a raised sword. The truth about family estrangement, which had been building for years, finally broke out, every word hitting the long-standing wall of alienation. The bitter irony of the cash recruitment mixed with Chen Mo's unexpected confession, creating a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The blush on his cheeks revealed the depth of his emotional shock. One word, husband, destroyed the protective barriers built up over the years. Accusations of domestic slavery and marital coldness erupted like pus from an old wound, poisoning the air with the pain of past grievances. The merciless comparison of their spiritual strengths hit the most vulnerable spot in their relationship, the gap between the strong and the weak. Tears of remorse glistened in Chen Mo's eyes, turning the proud heiress into a simple woman who realized the cost of her mistakes. The promise of redemption sounded like the first ray of hope in the darkness of their mutual misunderstanding, opening the way to a possible reconciliation. The promise of forgiveness hung in the air as two hearts, wounded by pride and resentment, tried to find their way to each other through the ruins of past mistakes. The business-like atmosphere of the film industry department, where the actress and Chen Mo were engaged in small talk, concealed beneath it a seething stream of unspoken truths and hidden intentions. Chen Mo's commanding gesture as she stopped the actress turned a simple farewell into a prelude to a conversation that could change destinies. The question of atonement sounded particularly poignant. It contained not only a concern for justice, but also echoes of the lady's own guilt. The actress's answer about love as a universal medicine contained a bitter irony. She who had used love as a weapon was now offering it as a cure. Despair seeped through Chen Mo's calm mask as she searched for alternatives to the too easy and dangerous solution. Remorse colored every word the lady uttered as she tried to clothe her shame in words worthy of being spoken to one who understood the price of humiliation. The actress's professional interest in other people's drama concealed a deeper understanding of the game of power and submission. The question of male pride hit the nail on the head, revealing the most vulnerable spot in the couple's relationship. The confession about turning her husband into a housekeeper sounded like a confession, where every word was imbued with the bitterness of realizing her own cruelty. The unexpected turn to role-playing added a new dimension to the conversation. The art of pretending could be the key to healing. The actress's whisper about abandoning her usual role became the first step in transforming the proud heiress into a woman capable of true intimacy. Lin Chu's surprise at the sight of the impeccably tidied room was the first sign of the coming changes in his measured life. The question to the prospective maid hung in the air, not yet knowing what would be the beginning of a new act in their marital drama. The revelation about his wife in disguise struck the guy's consciousness like lightning, tearing his familiar reality apart. Amazement widened his eyes to the limit, while his mind refused to accept the incredible transformation of the proud lady. The blue glow of spiritual energy that suddenly intensified around his figure became an outward manifestation of the internal changes taking place in the depths of his being. The air was electric as the disguised lady approached her husband with a snake-like gait,
her words of belonging sounding like both a promise and a threat.
The panic in Lin Chu's voice betrayed the profound shock of this metamorphosis. The proud heiress in a maid's dress shattered all his notions of the inviolability of social barriers. Every word the wife uttered, denying her true status, struck at the foundations of their relationship, turning the familiar hierarchy into a house of cards. The former domineering Chen Mo dissolved into the gentle Momo, like ice melting under the spring sun, leaving Lin Chu balancing between distrust and hope. Awkwardness gripped the boy's tongue like a steel vice. The reality of what was happening seemed too fragile to be broken by the wrong word. Irritation broke through the mask of submissiveness as Momo demanded a return game. Her efforts dashed against the wall of his mistrust. The astonishment in his voice revealed the depth of his incomprehension. The thought that the proud heiress would humiliate herself for his sake seemed incredible. The bitter truth about the rejection of the servant image turned her sacrifice into an even more significant symbol of repentance. The confession about the maid's costume as a means of atonement sounded like a confession, where every word was imbued with sincere remorse. The tears in Momo's eyes sparkled like diamonds, transforming the strong heiress into a vulnerable woman yearning for forgiveness. Despair broke through the last barriers of pride as Momo, sitting on the edge of the bed, begged her husband to accept her sacrifice, every word of intransigence hitting her wounded ego. The silence that followed his long silence seemed endless until a simple realization broke down the wall of alienation between them. The request for a massage sounded the first note in their new symphony of intimacy. Lin Chu finally allowed himself to play along with this dangerous dance. Joy transformed Momo's face when she said, "Your maid is here." The role of a servant turned into the key to her husband's heart. The gentle touches on his shoulders opened a new dimension to their relationship, and Momo's unconditional devotion made Lin Chu's heart tremble with an unusual tenderness. A sudden transformation swept over his being as the memory of the great actor poured into his consciousness like hot lava. Passion burst out like a hurricane. The violet flame in the eyes and torn clothes became symbols of the release of long-suppressed desires. The morning found him at his computer, where the cold reality of the hacker's failures with Jin Ming's phone reminded him of the unfinished game of cat and mouse with the enemy's spies. Thoughts of Jin Ming's secret communication channels circled Lin Chu's mind like vultures over a battlefield as his fingers flew across the keyboard, searching for invisible threads of conspiracy. Ryoko's sudden appearance broke his concentration, her presence like a shadow of the past, a reminder of unfulfilled promises. The heat of her body pressed against his shoulders turned a simple touch into a silent demand. The words about reaching the peak of the birth soul sounded like both a promise and a threat. A sly glint flashed in Lin Chu's eyes as he turned her wish into his weapon, framing the request as a mutually beneficial deal. His plan was expanding. The Yakuza's call to the city was supposed to be the spark that would light the gunpowder keg beneath the Jing family. The promise of shared practices became a sophisticated form of payment, with each new Yakuza fighter becoming a stepping stone towards their shared goal. The news of the literary triumph burst into the room along with the excited maid, and Master Wei's name turned into a virus that infected the entire information network. The opportunity to use the media lit a fire of anticipation in Lin Chu's eyes. The press conference was supposed to be the first act in the spectacle of the enemy's downfall. The appearance of a bald partner added a new piece to the chessboard of intrigue, where every move brought the denouement closer. The box of money became the seeds of future chaos, and the new store was meant to be a cover for a more dangerous game. The memory of the business shark poured into Lin Chu's mind like a poisonous potion, turning the naive boy into a ruthless strategist. Every word of the instructions sounded like the blow of a hammer driving nails into the lid of the Jing family's coffin. 3 months, the time allotted for the destruction of an entire dynasty, seemed at once an eternity and a moment. The promise of expulsion of enemies sounded like an ancient curse, where shame became a stigma on their proud name. The meeting between brother and sister at the hotel was fraught with the bitterness of unspoken accusations and the weight of unpaid debts. The sum of 200,000 thrown like a bone to a hungry dog turned into a mockery of real needs. Despair was evident in the words about the insufficiency of 2 million. The financial abyss opened up like a hungry mouth ready to swallow them both. Despair and anger merged in the sister's scream. Every word struck at old wounds. Her brother's gambling history turned into an endless spiral of decline, where each new turn carried them deeper into the abyss.
Helplessness clouded his brother's voice as he tried to explain his new downfall, the promise of debt relief sounding like a siren's song luring a sailor onto jagged rocks.
Horror pierced the maid's heart as the simple question of the creditor hung in the air like an executioner's axe, ready to fall on the victim's neck. The appearance of the Jing family's son cut through the air like a poisoned blade, his simplicity and good nature oozing with the poison of hidden intentions. The false playfulness of his greeting scratched the maid's soul as she sank into the chair like a bird in a golden cage. Her cold refusal to talk sounded like a last attempt at resistance, her words like a fragile shield against an oncoming avalanche. The guard's cruel grip on his brother's shoulders turned him into a living lever of pressure. Every second of his sister's hesitation was reflected in pain in his joints. The mocking generosity in the offer to leave sounded like a mockery. Freedom of choice turned into sophisticated torture. The sister's devotion to her brother became a chain that chained her to the negotiating table with the devil, whose smile promised new torments. The question about Lin Chu's spiritual energy sounded like the first drop of poison seeping through a crack in the wall of secrets. The maid's outward calm concealed a storm of emotions. Every word of lie about Lin Chu's ordinariness became a new stone in the wall of her beloved master's defense. The demand to slip a pill turned the trust between the maid and the master into a weapon against them both, the ease of execution making the betrayal even more disgusting. Anger gave strength to the fragile maid, and the blow to the table became the first act of open defiance. The shock of those around them at the maid's audacity turned the room into a frozen picture, where every face expressed different shades of amazement and fear. The threat of his brother's disability fell like the last weight on the scales of choice, and the cruelty of Jing's intentions finally took on its true face. Despair tears apart the silence of the room. Her brother's plea for help sounds like a broken string. Every sob pierces the maid's heart with sharp needles of helplessness. The pill in her trembling fingers turns into the scales of fate. The question of the nature of the poison becomes a last attempt to maintain control over the situation, balancing between loyalty and betrayal. The brutal truth about the lethal dose escapes the intriguer's lips like a snake's hiss. His confidence in the inevitability of the result sounds like a death knell. Behind the glasses hides the soul of a predator. Thoughts of hunting down scum poison his consciousness like a dark fog that distorts reality. A knock on the door of the Chen residence breaks the intimate silence, the maid's voice trembling with hidden tension. The tender embrace of the spouses on the bed becomes the last island of happiness before the approaching storm.
Chen Mo's embarrassment as she rushes to tidy herself up contrasts with the weight of the secret her faithful maid bears.
A tray of sweets becomes an altar of farewell, each treat imbued with the bitterness of an unspoken truth. A simple request for leave conceals an abyss of despair. The lady's consent sounds like a parting blessing. The maid's tears become crystals of her love and devotion. A silent prayer for the safety of her mistress breaks from the very depths of her soul. Despair and determination merged as the maid raised the tablet above her, and in that moment, death seemed the only worthy choice, the final act of loyalty. Fate intervened with Lin Chu's hand, his sudden appearance cutting through the web of inevitability as he intercepted the deadly pill, examining it with dangerous curiosity. The knowledge of the ancient masters of poison poured into his consciousness like a dark stream, turning the naive youth into a sophisticated connoisseur of deadly compounds. Whether it was reckless courage or secret calculation, his decision to swallow the pill froze time, turning a simple gesture into an act of supreme trust or foolishness. Horror engulfed the maid like an icy storm, her cry of denial cutting through the air as her heart sank at the thought of possible loss. The skill of a great actor has flowed into his being, transforming a simple guy into a virtuoso of deception, ready to play his greatest role. The one-man show was in full swing, his kneeling act accompanied by dramatic groans, every gesture honed to perfection. The maid's devotion was on full display, her cries of pure fear echoing off the walls as she bent over the prostrate body. Tears of remorse and anger mingled on her face as she reproached him for his recklessness, not realizing that she had witnessed the greatest spectacle. News of the son-in-law's death reached the Jing residence like sweet poison, while a smug smile played on the schemer's lips. The head of the family's anger tore through the silence of the house. His cry for a second burial sounded like an admission of his own powerlessness before an elusive enemy. A feeling of triumph flooded Cheng's mind as he reflected on his successful recruitment of the maid, every pawn on the board of intrigue now seeming to be correctly placed. 3 days passed in an instant, and now the actors of the great drama gathered around the coffin, each with his own mask of grief. Cheng's false lamentations about God's injustice sounded especially bitter. His words about his talented youth were saturated with the poison of hypocrisy. The voice from the coffin sounded like a bolt from the blue. The invitation to share the afterlife turned the funeral into a theater of the absurd. Horror and disbelief intertwined in Cheng's mind. His glasses almost slipped off his pale face when the voice from the coffin destroyed his illusion of control. Every second of hesitation echoed with a tremor in his soul. The events of 3 days ago surfaced in their memory like frames from an old film. Lin Chu's prostrate body in the arms of a sobbing maid, becoming the first act of their carefully staged performance. Desperation tinged every word the maid spoke as she begged him to return, her willingness to give everything for his life becoming the threads of a new connection between them. The boy's sudden resurrection was accompanied by a sly smile of victory. His request for better care sounded both like a reward and like a gentle reproach to a devoted servant. Amazement and joy mingled in her cry, as the realization of his vitality tore through the veil of grief, a sigh of relief ringing a new note in their shared symphony. The casual mention of the power of memories sounded like a revelation, his invulnerability to poison becoming another facet of his mysterious nature. His admission of wanting to tease her revealed a new side to their relationship, his surprise at the strength of her reaction betraying his growing affection. The maid's righteous anger spilled over into playful blows, her reproaches for the cruelty of the prank concealing the depth of the fear of loss she had experienced. The teasing about his willingness to sacrifice his life contained the seed of a serious question, his words probing the boundaries of her devotion. The sudden seriousness in his voice turned the playful moment into an interrogation, the question of the reasons for her willingness to sacrifice demanding an honest answer. The confused girl didn't know what to say and simply remained silent. The maid's tears washed away the story of blackmail and despair, every word about her brother and Cheng Jing's threats woven into the fabric of their common struggle. The gentle touch on her forehead was a silent promise of protection, a gesture that spoke more than words of comfort could ever express. The wisdom in his words about his brother's probable fate destroyed the last illusions, every word revealing the cruel truth of their world. Her helplessness about the future met his unshakable confidence, the tears on her cheeks glistening in the light of new hope. A promise of support, sealed with a touch on the shoulder, created a new alliance between them, each gesture strengthening their growing trust. The maid's last tears dissolved into thin air along with her fears, her acceptance of his protection, sounding in a simple, "well, I understood," opening a new chapter in their relationship. The cold logic of a strategist emerged in Lin Chu's thoughts, the necessity of her own death becoming a calculated move in the game for her brother's life. The plan of fake death unfolded before her like a game of chess where every move was calculated. Each piece knew its role in this spectacle of grief. Doubts about the master's consent flashed in her eyes like shadows from a candle, but the confidence in his voice dispelled the last of her fears. The promise to sort out all the details sounded like an oath of allegiance, while his mind was already calculating every step of the upcoming deception. Admiration for his selflessness blossomed in the maid's heart like a rare flower, nourished by sincere gratitude and growing affection. The sudden embrace became a bridge across the chasm of social differences, her gratitude becoming a physical embodiment of unspoken feelings. Behind the mask of embarrassment lurked the keen mind of a strategist, calculating ways to gain the family's support in this dangerous game. The father's surprise at the scale of the sacrifice for the sake of a simple maid collided with the cold-blooded logic of a deeper nature. The memory of the great strategist transformed a simple conversation into a military council, each word like a figure on the field of the coming battle. The mention of the cat recordings became a turning point in the conversation, and my father's interest flared like smoldering coals fanned by the winds of intrigue. The simple words about eradicating enemies sounded like a death sentence, sealed with the smile of the executor. The plan to capture Jing at the funeral unfolded before them in all its glory, the enemy's moment of greatest vulnerability becoming the key to his downfall. The father's insight into the nature of the ambush and interrogation was reflected in his eyes like a flash of lightning illuminating the path to victory. The confidence in the strength of the four guardians of the Chen family sounded the final chord in the symphony of their plot, turning the dream of revenge into a tangible reality. The head of the family's confidence in Sima Cha's strength sounded like thunder. The mere name of the legendary guardian made even the bravest opponents tremble. The father's heavy gaze turned to his daughter, penetrating into the very depths of her soul. This silent question concealed more than a simple demand for approval of the plan.
Chen Mo's agreement rang out like a soft melody in the tense atmosphere of the office, where every word about the good of the family carried echoes of ancient traditions and unspoken obligations.
The spouses' gazes met in a silent dialogue, where behind the wife's apparent submissiveness hid a growing connection, incomprehensible even to themselves. The blessing of the head of the family fell like the last drop in the cup of determination. His support turned the risky plan into inevitability. The assistant's surprise dissolved into the father's satisfied smile. The restoration of the son-in-law's aura became only part of a greater miracle, in which the cold hearts of his children thawed towards each other. The philosophical observation about the circle of life reflected the depth of change in the family, where old wounds were healed by time and love. His words about preparation rang with a hidden pride for the young couple. Their happiness was an unexpected bonus in the game of power. The maid's brother's despair burst out in a new request for money. his pleas for 200,000 sounding like an echo of an endless fall. The humiliated sobs at her feet turned family ties into chains, shackling the maid's heart with another unfulfillable promise. Master Wei's majestic figure radiated a cold curiosity, his question about his brother's presence containing more of a threat than concern. The maid's quiet whisper of Chen Jing's reaction to death sounded like a triumphant note in their secret symphony of revenge. The bitterness in her voice betrayed her weariness from the endless manipulations of her brother, whose thirst for revenge had become a chronic illness. The brother's drunken curiosity about the identity of his sister's mysterious interlocutor sounded the first chord of a new drama. The maid's desperate attempt to protect Master Wei's reputation fell flat, her every word about saving her brother only highlighting the depth of his fall. The brother's drunken smile revealed his true nature as he remembered the mister's past generosity, money becoming the only measure of human value in his distorted world. The brazen familiarity in the proposal of brotherly bonds made Master Wei shudder internally. Every word of the drunkard was imbued with self-interest and falsehood. Behind Lin Chu's calm mask, a storm of emotions was seething. The understanding of the hopelessness of the situation was intertwined with the desire to help the devoted maid. The gambler's memory rang like an alarm bell in his mind. Every sign of the impending tragedy was painfully familiar to him. The bitter wisdom of other people's experiences painted an inevitable path to self-destruction. 9 victories could not protect against one fatal defeat. Fatigue and disappointment shone through in the maid's words about her brother's endless problems, and each year added new wrinkles of worry to her face. The brother's drunken rudeness culminated in physical violence, and the sister's push became the last straw that broke Master Wei's patience. A silent rage boiled in Lin Chu's chest at the sight of his loyal servant being humiliated. Every muscle in his body tensed in anticipation of action. A lightning-fast movement saved the maid from falling. His words about the swamp of excitement contained the promise of a harsh lesson. The gambling addiction recovery plan sounded like a death sentence, the brutality of the upcoming treatment, a necessary price for salvation. False kindness oozed from the words about the loan. Every syllable was imbued with anticipation of the coming lesson. The mention of the test sounded the first stroke of fate's bell. The brother's resolve was to be tested by fire. His self-confident boasts about his readiness to do anything for money became the final nail in the coffin of his fate. The test conditions sounded deceptively simple, but 24 hours of film viewing turned into a ticket to personal hell. A smug smile blossomed on his brother's lips as the words about passing the test fell from his lips like the song of a winner unaware of the nightmare to come. Mr. gave the captive an appraising look, casually gesturing towards the metal chair, whose sinister design hinted at its true purpose. Anxiety momentarily clouded the maid's brother's face, but the thirst for easy money overshadowed his instinct for self-preservation, pushing him to a fatal decision. A wicked grin crossed Lin Chu's face as the soothing words about safety held a hint of anticipation for the upcoming lesson for the overconfident player. The metal shackles snapped like a trap, turning the boastful adventurer into a helpless puppet in the theater of a cruel lesson. In the cold light of the basement, the young man's invention appeared in all its dark glory, every detail of the torture device thought out with frightening care. The adventurer's gaze froze in mute horror as the forced viewing mechanism activated, turning a simple chair into an instrument of psychological torture. The screen mercilessly broadcast bloody scenes from the dark corners of the internet, where debtors paid with their limbs for their inability to repay what they borrowed. The prisoner's desperate cries echoed off the basement walls, while familiar faces of debtors on the screen foreshadowed his possible future. The sister's pleas for mercy were shattered by Master Wei's unwavering determination. Every frame of the brutal lesson was necessary to heal the gambling soul. The pragmatic explanation of the video's origins on the dark web sounded almost mundane, contrasting with the screams of horror from the debtor tied to the chair. In the empty warehouse, the maid's confession sounded especially sincere. Every word of repentance was imbued with gratitude to her unexpected savior. An unspoken desire to atone for her guilt hung in the air, and the fragile figure of the maid froze in anticipation of the opportunity to repay her invaluable help. A helpless confession of a desire to repay trembled in her voice, while her eyes searched the master's gaze for a clue on how to make amends for past grievances. The silence between them was filled with unspoken feelings, where gratitude was intertwined with a growing affection that went beyond the ordinary relationship of servant and master. Sinful thoughts crept into the young man's mind as memories of his wife in a maid's costume intertwined with the contemplation of a devoted servant whose sincerity awakened a strange excitement in him. Embarrassment colored the maid's cheeks with a delicate blush as the master's ambiguous hints hung in the air like an invisible web of omission. Awkwardness gripped Lin Chu's tongue as he realized the sudden intimacy of the moment, where every second of silence only increased the tension between them. Ryoko's appearance cut through the fragile atmosphere of the moment, her words about an assistant and the reminder of the promise of practice adding a new note to their interaction. The maid's innocent question about dual cultivation revealed the gap between her naivety and the sophistication of a bodyguard. A wicked smile curved Ryoko's lips as she revealed the true nature of spiritual practice, every word laced with a dark promise. The temptress moved like a predator, while her words about shared power held a deeper meaning than simple spiritual practice. Under the pressure of circumstances, the three found themselves drawn into a whirlpool of joint cultivation, where the boundaries between the spiritual and the carnal were blurred. The maid's tears glistened in the semi-darkness, but the ritual continued, driven by the iron will of the bodyguard and the silent consent of the master. Energy, like a cosmic radiance, enveloped their bodies, weaving the three entities into a single stream of strength and pleasure. A satisfied smile played on the lips of the cultivator, whose body absorbed the new power, like parched earth, life-giving moisture. After the ritual was completed, they settled down on the sofa, enveloped in the cozy bliss of shared experience and newfound strength. A blissful state enveloped Lin Chu, whose exhausted body basked in the streams of residual energy, like a tired traveler in warm waters. Streams of purified power pulsed through his body, transforming ordinary energy into the crystal-clear essence of spiritual power. Ryoko's question about reaching the core formation stage hung in the air, heavy with the residual tension of their shared experience. Thoughts about the relationship between the number of participants and the growth of strength swirled in the young man's head like autumn leaves in the wind. His words about the upcoming confrontation with Cheng Jin were filled with a newfound confidence, bolstered by the strength of their unusual alliance. A sinister smile curved Lin Chu's lips as the thought of testing his newfound strength on a worthy opponent reflected a dangerous glint in his eyes. The morning sun found the three of them in the same bed, Ryoko and Xiaohei sleeping peacefully, their breathing intertwined into a single rhythm of peace. The silence of the room was broken only by the quiet sounds of work, the young man's fingers moving with mechanical precision, massaging invisible points of power. The memories of the massage master flowed into his consciousness like a mountain stream, turning every movement into a part of the ancient art of healing. Through half-closed eyelids, the maid watched the master's concentrated face, whose determination gave his features a special appeal. In the morning twilight, her question about sleep and work sounded like an intimate whisper, full of undisguised concern for the master's well-being. The secret hidden behind his smile turned a simple invitation to visit his brother into a prelude to something greater and inevitable. In the basement, the nightmare continued, the screams of the debtors on the screen merging with the trembling of the exhausted prisoner, whose eyes could no longer close. Master Wei's touch on the sufferer's shoulder held a strange mixture of threat and comfort as his question revealed the depth of the trauma he had endured. The trembling refusal to gamble sounded like a prayer, rewarded by the merciful pressing of the release button. The shackles fell, releasing the exhausted body, but in the eyes of the freed one there was understanding. The true chains were deeper, in the soul itself. The master's words about hatred for creditors fell on fertile ground, each syllable resonating with the pain of the humiliations he had endured. The clever comparison of real creditors with the executioners in the video turned fear into rage, and the seeds of revenge found their way into the wounded heart. The offer of revenge sounded like a divine blessing, and behind the mask of a noble protector lurked a calculating manipulator. Admiration flooded the maid's heart, transforming her master into the perfect hero whose care for his brother seemed almost like divine intervention. In the Jing family's creditor's office, the atmosphere of power and money was stifling like a poisonous fog, obscuring the true intentions of its occupants. The fragile silence of the office shattered along with the door, violence bursting into the world of business suits like a hurricane sweeping away ostentatious respectability. Master Wei's figure loomed in the doorway, his presence filling the room with the electric tension of an impending storm. The creditor's indignant cry about family territory sounded like a pathetic attempt to maintain the illusion of control over a situation that was rapidly slipping out of his hands. An anticipatory smile played on the lips of the uninvited guest, while his words about a meeting and a fight tore through the thin veil of civilization. The scarred creditor appraised his opponent, whose spiritual core pulsed with the same force as his own. The leader's commands echoed off the walls, turning the cozy office into a battlefield where numerical superiority seemed like a reliable shield. A sinister ball with a skull appeared in the hands of the Avenger. The memory of the Master of Poisons transformed the harmless object into a deadly weapon. The green mist spread across the room like a living creature, causing panic among the creditors, whose cries for a smokescreen betrayed their naivety. A toxic haze obscured the outlines of objects, turning the familiar space into a labyrinth of fear and uncertainty. A blue glow of spiritual energy cut through the green mist, and Lin Chu appeared behind the enemy like a ghost of retribution. The blow, imbued with spiritual power, pierced the creditor's flesh, turning his cry of pain into a symphony of just retribution. The defeated enemy's pathetic excuses about the meanness of the stab in the back only emphasized the depth of his moral decline. Contempt twisted Master Wei's features as his foot landed on the creditor's body, physical superiority becoming the embodiment of moral triumph. His smile was a mixture of triumph and disgust, as words about the shamelessness of his opponents fell like drops of poison on their wounded pride. The furious dance of retribution continued. Every move Lin Chu made brought death and pain to the corrupted souls whose bodies fell like autumn leaves. In the air filled with poisonous fog, the Avenger's fist found its target. The blow to the third creditor's stomach sounded like the seal of a final judgment. Behind Master Wei, the bodies of his fallen enemies merged into a single picture of just retribution. But the main test still lay ahead. The leader's hoarse command to open the windows tore through the green haze. His finger pointed at the enemy, trembling with barely contained rage. The leader's transformation took place like an ancient ritual. His torn clothes revealed a body filled with power, and a crimson madness blazed in his eyes. The muscles bulged like steel cables, turning the once ordinary man into the embodiment of primal fury and inhuman strength. The air shook with a bestial roar. The leader's figure turned into a blur, rushing towards the enemy on a wave of pure hatred. At the moment of collision, time seemed to slow down. Lin Chu realized that in front of him was not just a bandit, but a natural-born killer with honed skills. The young man found himself in a whirlpool of a deadly dance, where every move could be his last, the speed of the attacks exceeding his defensive capabilities. The body betrayed its owner. Even the ability to anticipate blows did not save him from their lightning-fast implementation in the battlefield. The maid's cry about her beloved master's injury dissolved into the indifferent air of the office, where every second brought the denouement closer. Ryoko's wisdom came like a cold shower, her words about the need for combat experience revealing the brutal truth of war. Fear and admiration mixed in Siake's eyes as her heart was torn between the desire to protect and the need to allow her lover to grow through pain. The maid's unspoken confession hung in the air like the scent of spring flowers, her feelings for her master finally taking shape in her thoughts. The fight reached its climax, the opponent's movements merging into a single stream of violence where any mistake could be fatal. The Panther Claw technique transformed the leader's hands into deadly weapons, concentrated spiritual energy seeking its prey with the inexorability of fate. The office wall crumbled like a house of cards as the leader's blow met with nothing. The young man escaped death, but the battle was far from over. The tension in the room reached its limit. Every gift, every movement carried the promise of the inevitable denouement of this deadly dance. A revelation struck the fighter's mind, and his lack of reaction time turned every exchange of blows into a balancing act on the brink of life and death. A mysterious smile crossed Lin Chu's lips as his hand reached for his fur coat, a hidden weapon waiting in the wings, promising to turn the tide of the fight. The exoskeleton's frame gleamed in the dim light of the office, a creation of a brilliant mind that rendered the limitations of the flesh as nothing before the power of technology. The leader's furious roar shook the walls. His promise of death sounded like a funeral knell, but fate had a different outcome in store for this drama. In a dance of mortal combat, bodies intertwined and separated, enhanced reflexes allowing the young man to escape the enemy's deadly embrace. Confusion distorted the thug's features, and his incomprehension of the enemy's sudden transformation was reflected in his eyes in a bestial bewilderment. A mocking challenge escaped the bandit's lips, his words about running concealing a desperate attempt to regain control of the situation. The mockery of slowness and hunger struck more accurately than any fist. The beast's pride could not withstand the sting of mockery. Rage flooded the thug's mind like a blood-red mist, his threats vanishing in a roar of primal fury. The memory of the legendary fighter flowed into Lin Chu's consciousness like liquid fire, every muscle filled with the wisdom of the ages. The final blow sounded like the end of their confrontation, technology and martial arts merging into the perfect instrument of retribution. The leader's body crashed into the wall like a projectile, the concrete unable to withstand the impact of the fallen titan. The challenge to the others sounded in a ringing silence. the words of the winner hanging in the air like a raised sword. Horror gripped the remaining creditors, lightning bolts of fear dancing in their dilated pupils, turning their bravado to dust. Admiration colored the maid's voice as Ryoko revealed the secret of her master's power, the memory of 10,000 souls turning him into a living legend. A sly glance slid over the faces of his companions. A promise of continued adventures was hidden in his mysterious smile. The air was thick with the scent of tender care as the maid's fingers, clutching a soft napkin, slid across the master's face, erasing the traces of the recent struggle. Ryoko's mocking praise held an unexpected warmth, her usual taunt softened by genuine admiration for her charge's growing strength. A sudden touch on the bodyguard's shoulder broke down the usual barriers between them, the gesture carrying a depth of unspoken gratitude. Words of gratitude flowed like a mountain stream. Reaching the Golden Core stage became their shared triumph, weaving their destinies into a single pattern. The invitation to further practices sounded a note of temptation. The path to the birth of the soul turned into a dance of three hearts on the edge of what was permitted. Ryoko's passion broke through her mask of reserve, her embrace and offer of a night's practice promising more than just training. A quiet sadness tinged the maid's voice. Her refusal to continue practicing sounded like a farewell to a forbidden dream, leaving a bitter taste of unfulfillment. A routine report about checking the Jing family's holdings under the guise of Mr. Wei became a prelude to a new act in their dangerous game. Ryoko's tempting offer of a joint practice hung in the air, the promise of relaxation concealing deeper intentions. The maid's playful invitation to join was a last attempt to preserve their unusual unity, balancing on the edge of decency. Ryoko's playful gesture of restraint turned into an admission of a disturbing truth. The scent of mint could not hide the traces of their secret meetings from his wife's insight. The promise of future practice vanished into thin air like smoke. Time was to become their ally in this dangerous game of passions. Thoughts of her husband filled her mind with sweet anticipation, and every step towards home increased the excitement of the upcoming meeting. The image of a domineering police wife replaced the submissive maid in his imagination. The new role promised unexplored facets of their relationship. The electric tension grew with every step. The uncertainty of the upcoming meeting stirred the blood like strong wine. The stranger's sharp voice cut through the silence like a dagger. The director of the gifted society watched him from the tree, her words about the harem dripping with poisonous mockery. The blonde's graceful leap from the tree resembled the movement of a predator, her every gesture radiating dangerous elegance. The codename Strange Love hung in the air along with the unsettling question of its revealed location. The secrets of the past were beginning to catch up with its owner. A mocking confidence shone through the blonde's words. Her knowledge of the Chen family's son-in-law's bad reputation sounded like a declaration of war on the usual order of things. Her commanding gesture as she grabbed the young man's hand revealed an unshakable confidence in her right to decide destinies. The words about the initiation ceremony carried an ominous undertone. Ryoko's alarm erupted in a furious cry, her katana flashing in the sunlight, turning the mundane scene into a prelude to a deadly dance. The air was electric as the bodyguard shouted her demand, each word ringing with a readiness to protect her master until her last breath. The headmistress's declaration that the young man had been chosen by the goddess sounded like a challenge. Her spiritual power materialized like a thundercloud foreshadowing a storm. A wave of pure energy cut through space. Ryoko's graceful leap turning the deadly blow into a useless burst of power. A revelation pierced Lin Chu's consciousness like lightning, the blonde's strength reaching the soul birth stage, turning their confrontation into a battle of titans. The thrill of battle flooded the bodyguard's consciousness. Her jump carried within itself all the power acquired in intimate practices with the master. The anticipation of a real fight colored Ryoko's voice with new notes, her gratitude for her increased strength turning into a thirst to test its limits. Strange Love's command not to interfere sounded like a clap of thunder, the codename holding more power than it seemed at first glance. In a swift movement, the blonde pressed the young man to herself, their rolling on the asphalt turning a simple dodge into an intimate moment of dangerous closeness. Impatience distorted the headmistress's features. Time, slipping through her fingers like sand, demanded decisive action. The ancient words of the spell flowed like dark honey, the call to the goddess sounding like a love song, each syllable laced with the promise of power. The transformation took place like a blossoming flower, the image of a European blonde dissolved in the radiance of the goddess Eve. Recognition paralyzed Ryoko, the memory of past encounters with the deity gripping her body like icy chains. Arrogance oozed from the reborn goddess's words, and her promise to use only 1,000th of her power sounded like a sophisticated insult. The goddess's power fell like an avalanche, and the body of the bodyguard collapsed like a helpless doll whose strings were mercilessly cut. The bodyguard's body lay sprawled on the cold floor, her closed eyes and limply outstretched arms testifying to the crushing power of the divine blow. In Lin Chu's mind, reality was shattered into pieces. The transformation of the haughty headmistress into a deity turned an ordinary skirmish into a clash with forces beyond human comprehension. Eternity splashed in the eyes of the reborn goddess. Her command to follow her sounded not like a request, but like an inevitability predetermined by fate itself. The walls of the gifted society welcomed them into their arms. The return of the headmistress to human form filled the air with new tension. Lin Chu's confusion about the bedroom instead of the ceremonial hall was fraught with an uneasy premonition, every step leading him deeper into the web of someone else's plans. Her words about the double ceremony came as a bolt from the blue, the wedding vows turning a simple dedication into an act of eternal submission. The young man's desperate protest about his existing wife crashed against the wall of fanatical conviction. Prayers to the goddess turned into a declaration of possessiveness. The brutal throwing of her onto the bed revealed the full depth of her obsession. Physical violence became a continuation of spiritual coercion. Her demand to forget about past attachments sounded like a sentence. Every word struck at the foundations of his existence. The imperious fingers on the boy's chin became shackles, her declaration of ownership carrying the weight of eternal slavery. There was a madness in the reminder that she was forbidden from having relationships with other women. Her obsession with the goddess had turned love into a tool of control. Behind Lin Chu's mask of submissiveness lay a keen strategist's mind, and watching the transformation of the haughty aristocrat into an obsessed beauty opened up new possibilities for manipulation. His cry for justice and the desire for happiness for all women sounded like a skillful provocation, every word hitting the target of her jealousy. The threat of force hung in the air like a poisoned blade, her raised hand promising divine retribution. The unexpected rebuff shook the headmistress's self-confidence. The young man's physical strength destroyed the illusion of his helplessness. His agreement to stay contained the cunning of the serpent tempter. His request for help turned into a hook on which the proud priestess was destined to fall. Thoughts of using her against Cheng Jin circled around his mind like birds of prey, each plan containing the seeds of future revenge. The mention of an upcoming funeral sounded like an invitation to a dance of death. His request for help in capturing the young man turned a personal vendetta into a common cause. The headmistress's eyes gleamed with divine confidence, and her words about incomparable strength sounded like a hymn to her own greatness, imbued with the blessing of the goddess. The heat of her body pressed against the young man turned simple closeness into a silent demand, every movement carrying the promise of inevitable unity. Embarrassment colored Lin Chu's cheeks as her figure covered him like a living blanket, the imperiousness of her gestures leaving no room for resistance. An intimate whisper about the coming night touched his ear like poisonous honey, each word concealing a mixture of promise and threat. The solitude turned the room into an arena for their confrontation, the demand for total surrender sounding in her voice like a priestess's command to her sacrificial lamb. The curiosity in her words about divine love hid darker intentions, every gesture betraying a growing obsession with his essence. Her touches betrayed the impatience of a researcher. The search for a special gift became a pretext for a more intimate study. Disgust at the madness of the situation warred in the young man's mind with the understanding of his own powerlessness in the face of divine power. The bitter realization of the inequality of their capabilities pushed him to seek workarounds. Direct confrontation meant inevitable defeat. Cunning became his only weapon. The need to take the initiative turned desperation into a source of ingenuity. Her prayerful ecstasy reached its peak. The thought of separating the man from the goddess turned her into a kind of obsessed bacchante. The blue pill slipped between his fingers like a tiny hope of salvation, the silence becoming a cover for the planned plan. The kiss became the perfect delivery weapon, every movement of his lips calculated to imperceptibly transfer the life-saving poison. His thoughts were filled with confidence in the potion's effectiveness, and his past life experiences had turned a simple kiss into a deadly trap. Sleep covered them like a dark blanket, the two bodies on the bed frozen in a strange dance of unfinished seduction, where the insidious potion emerged victorious. Within the walls of Chen's residence, the young man finally allowed himself a victorious smile, thoughts of the impending clash of opponents filling his heart with the anticipation of perfect revenge. His quiet whispers about the upcoming performance contained the dark satisfaction of a puppeteer whose puppets would soon begin their deadly dance. A sudden touch on his back made him freeze, the alien warmth so familiar and dangerous at the same time, turning triumph into alarm. Chen Mo's voice rang with the steel of resentment and longing. Her question about his absence was imbued with the bitterness of a long wait and the fear of loss. The mention of the Japanese school uniform sounded like a bitter reproach. Her readiness for transformation shattered against the wall of its absence. Jealousy and pain broke through in her every word. Her cry about his whereabouts concealed the fear of the ghosts of betrayal. The accusation of interest in other women hung in the air like a poisoned dagger, her insecurity turning love into a torture of suspicion. The desperation in his voice was mixed with weariness. Every word of denial struck an endless circle of unfounded jealousy. The bitter reminder of the incident at the hotel turned their dialogue into a dance on the fragments of past misunderstandings. Admitting she was wrong was not easy for her. Her words about worry were tinged with an attempt to build a bridge across the chasm of mistrust. The unexpected voice calling the young man brother cut through the tense atmosphere, and Chen Mo's surprise reflected the strangeness of what was happening. Sima Cha intervened like a peacemaker, his assurances about the absence of other women tinged with irony.
Behind the red-haired guard's mask of respect lay a knowing grin. The secret of the master's triple affair had become his personal amusement.
The invitation to the fake funeral sounded like a signal for the beginning of the final act of their shared play. The father's ceremonial introduction of Ji Minqing, the head of the four guards, was filled with the pride of a military leader displaying his most formidable weapon. The words about the highest level of soul birth and the heavenly spiritual root of the giant sounded like a declaration of war, each syllable carrying the promise of unstoppable power. The words about the giant's superior strength sounded like a death knell, each syllable highlighting the gulf between ordinary cultivators and this embodiment of power. Zimin Qing's commanding statement about confronting Cheng Jing alone was filled with contempt for the young master, and the order to remain in the coffin sounded like an insult. Sima's intercession was a warm note in the cold symphony of arrogance, his faith in his adopted brother's strength countering the guardian's ancient pride. The disdain oozed from the giant's words like poison, the mention of the core formation stage, turning into a slap in the face of the young cultivator. Lin Chu's voice rang with the steel of suppressed anger, his request for a blow carrying the promise of an unexpected lesson. Anger gave his words a special sharpness. Each syllable was sharpened like the blade of an ancient sword. The giant's condescending permission crashed against the rock of his self-confidence. The thought of the futility of the youth's attack seemed to him an obvious truth. Behind Ji Minqing's calm mask was absolute contempt. His spiritual defense seemed invincible to him in the face of trash. The glance towards the maid held a special meaning. The mention of joint cultivation colored the girl's cheeks with a slight blush. The warm-up turned into a ritual. Every movement of his fists carried with it the promise of the coming humiliation of the proud man. Orange flames engulfed the youth's body like a divine radiance, his joking address as uncle contrasting with the power of the awakened force. The impact turned into an explosion of pure energy. The orange glow swept away the giant like a straw in a hurricane. Disbelief distorted the features of the fallen titan, and blood on his lips became the first sign of the collapse of his unshakable confidence. The contrast between the physical sizes of the opponents turned the scene into a living metaphor, with the little David once again triumphing over the overconfident Goliath. Rage seethed in the defeated giant's throat, and the accusation of a joint attack was a last attempt to preserve the remnants of pride in the face of crushing defeat. The head of the family's commanding voice cut through the growing tension like a sword, his words about the coming battle reminding everyone of a more important goal than petty squabbles. A bitter resentment blossomed in Chen Mo's soul. Every new detail about her husband's spiritual strength, known to outside women, stung her heart like a poisonous wasp. Loneliness enveloped her like a dark veil. The awareness of her own detachment from her husband's secrets turned love into a source of pain.
Cheng Jing's appearance at the funeral brought dissonance into the mourning ceremony. His commanding shout at the idle people to step aside sounded like a false note in the symphony of grief.
The servant's polite words about selective admission contained a subtle irony, and respect for Cheng Jing turned into a sophisticated trap. The enemy's lustful gaze slid over the widow's figure, his words about stunning beauty turning mourning into misplaced admiration. The black Korean robes turned Chen Mo into the embodiment of elegant sorrow. The white veil hid her eyes, but could not hide the inner tension. Cheng Jing's false lamentations of divine injustice cut through the air, every word dripping with the poison of feigned grief. Behind his smile, there was a dark satisfaction, a love for the injustice of the world that revealed the true nature of this predator in human skin. The voice from the coffin sounded like a bolt from the blue. The invitation to share in the afterlife turned the funeral into a theater of the absurd. Shock paralyzed the enemy's consciousness. The reality of what was happening shattered against his ideas about the boundaries of the possible. Cheng Jing's gaze darted between the maid and the widow, searching for clues. The fear of an impossible resurrection distorting his features. The denial of the reality of what was happening broke through in hysterical notes. His words about the silence of the dead revealed the depth of the shock. The movement of the coffin lid hid the inevitability of fate. The offer to join sounded like a sentence, clothed in the form of a kind invitation. The realization of deception pierced Cheng Jing's consciousness like an icy dagger. The thought of the enemy's apparent death turned confidence into dust. Curiosity pushed him towards the coffin like an invisible hand, each step bringing him closer to the denouement of the carefully staged performance. Lin Chu's closed eyes hid the hunter's triumph. His words about waiting for an answer were the last thread tightening the trap. The Avenger's suddenly wide-open eyes met the gaze of his victim, and a simple "look here" turned into an executioner's command to his prey. Terror distorted Cheng Jing's features. His retreat from the coffin resembled the flight of a beast cornered by an unknown force. Like an enraged bull, Seaman burst into the battle arena, his powerful blow aimed at the impudent opponent who dared to disrupt the plans. Ryoko's figure flashed through the crowd, and her gesture of tearing off her hat became the signal to begin the operation to encircle the enemy. The bodyguard's order echoed throughout the area, each guard becoming a link in a human chain, tightening around Jing's retinue. Shock paralyzed the enemy guards. The reality of what was happening shattered their notions of a simple funeral. Despair seeped into Jing's voice. The admission of his own powerlessness before the giant's might sounded like the first harbinger of defeat. In the fight with Seaman, every movement of Jing betrayed fear. The threat of death at the hands of the giant seemed inevitable. Lin Chu rose from the coffin like a risen avenger, with a strange love next to him watching the unfolding drama with childish curiosity. The headmistress's nonchalance, sucking on a lollipop, contrasted with the intensity of the battle, her confidence in the strong man's strength bordering on disdain. A cold analysis of the balance of power flowed from her lips like a verdict, the difference in spiritual strength foreshadowing Jing's inevitable defeat. Behind Cheng's grin as he fought, there was a hidden plan, his movements betraying his readiness for the decisive blow. The space around the battle was filled with a crimson glow. Jing's grip on the giant's throat turned the air into a blazing inferno. The headmistress's cry of spiritual siphoning cut through the heated air, the recognition of the ancient technique tinging her voice with reverent horror. The rarity of the heavenly spiritual root was confirmed in all its glory, every second demonstrating the power of the legendary gift. Ecstasy distorted the features of the family's enemy. His words about the divine sensation betrayed the dark pleasure of the forbidden technique. Lin Chu's voice was filled with astonishment as he asked Sima about the power of this technique. The explanation of the ability's origins sounded like an ancient legend, the story of poisonous baths and a 3-year ordeal revealing the price of this power. Sima's grim observation of the technique's mechanics underscored its ruthlessness, a simple touch to the neck turning any opponent into a helpless victim. The tense dialogue between the headmistress and Lin Chu about the possibilities of confrontation cut through the air. Her self-confident words of superiority sounded the first warning bell of the impending disaster. Sima's wise warning about overconfidence dissolved into the headmistress's pride. His experience told him that underestimating an opponent often became a fatal mistake in battle. A sudden terror gripped the trio of observers like chains of ice, their gazes fixed on one point, betraying an understanding of the impending catastrophe. A majestic dome of pure energy materialized in the space above them, its radiant blue turning day into twilight and reality into something resembling an ancient legend. 2 figures lay sprawled on the ground, a fallen giant with his face turned towards the heavens, and Cheng, his hair flowing freely, his body radiating newfound power. The family's enemy's gaze was fixed on his own fingers, which were emitting a crimson glow. The process of absorbing the alien energy had transformed his power into something darker and more dangerous. The transformation reached its climax, red flames engulfing his body like a hellish bonfire, while a mad grin distorted his features, reflecting the triumph of his newfound power. The realization of having achieved the divine path flooded his consciousness like a tidal wave, every cell of his being pulsating with newfound power. Lin Chu's cry of incredible growth of the enemy's spiritual power cut through the air like lightning. The understanding of the scale of the threat turned the situation into a real nightmare. The headmistress's movements finally showed signs of unease, and the chewed lollipop was the first sign that even her self-confidence was cracking in the face of a real threat. Her dash forward was accompanied by a war cry about the power of a goddess. Each word was imbued with a fierce confidence in her superiority over any opponent. Lin Chu's desperate cry, activating the ancient cultivator's memory, tried to stop the headmistress's reckless impulse. His understanding of the situation demanded a more cautious approach. The ritual words of the goddess's summoning fell from her lips like an ancient incantation, each syllable bringing the moment of divine transformation of your mortal body closer. The headmistress's metamorphosis unfolded in all its glory, the human shell dissolving, giving way to a divine essence whose power promised to crush any enemy. Lin Chu's warning about the 3-minute window of vulnerability sounded like a revelation. His knowledge of the nature of spiritual attacks could be the key to victory or defeat in this fight. The youth's foresight proved prophetic, and the enemy's ghostly form rushed to attack using its ephemeral nature as a deadly advantage. Impotent rage distorted the girl's divine features. Her blow passed through her incorporeal opponent, turning her superiority into a useless theatrical gesture. The scarlet trickle of blood that flowed from the corner of the headmistress's mouth after the spirit's blow became an ominous omen. The invisible attack proved more terrible than any material weapon. Time seemed to freeze as her body sank limply to the ground, and Lin Chu's eyes showed a realization that the situation had gone far beyond their original plan. Tenderness cut through the young man's usual reserve as he lifted the wounded woman into his arms, his rebuke of her haste tinged with genuine concern for her well-being. The promise of victory hung in the air, but the enemy's triumphant laughter turned it into bitter irony. The challenge to a fair fight sounded like a mockery of their carefully planned ambush. The dramatic confrontation between maid and mistress unfolded like an ancient tragedy, the servant's loyalty clashing with the wife's unwavering determination to protect her husband. Ryoko's appearance with her katana drawn added a new note to the symphony of battle, her readiness for revenge written in every movement of her honed blade. The bodyguard's smile held a dark promise, and her words about increased spiritual energy sounded like a foretaste of coming retribution for a past defeat. Chang Jing's arrogant cry of disparity cut through the air like a poisoned dagger, every word laced with the poison of contempt for the enemy. His suggestion to retreat sounded like a sophisticated mockery, the threat of death turning simple advice into a deadly ultimatum. The headmistress's bitter confession of her own powerlessness and injury turned into a pinning of hope on Lin Chu, her faith in his potential being the last trump card in their desperate game. The young man's surprise clashed with her confidence in the power of divine magic. Every word about the coming power sounded like a promise of incredible transformation. The moment of transfer of divine energy transformed simple physical contact into a mystical ritual, her willingness to share her power, the ultimate act of trust. In the space of the coffin, time seemed to stand still. The headmistress's words about the complexity of the method concealed the depth of ancient knowledge inaccessible to mere mortals. The curiosity in the young man's voice clashed with the mystery of her hints, and the mention of the similarity of their encounters with the goddess turned the dialogue into a prelude to something more. Lin Chu's confusion dissolved into the unexpected kiss, the touch of her lips becoming the key to the gate of divine power that he had never even suspected. Energy surged through his body like molten lava, every cell filled with a power beyond human capabilities. Reality dissolved, giving way to a mystical dimension. The majestic gates before them became a symbol of the transition into the world of divine beings. The casual pose of the goddess Eve, sipping alcohol, contrasted with the solemnity of the moment. Her words of warning sounded like a reproach to foolish children. The continuation of her speech emphasized the limits of mortal possibilities. The reminder of the need for conscription turned their unauthorized appearance into a bold challenge to the established order. The headmistress's words to the goddess were imbued with remorse. Her recognition of her own haste and her readiness to accept punishment revealed the depth of her devotion to the deity. The submission in the girl's voice contrasted with the seriousness of the offense. Every word about accepting the consequences sounded like an oath of absolute loyalty to a higher power. A revelation struck Lin Chu's mind as the headmistress's true name spilled from her divine lips, Rania carrying within her the echoes of ancient royal blood. The words of strange love intertwined despair and hope. The story of Cheng Jin's attainment of the divine path turned into a plea for the transmission of sacred technique. The gaze of the goddess Eve, directed into the eyes of the young man, concealed an abyss of unspoken reproaches. Her question about oblivion sounded like a prelude to something greater. The calm anger in the goddess's voice seemed more terrifying than any scream. The mention of the limits of patience turned a simple conversation into balancing on the brink of disaster. The goddess's unexpected embrace knocked the ground from under the young man's feet, and his cry of her name sounded like a confession of something more than simple recognition. The proposal of dual cultivation sounded both tempting and threatening. The warning about the weakness of the mortal body highlighting the danger of divine intimacy. The words about a past kiss and a month-long coma contained a story full of secrets, and his request for help in restoring his memory sounded almost desperate. The goddess's cryptic answer about the connection with 10,000 souls turned into a new puzzle, each word only deepening the mystery of his true essence. The orange pill in the divine mouth shone like a small sun. Her words about finding meaning on her own turned the artifact into a key to the mystery. The confusion in the young man's voice revealed the depth of his bewilderment. The mention of the fragmented nature of his memories and the lack of connection between personalities sounded like an admission of defeat. The goddess's wisdom was evident in her words about the insufficient absorption of souls, and every movement of her fingers as she played with the tablet hypnotized with its grace. The offer of help sounded like a deal. The demand to reveal a code name turned the simple handing over of a pill into a test for the right to wield divine power. Lin Chu's confusion about the nature of the code name collided with the brutal truth, the threat of his lover's death at the hands of Cheng Jing, turning a simple question into a matter of life and death. While Lin Chu remained in the divine dimension, his loyal bodyguard waged a desperate battle for his honor, every blow of her katana carrying an echo of her unwavering devotion. The disparity in power became more and more obvious with each passing second of the confrontation. Cheng Jing's mocking words about her weakness hurt more than any physical blow. Contempt dripped from every word the enemy spoke about his unnamed friend, his mockery of Lin Chu's masculinity, turning a simple fight into a test of the bodyguard's loyalty. The threat of imminent death sounded like a sentence in Cheng Jing's voice. His promise not to let his enemy escape filled the air with anticipation of a bloody denouement. The red energy emanating from his hand pulsed like a living being, and even without much effort, its power seemed capable of destroying everything in its path. In a desperate attempt to protect her master, Ryoko deflected deadly attacks with her katana, her cry of defense ringing with the determination to die rather than retreat. Rage distorted Cheng Jing's features as the girl's stubbornness began to irritate him. The order to get out of the way thundered like a clap of thunder. The last bits of strength were leaking out of the bodyguard's body like sand through her fingers. Every movement required incredible effort of will. The goddess's observation of the little girl's devotion sounded with unexpected warmth, her words about the wounded protector's self-sacrifice concealing hidden approval. Consciousness was filled with thoughts about his own identity, and the mystery of the connection between 10,000 souls became the key to unlocking his true name. Cheng Jing's mocking words about turning a fake funeral into a real one echoed off the walls. His attempt to get the coffin out carried a mortal threat. Chen Mo's angry cry cut through the air like a whip, her accusation of meanness causing her opponent to freeze in surprise for a moment.
Paternal concern broke through the mask of restraint. His attempt to protect his daughter from certain death was dictated by the understanding of the monstrous difference in strength.
Cheng Jing's fist, filled with deadly energy, rushed towards the coffin, every second bringing the moment of inevitable collision closer. The sudden change in the situation caught the enemy off guard. The reality of what was happening did not fit into his ideas of what was possible. The enemy's confusion reached its peak. His inability to comprehend what had happened turned confidence into bewilderment. The maid's figure, shrouded in a blue glow of spiritual energy, turned into the embodiment of unexpected salvation, her appearance changing the balance of power on the battlefield. Xiao Hei's vow to protect her master until he awakened sounded like an ancient incantation, every word imbued with the power of absolute devotion. The maid's movements, moving the coffin with spiritual power, showed incredible grace. Her abilities exceeded all the expectations of those present. Cheng Jing's bewilderment turned to rage, his inability to understand the nature of the maid's sudden speed turning confidence into painful incomprehension. The decisive moment came 2 minutes before the drama, when the maid turned to Sima for help, her plea for the acceleration technique holding within it the last hope. Understanding flickered in the red-haired guard's voice as he asked about his legendary technique, his every word laced with a willingness to share secret knowledge. The maid's uncertainty about the exact name of the technique was mixed with the determination to use any chance. Her request for help sounded like the last bastion of her master's defense. Sima's agreement came with an important limitation. The 15 minutes the technique lasted would become an hourglass, measuring the time for rescue. The maid's rapid leaps turned the space into a blur, each movement bringing her closer to the limits of her borrowed power. The only question that swirled in her thoughts was the question of a safe haven. The search for a place for her master's coffin turned into a race against time and fate. Cheng Jing's sudden appearance behind him sounded like a death sentence, his cry to stop turning any hope of salvation into dust. The cruel grip on the maid's throat became the embodiment of his superiority. Every moment of squeezing turned her resistance into agony. The mocking invitation to continue running was laced with venom. His words, laced with mockery, were sharper than any blade. In the divine temple, Lin Chu's mind raced in search of an answer, and thoughts about the connecting link between the masters of different fields turned into a painful puzzle. The question of the originality of his predecessors rang in the emptiness of the temple. The search for a common denominator seemed the key to unraveling his own essence. Cheng Jing's bewilderment at the reasons for such devotion from those around him sounded almost sincere. His lack of understanding of the nature of loyalty only emphasized the depth of his fall. The maid's plea for her master's mercy broke through her constricted throat, each word imbued with pure, unclouded devotion. The enemy's foot, placed on the coffin, caused a strange reaction, A barely noticeable movement inside foreshadowed an unexpected turn of events. The opening of the coffin lid revealed a picture that stirred the dark waters of his soul. The sight of the sleeping people intensified his desire to destroy everything that symbolized the purity of feelings. Contempt oozed from his every word about the absurdity of what was happening, and his mockery of the maid's devotion revealed the depth of his own emptiness. Red energy pulsed ominously around Cheng Jing's hand, his promise of a quick death turning the maid's last words into a farewell whisper. The blow sent the maid's frail body into unconsciousness, her limp fall to the ground symbolizing the fall of the last barrier between the killer and his victim. There was a sinister satisfaction in Cheng Jing's gait as he made his way to the coffin, the lack of protectors turning his path to revenge into a mere formality. The scarlet glow of spiritual power flooded the space like a bloody fog, every second bringing the moment of the inevitable denouement closer. Lin Chu's peaceful sleep in the coffin seemed like a mockery of what was happening, his quiet snores contrasting with the tension of the mortal threat. In the temple of the goddess, the young man felt an invisible hand squeezing his throat, and his labored breathing became a bridge between two realities. Among the mountain peaks, the goddess Eve accused someone of betrayal. Her words about 1,000 years of joint cultivation sounded like a prelude to an ancient tragedy. The desperate denial of betrayal echoed off the temple walls, every word of the ancient version of Lin Chu, laced with the pain of misunderstanding. The image of his past incarnation was striking in its nobility. His long hair and traditional attire gave him the appearance of a true cultivator of antiquity. The goddess's wrath reached its peak the moment she touched the traitor's forehead. The curse of soul destruction sounded like a final sentence. A purple glow engulfed the ancient cultivator's body, every particle of his being vibrating with divine punishment. An epiphany pierced the consciousness of modern Lin Chu. The understanding of the true nature of the 9,999 souls opened the veil of secrecy. The orange flames erupting from his eyes became an outward manifestation of his inner transformation, each soul becoming a fragment of his own essence. The bitter truth about betrayal and punishment finally took shape. Fragments of the soul scattered across time and space became evidence of divine vengeance. The goddess's demand to reveal her true name sounded like the final test, and in her hand the tablet turned into the key to rebirth. His answer revealed the full depth of their connection. Each title, lover, true love, vanquished enemy, eternal partner, opened a new facet of their relationship. The headmistress's astonishment reflected the scale of the transformation taking place, the former Lin Chu dissolving into the awakening ancient essence. The grand announcement of the supreme immortal's status came like a bolt from the blue, the pause before the name was revealed filling the air with electricity. The goddess's willingness to hand over the alchemical tablet betrayed her satisfaction at awakening an ancient memory in her lover. The kiss turned into a moment of truth. The spoken name of Wang Hong sounded like a key unlocking the gate to divine power. A cruel grin twisted Cheng Jing's face as his fingers tightened around the helpless maid's throat, every second of strangulation bringing him dark pleasure. Sioke's weak breathing became increasingly ragged. Her emaciated body, spread out on the ground, seemed like a broken doll in the hands of a merciless puppeteer. The mocking message to Lin Chu was laced with poison. The promise of a quick meeting between the maid and her master in the afterlife turned a simple murder into a sophisticated revenge. Ryoko's sudden intervention with her restored strength ruined the assassin's plans, her appearance becoming a ray of hope in the pitch darkness of despair. The unexpected attack forced Cheng Jing to retreat, his sideways leap betraying his irritation at the disruption of his plans. The noble gesture of the bodyguard who covered the wounded allowed Chen Mo to reach the maid. The anxiety in the mistress's voice revealed genuine concern for her faithful servant. A faint smile lit up Siake's exhausted face. Her gratitude for her rescue was laced with boundless devotion to her mistress.
Chen Mo's question about the acceleration technique was filled with admiration for the maid's resourcefulness, and every word revealed growing respect for her dedication.
The maid's plea for Lin Chu's salvation sounded like a final request, her words full of faith in her mistress's strength and nobility. Determination overcame the fear in Chen Mo's heart, and accepting this dangerous mission turned the spoiled heiress into a true protector. A mad smile blossomed on Cheng Jing's face once again, his regained balance after the unexpected attack foreshadowing a new wave of cruelty. The display of monstrous strength turned the bodyguard's resistance into a useless gesture, his energy binding her like steel chains. Contempt oozed from his words about the inequality of their forces. The stolen katana became a symbol of her helplessness in the face of a superior enemy. The brutal truth about the difference between the birth of the soul and the divine path sounded like a death sentence, every word striking at the pride of the defeated warrior. There was a dark anticipation in his last words, The need to search for opponents was gone when the victims themselves fell into his hands.
Cheng Jing's brute strength was evident in the sharp tug he gave the bodyguard's blouse, his actions betraying a bestial pleasure in his own superiority.
Chen Mo's fragile figure, holding the wet bodies of the headmistress and her husband, turned into a human shield. An accidental fall into the water became a prelude to the decisive battle. The menace in Cheng Jing's voice took on a new tone as he addressed Chen Mo. His promise to deal with her for trying to save the idiot sounded like a death sentence. The careless gesture that tossed the bodyguard aside like a useless doll made the mistress's heart clench with horror. Every movement of the enemy radiated deadly grace. The swift leap turned Lin Chu's body into a pedestal for the enemy's foot, a gesture of humiliation calculated for maximum intimidation. Tears of despair glistened in Chen Mo's eyes, her trembling question betraying the depth of her fear of her opponent's madness. The madness in Cheng Jing's voice reached its peak, his obsession with killing Lin Chu turning into a twisted proof of the sacrifice's importance. The lady's desperate attempt to use spiritual energy seemed like the last bastion of defense, her determination contrasting with her limited capabilities. Cheng Jing's mocking laughter cut through the air, his mockery of the weakness of her spiritual power laced with the poison of absolute superiority. Chen Mo's voice took on a tone of businesslike proposition, her attempt to buy mercy with money and power betraying her desperate desire to save her husband at any cost. The cruel grip on the mistress's hand was accompanied by an unexpected confession. Contempt for material values revealed the true nature of his desires. The mad whispers of his one desire to possess her turned the situation into a nightmare, every word dripping with dark obsession. The appearance of the transformed Lin Chu was like that of a supreme being. The white hair and lightning in his eyes turned him into the embodiment of divine wrath. The realization of mortal danger finally penetrated Cheng Jing's consciousness, and the order to remove his dirty hands sounded like the first toll of the bell of his fate. The protagonist's transformation had reached its peak, with orange energy surrounding his snow-white hair and piercing gaze creating the image of an angry deity. Confusion distorted the enemy's features, the incomprehension of the source of the debris' sudden power turning his confidence into agonizing doubt. The righteous man's anger colored Lin Chu's every movement as he grabbed his enemy's hand, his promise to teach him a lesson for touching his wife sounding like an inescapable sentence. For the first time in his life, Cheng Jing felt paralyzing fear, the rapid shift in the balance of power turning him from predator to prey. Spiritual energy swirled around the fist like a deadly whirlwind. The blow to the enemy's stomach became the first chord of the symphony of retribution. The enemy's body flew several meters like a broken doll. Every centimeter of the flight was saturated with the pain of humiliation. The victor's commanding gaze pinned the defeated opponent to the wall, his silent superiority speaking louder than any words. The second blow turned Cheng Jing's face into a mask of pain, the mockery of his divine path sounding especially bitter in light of his defeat. The whisper about the right hand sounded more terrible than any scream. The quiet words concealed the promise of inevitable injury. Despair broke through in pleas for mercy, the admission of error, and the request to save his hand turned the proud warrior into a whining coward. The demand to hand over the spies sounded like a favor. Every word Lin Chu said was imbued with an authority that did not require raising his voice. Cheng Jing's trembling fingers fumbled in search of the flash drive, every movement betraying his fear of possible reprisal. The transfer of information became an act of capitulation, the small device symbolizing the collapse of all the traitor's plans. The promise to spare his hand sounded like royal favor. The condescension of the victor only emphasized the depth of the defeater's fall. Behind Cheng Jing's mask of humility lurked a thirst for revenge, and his thoughts of future retribution contained the seeds of new enmity. Lin Chu's sudden turn of events shattered the illusion of easy forgiveness, and the clarification about the fate of the rest of the body turned hope into dust. Cheng Jing's indignation was shattered by the cold logic of the victor. The betrayal of the spies was only the beginning of his retribution. The merciless promise to take away the inner core sounded like a sentence. Every word Lin Chu said, imbued with cold rage, foreshadowing the inevitable retribution for all sins. The masterful strike to the abdomen turned into a deadly extraction technique, the thousands of years of experience of ancient cultivators guiding every movement of his hand with frightening precision. The scarlet glow of the extracted core pulsated like a living being. The transparent lump of spiritual energy seemed to be the concentration of all the life force of the defeated enemy. Cheng Jing's desperate cries of broken promise echoed off the walls, every word of betrayal sounding especially ironic, coming from someone who knew no honor himself. Lin Chu's contemptuous response revealed the depth of his disgust for his opponent. the loss of his skills merely a just retribution for years of atrocities and betrayals. The realization of his own powerlessness flooded Cheng Jing's consciousness like a poisonous fog. The loss of the ability to use spiritual energy turned him into an empty shell. The genuine admiration in Ryoko's voice was mixed with a slight reproach. Every word about her master's newfound strength betrayed her regret for her own wasted energy. The warmth of the embrace transformed the moment of triumph into a family bond, and Lin Chu's gratitude for saving them warmed the hearts of the women devoted to him like the spring sun. A sudden alarm distorted his features, and the sharp turn of his head betrayed a new anxiety that darkened the joy of victory over his sworn enemy. The sight of the maids' unconscious bodies and the strange love pierced his heart like an icy dagger, their stillness foreshadowing new trials on the path to complete triumph. The bodyguard's words about the maid's self-sacrifice revealed the full depth of her devotion. Every moment of her desperate attempt to save her master was paid for by her own efforts. The shock in Lin Chu's voice revealed the depth of his admiration, and the comparison of his weakness to Cheng only emphasized the greatness of the fragile maid's deed. The realization of the maid's boundless devotion flooded his consciousness with a warm wave of gratitude, and every memory of her selflessness filled his heart with a special light. His decision to use the precious transformative power for healing sounded like a vow of loyalty, his willingness to share the energy proving the depth of his affection for his devoted servant. Ryoko's categorical statement about the insufficiency of offensive power for healing sounded like a challenge. Her hint at a better way concealed a more intimate solution to the problem. The bodyguard's meaningful look spoke louder than any words, her confidence in the correctness of the method leaving no room for doubt or alternatives. Chen Mo's confusion, standing behind her husband, revealed her inexperience in cultivation matters. Every word of her question was saturated with a sincere lack of understanding of what was happening. Lin Chu's delicate question about the appropriateness of the moment turned a simple situation into an ethical dilemma, the time and place requiring special care in choosing a solution. The silent march of the four towards the river resembled a strange procession. Lin Chu's careful hands carrying the maid revealed his deep concern for the injured woman. The bodyguard's confident words about the core's healing power sounded almost seductive, every syllable imbued with the promise of a quick cure. Chen Mo's insight into the true nature of the proposed cultivation made her cheeks flush, the very mention of practicing together turning the situation into something more intimate. Ryoko's casual clarification about the quintet added a new twist to their conversation, her mention of 5 members turning simple cultivation into something more complex. The genuine surprise in Lin Chu's voice about the 5th participant betrayed his confusion. Every word of his question was tinged with curiosity and slight anxiety. The bodyguard's playful head count sounded like a riddle, her hint about the missing member of the group creating an atmosphere of anticipation. A wry smile crossed Ryoko's lips as she declared herself 5th, her self-nomination turning the situation into something almost comical. The immersion into the water became a ritual of unity, Lin Chu's confident words of safety calming the worried hearts of his companions. Peace finally touched the exhausted mind of the young man. His closed eyes and relaxed posture betrayed his desire to recover from the grueling battle. Chen Mo's persistent questions about the nature of cultivation revealed her growing anxiety, every word demanding clarity on such a delicate matter. A gentle smile touched Lin Chu's lips as he explained the inevitability of the practice, his words of forced necessity laced with tender concern for all the participants. The distrust in Chen Mo's voice broke through into bitter reproach. Her words about emergency situations were saturated with doubt about the sincerity of her husband's explanations. A barrage of questions about the sudden increase in strength and secret practices rained down on Lin Chu, revealing the depth of her resentment at the knowledge of the existence of secrets. Her demand for the complete truth sounded like the pain of a devoted heart. The question of their true attitude towards marriage turned into a test of the strength of their feelings. Lin Chu's desperate attempt to explain the innocence of the practices sounded like a plea for trust, his every word imbued with a sincere desire to maintain peace in the family. Ryoko's intervention struck a saving note. Her explanation of martial artists helping each other offered a rational explanation for what was happening. The bodyguard's wise words about family intrigue as the reason for the silence added a new dimension to the situation aimed at protecting the gentleman's reputation. Lin Chu's curiosity about the origin of the bodyguard's knowledge was met with a casual confession about long conversations with the maid in the warehouse, an innocent revelation fraught with the danger of new suspicions. Ryoko's careless words were cut off mid-sentence under the gaze of her mistress, whose words about family repentance suddenly turned into a demand for an admission of her husband's personal guilt. The ancient wisdom of the master of love arts poured into Lin Chu's consciousness, filling every movement and word with a special charm capable of melting the ice of mistrust in the heart of his beloved. His solemn oath of allegiance was filled with sincerity, reinforced by a direct gaze. Every gesture, every intonation was honed by centuries of experience in conquering women's hearts.
Chen Mo's movement as she looked away was a mixture of embarrassment and a desire to believe, her quiet words of trust opening the way to restoring marital harmony.
The awakening of a strange love coincided with an intimate moment between the couple, and the headmistress's half-open eyes witnessed the birth of new hope in their relationship. The headmistress's mind was seething with determination. Watching the tenderness between the spouses, she hatched plans to separate them, driven by faith in the divine destiny of her chosen one. The father's amazement at his victory over the enemy at the divine path stage required explanation, his voice a mixture of pride and disbelief at the incredible achievement. The daughter's modesty was evident in her desire to share her husband's triumph, and her words about Lin Chu's decisive role were imbued with genuine admiration for his skill. The story of his wife's sneak attack intrigued the head of the family. The mention of the enemy's weak point turned a simple tale into a lesson in military cunning. Lin Chu's explanations of the connection between cultivation power and hidden vulnerabilities held a special meaning, each word extolling his wife's resourcefulness in saving him from certain death. The father's pride blossomed in full bloom, and the praise of his daughter, worthy of bearing the family name, sounded especially sweet against the backdrop of the family triumph. The reproach directed at Shen Che sounded a bitter note in the symphony of family celebration. The comparison with his sister's success only underscored the depth of his father's disappointment. The bitterness in the green-haired youth's thoughts betrayed a long-standing resentment. The injustice of his father's treatment repeatedly ignited a smoldering fire of indignation in his soul.
Chen Mo's grateful gaze was fixed on her husband, his masterful strengthening of her position in the family arousing ever deeper admiration and growing affection.
A secret smile crossed the face of the head of the family as he looked at the old assistant. The invitation to a meal after the battle seemed like a natural cover for launching a carefully thought-out plan. At a luxuriously laid table, the unwitting participants of a sophisticated performance gathered. Exquisite dishes became a weapon in the hands of a skillful manipulator playing his game. Lin Chu's refined sense of smell, honed by the lives of ancient masters, detected a disturbing note in the lobster's aroma. His experience from past incarnations unmistakably identified the presence of poison. Lin Chu's calm remained thanks to the antidote he had prepared in advance. The confidence in his protection from the usual drug allowed him to maintain the appearance of nonchalance during the meal. The absence of his wife at the festive table ignited an alarming spark of suspicion. His instincts screamed about the danger lurking behind the ostentatious hospitality of the head of the family. The father's words about the reincarnation of the starving ghost sounded like an ominous revelation. His satisfaction with the effect of the drug, increasing with each piece, betrayed the calculation of the plan. Lin Chu's consciousness began to cloud over despite the measures he had taken, the growing malaise indicating the presence of something stronger than usual, medicine or poison. The sudden fall face first into the plate marked the visible triumph of the insidious plan. The helpless body of the young cultivator became evidence of the effectiveness of the mysterious drug. The head of the family's feigned concern for his son-in-law's well-being masked his true intentions. The order to transfer the body opened a new act in his carefully orchestrated performance. The appearance of people in white protective suits brought a new note of alarm to the proceedings, their sudden intrusion generating a wave of questions from those present. The cold answer about belonging to the laboratory department sounded especially ominous. The faceless figures in sterile suits radiated a threatening professionalism. Behind the mask of feigned oblivion, Lin Chu closely followed the developments. The mention of the laboratory in his father-in-law's plans foreshadowed something more sinister than simple poisoning. The daughter's desperate cry to her father broke the oppressive atmosphere. His cold response about an important plan revealed the true depth of his parental betrayal. Chen Mo's rage materialized into pulsating blue energy. Her father's accusation of using her husband for his own gain, revealing the depth of her disappointment. The men in protective suits continued to transport the supposedly sleeping body, their mechanical movements giving no indication of their victim's true state. An attack of blue energy, directed by an angry wife, turned the orderly transfer into chaos, her decisive actions threatening to ruin the carefully constructed kidnapping plan. Tenderness and fury were intertwined in Chen Mo's voice, every word about her husband's belonging to her and not his role as an instrument in someone else's plans pulsated with the primal power of a protector. Determination flashed in her eyes like lightning, and her declaration of love for her husband sounded not just like a defense, but like a manifesto of feelings that destroyed any barriers of self-interest. Under the guise of feigned sleep, Lin Chu reflected on the metamorphosis of his wife. The former haughty heiress had turned into a loving woman, ready to fight for their shared happiness. The sudden appearance of people in blue uniforms and caps disrupted the standoff. Their rapid movement foreshadowed a new round of dramatic events. Unknown figures stood frozen in the doorway, their angry gazes fixed on Chen Mo, who had turned her fragile body into the last bastion of defense for her beloved. The father's cry about the obstacle to his plans collided with the unwavering determination of his daughter. Her words about her husband's inviolability sounded like a challenge to the whole world. Lin Chu's thoughts, under the mask of sleep, were racing about, searching for a way out. The impossibility of reusing the borrowing technique during the day significantly limited his options for salvation. The father's revelation about his plans to turn his son-in-law into a living cauldron for the sake of strengthening the family sounded like a death sentence. Every word about the laboratory carried the cold of calculated cruelty. The nervous tension in the daughter's voice betrayed growing horror. The comparison of life imprisonment with death revealed the true nature of the great family plan. The old assistant's words were filled with dark wisdom, and his thoughts on the era of awakening spiritual energy contained the seeds of ancient knowledge. A deep understanding of the differences between modern cultivators and ancient masters turned his speech into a lecture, highlighting the gap between the past and the present. The harsh truth about the limits of human capabilities sounded like a verdict. Even the greatest efforts could not overcome the barrier of the soul's birth stage without special conditions. The cynical mention of Lin Chu's body as the chance of a lifetime revealed the family's true motives. The desire to tap into the secrets of spiritual power turned family ties into a tool for achieving their goals. Chen Mo's desperate question about her husband's right to choose his own destiny was filled with pain. Turning her beloved into a living cauldron without his consent seemed the height of cruelty. The father's cold response about prioritizing family interests sounded like a death sentence. His determination to send his son-in-law to the laboratory, despite his daughter's resistance, left no room for compromise. The order to the elderly assistant was accompanied by hypocritical concern for his daughter. The order to act carefully only emphasized the cynicism of what was happening. The blue figures stood in a semicircle, intertwining their fingers in mystical gestures, their every movement honed by years of practice in the arcane arts. The combined spiritual power rushed towards Lin Chu's body like a deadly spear, the concentrated energy threatening to destroy everything in its path. Determination froze on Chen Mo's face like a mask. The maternal instinct to protect her beloved turned the fragile heiress into an indestructible shield. The air in the room thickened with the clash of opposing energies, red and blue flashes turning the space into an epic battlefield. The force of her blow threw the attackers back against the wall, the power of love turning the socialite beauty into an invincible warrior. Behind the old man's mask of calm lay a cold calculation. The understanding of the need to neutralize the girl pushed him to decisive action. The old man's cunning was revealed in a blow from behind, while Chen Mo was fighting with the assistants. His orange energy dealt a treacherous blow. Tears of pain rolled down the girl's cheeks. The treacherous blow in the back proved stronger than her determination to protect her beloved. Helplessness tormented Lin Chu's heart, his spent strength turning him into a powerless witness to his beloved's suffering. The bitterness of futility flooded his consciousness. The inability to help his wife at a critical moment seemed like the worst possible punishment. A sudden realization pierced Lin Chu's clouded mind, his narrowed pupils betraying the intensity of his thoughts. Chen Mo's resilience amazed him to the core. Even after suffering a crushing blow, she still found the strength to rise again. The slow words that fell from her lips held a growing storm within them, each pause only heightening the tension of the moment. Her cry of defense for her husband tore through the room, desperate determination turning every word into a battle cry. The old man's understanding of the girl's boundless devotion to her husband left no choice. The need to fight became inevitable. Chen Mo's embrace turned her body into a living shield. Every cell of her being was ready to take the blow intended for her husband. Lin Chu's thoughts were seething with rage at the realization of everyone's meanness. The betrayal of his family had revealed the true face of those who were considered close to him. The calm of the warehouse was shattered by a flash of scarlet light, a lightning force bursting into the room like an enraged dragon, turning the silence into chaos. The power of the attack was like a lightning strike. The opponents fell one after another without even having time to realize what was happening. The maid's confusion reached its peak when she noticed Master Wei's disappearance, every second of delay turning into an eternity of uncertainty. A commanding voice cut through the chaos of battle, pointing the way to salvation. Knowledge of secret exits became Ariadne's thread for the lost. Juicy gossip about the fight in the restaurant flew through the corridors like autumn leaves caught in the wind of curiosity. Alarm pierced the pink-haired maid's heart when the names of her mistress and Lin Chu were mentioned in the maid's conversation. Whispers of family discord between father and daughter turned into poisonous seeds of fear in the soul of the devoted servant. The determination to protect her mistress flared up in the maid's heart like a flame. Every second of delay could cost her life. Haste drove her to the secret warehouse where the tools of salvation were kept. Time slipped away like sand through her fingers. The treasured briefcase on the shelf turned into an ark of hope. Every touch brought the moment of transformation closer. Master Wei's disguise attributes lay like the pieces of a complex puzzle, waiting to be reunited. The memory of Lin Chu's words sounded like a prophecy. Master Wei's mask was meant to be a shield in times of danger. The disturbing premonitions of the past have acquired new meaning in the present, and mysterious warnings have turned into a guide to action. The disguise lessons that seemed like a game became the key to salvation. The fear of Master Wei was to become their weapon. Master Wei's appearance on the battlefield changed the balance of power, and every movement of the masked maid exuded strength and confidence. The shock of the opponents at the sight of the legendary figure was replaced by a greedy gleam in their eyes. The price on his head turned them into hunters. Greed clouded the minds of the priests when they decided to attack the one whose name inspired terror even in the strongest. A pink glow of spiritual power enveloped the figure of the false Master Wei like a divine cloak. The impact with the ground turned into a wave of force, throwing the enemies into the air like autumn leaves. Astonishment distorted the old man's face as he determined the strength of his opponent at the peak of core formation, recognizing him as an equal cultivator. Ancient energy flowed around his body as he spoke mockingly of the inevitable death of one who had not reached the stage of soul birth.